You know what to do.
Button.
Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side podcast. My name is Joel Moran and I'm here with Andrew Velez and Joel Dehls. And this is now episode 149. In this episode, we are going to talk about Mahomes versus Allen duel, if the NFL should change its overtime rules, Sean Payton retiring, Bears hiring Ryan Poles as their new general manager, recap the divisional round, and preview the conference championship games. We'll also be joined by Mike Santagata from All Bengals to discuss their amazing run and more. A quick Patreon shout out to SA Crimes, Kevin, Woody Buckets, Tizzy, Corey, Max, Freddie, Dylan, Playboy, Orlando, Chris, Charles, Michael, Greg, Cole, On Bloods, Liam, T Grove, B Money, Ryan, Epic Lankiness, Travis Ball, Aaron Moran, Matthew Jimenez, It's Black Ace, Anthony, BJ, PJs, Langston, Jazzy Juice, Johannes, Ruben, Brian, Ricky, E, Enzo, Sean, Muffins, John, Sean Triplet, Court Cousins, Ben Mack, P. Dot, George, Hikari, Mateen, Dave Two Freedom, and Jay Aqua.
Good old Jay Aqua, baby.
Aqua.
Let's get into it.
So this is going to be a loaded show. Just for you guys to know that we're being serious, we are actually live. Like, we are actually live. Because I know for a while, months ago, we used to drop the episodes as if we were live, but we weren't live. But we are actually live, and
100%.
it feels great. Now, you know, we have to really watch our language because we have some really snotty mouths.
I'll tell you what, going live is very interesting because we get to interact with the fans. It's
always a good time.
Of course.
It's my first time on the show while we're live.
It's very raw.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
How do you feel? Are you nervous?
I feel great, man. I feel phenomenal.
Got to stay composed.
I'm actually happy. I was a little surprised you guys wanted to go live since I'm the only one. Went a respectable 2-2 this weekend. You guys went 1-3. I was surprised when you guys showed up. I thought maybe, Joel gets sick. Andrew got his booster. Something not feeling right. But, I'm
He actually
glad.
did say that. He did say he got his booster.
I'm glad you all came, and we're live today. So
He only came
great
today
time.
because the Rams won.
Listen, I could have went 1-3.
What you did.
Which is what I did.
As long as the Rams,
So
man.
long as the Rams came away with the W, I could show my face
Just
with
barely,
a
but
smile
we got
on my
it done,
face.
man.
I already said, even though I was wrong, I was 1-3 on my picks. The only pick I picked was the Bengals, and I noticed something about that. Picking playoff games is about your gut feeling. It's what you feel in your heart. And when I picked the Bengals, it was what I felt in my heart. When I looked at the Niners and Packers game, my heart told me the Niners, but I picked the Packers because I trusted just Aaron Rodgers, to be honest. And then with the Bills and the Chiefs, I picked my heart with the Bills. They should have won. 13 seconds left. Come on. Like, what else can Josh Allen do? So in reality, I think I was 3-1. Yeah. I know the Rams and Bucks. The Rams and Bucks. Okay, I was wrong on that completely.
Dead wrong.
But I was in my heart, I was 3-1. I think.
In your heart and yours only, which I respect and I appreciate.
I said the score was going to be 41-38. It was 42-36.
Nice, bro.
Did you predict the score that close?
I got the right team that won, so I don't really care.
What was your score, though?
I have to go back and check. I had it high scoring.
I had it 31-28.
Okay, so, yeah. Okay. You were off. You were off.
Where is it? I have the Chiefs winning 31-27, so I was off.
Oh, yeah, you were definitely off. Yeah, you were really off.
I had Chiefs winning.
41-38.
Chiefs winning. Did you have the Chiefs winning part or not?
No.
Oh, word.
I had the Bills winning, and we're going to talk about the NFL overtime rules because it probably helped your prediction.
I also realized, crazily, your AFC prediction to go to the Super Bowl also is not going to the Super Bowl. So both your NFC and AFC teams are done. Kaput.
Before the conference ship?
Well, at least mine made the playoffs.
Listen,
your
mine
pick
was a
didn't make
6
the
seed.
playoffs.
Mine was a 6 seed, and my team that I've stuck with since week 1 is now headed to the NFC Championship and soon to host a Super Bowl
That'd be dope.
at home.
I wonder, is
Come
the
on
NFL,
now.
because I don't know
We
if you
actually
saw,
have Ramley t-shirts out now.
Yeah, the Rams are like limiting tickets for the 49ers
Genius.
fans who could get it.
Genius.
Yes, but can they do that for the Super Bowl?
Probably
they
not.
can't.
I don't think
Probably
they
not.
could, right?
Probably not.
Yeah,
No.
that wouldn't be fair.
That's bullshit, though. Let the people buy the tickets.
Nah, genius. Because
I
last
don't
time
hate
they
it.
played at SoFi, There were so many Niners fans that apparently it messed with the.
Well, at least the Rams fans should get first priority, and then like maybe a day before, like you could open it up to the public.
They basically said if you don't live in LA,
you're beat.
We're canceling the ticket.
I love that for them, though.
Yo, that was hilarious.
Because Rams fans should get first priority.
You know what's the worst feeling in the world? Throwing interceptions in Madden.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There's nothing that
nothing
wants me.
worse.
There's nothing that wants to make. There's nothing that makes me want to slam my head at the wall more than that.
No, when
I
it
threw
says
3 picks today.
when it says under pressure, inaccurate, I lose my mind every single time.
Nah, it's bad.
Bro,
Because why not just take the sack? Why are you making me do all this extracurricular
Well,
stuff?
you click the button.
Yeah, I get it. But then sometimes you hit the button and it throws it into the dirt and it's an incomplete pass, not intentional grounding.
I'm in a Madden league
Game
right now.
stinks.
I'm in a Madden league right now. I'm 7-5.
Nice.
I needed this win to stay in the playoff hunt. I'm still in the playoff hunt, but now I really got to win out. Oh my gosh, I'm the Jets.
I was gonna ask, yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Fantasy
bro.
draft or like
No, not fantasy
build your
draft. Real
franchise?
teams, yeah.
Tough.
So my team is garbage, but I'm still nice because I'm really good. But okay, so there was a drag that was happening, bro. I could either press L1 or O. O was wide open. I don't know why, but my reflex pressed L1. I threw a freaking pick, bro.
I think R1 you mean because L1
Oh yeah,
high
R1.
pass,
You're right.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Then I threw another pick, and I'm like, yo, why?
Yo, there's
Oh, my
actually a solution
God.
for that.
What?
You actually get good.
Oof.
Oh,
That was so rude.
that's spicy talk coming from somebody that probably can't beat me.
Yo, chill. I'm nice at Madden. I'm pretty good.
How often do you play?
Every now and then, honestly. Was playing last night against my boy G. Unfortunately,
He's trash.
he let me
He's
play with the
terrible.
Dolphins and he let me throw for 300 yards with Tua. That's about to be next season.
Drew sent that to our chat, and I said, that's how you know it's Madden.
That is so mean. That's
Oh
so
my gosh.
mean-spirited.
It is.
So this past weekend, we probably saw one of the best NFL games ever. I think, in my opinion, the best quarterback duel in NFL history between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Now, who do you think played better in this game, Josh Allen or Mahomes? We know the Chiefs won. We know Mahomes won. But who played the better game? Both were near perfect, flawless. This is a tough question. I'll start with you because you picked the Chiefs. I feel like I know which way you're leaning with your
you think
answer.
so?
Yeah. So I want you to go first.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it came down to for me. There was 2 things. 1, the Chiefs were home. 2, Patrick Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the NFL.
Unbelievable.
Before we even get into this game, right, I don't think it's crazy to say that these are the 2 most talented quarterbacks the NFL has ever seen. You know, Ever.
Rodgers surpassed.
Surpassed. It come to pure talent. Of course, they're going to have years and years to go to get the
Are you pretending
accolades.
Deshaun doesn't exist also?
They're better. I mean,
disagree.
I looked at this
disagree
game
with
last night. I saw the ability for them to move around the pocket, evade tacklers, scramble. Either Josh Allen a lot more on design runs, Mahomes a bit more off script. Their arm strength.
You disagree with who?
I'm saying Deshaun Watson, in my opinion, is the most talented quarterback in the league.
You think he's better? You think than Mahomes, more talented than Mahomes?
Yeah, I think so.
He won 4 games last year.
I get it. The team was terrible.
Come on, bro. Let's not do this.
I love Deshaun, man. He's not. These 2 on in a tier of their own.
Winning is
Because
not a quarterback set.
Deshaun by himself beat the Bills in the playoffs, did he not? The Bills were up 16-3.
Josh Allen's what, 2nd year in the league?
And Deshaun was what, 3 years?
3 year, yeah. Okay. Still another year. Yeah.
And
Hop.
Deshaun absolutely for sure.
Yeah.
And D-Hop leaves and the team's in shambles.
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks is a pretty good.
Cooks
receiver.
is-
They didn't.
Cooks
They
is
got him
solid.
after.
No, they had him with Deshaun.
Did they?
Yeah.
They
he
had
played
Hop
last
and
year.
Deshaun?
No. He was Brandon Cooks.
Oh,
was
the
with
4-win
Hopkins.
season, you're saying.
He
Yeah.
was with Deshaun.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, there was the year after.
He got 1,000 yards with him.
Tough.
Yeah. But getting back into it, right? I really think these 2 quarterbacks are the best we've ever seen in NFL history. I think Patrick Mahomes has probably the best pocket presence in the NFL. I mean, we saw it on the first drive. His ability to just be in the pocket, be able to evade defenders, no matter coming from left, right, or interior. He's still the entire time looking down the field. And, you know, the first play that comes to mind was the 2nd or 3rd play where he evades 3 tackles. He goes out, he scrambles to the left and does this kind of like pitch to Jerick McKinnon. And they end up going from a 3rd and 5. And now you get a first down and the drive keeps on going. That's just something that when I talk about mobility a lot of the time, like we had this debate a few weeks ago about Mac Jones. And I said, I need my quarterback to be a little bit mobile. Mac Jones can't do that. You know, he could move a little bit in the pocket, but what Mahomes was doing, even though he's not the fastest guy, like Mahomes took off and had a 45-yard run, right? And we don't think of Mahomes as in this upper echelon of running quarterbacks, or like a Jalen Hurts, Kyler, Lamar. But if you just have that ability to be able to make guys miss in a phone booth, we talk about that a lot with running backs. Like when you're in a tight hole, especially up the middle, you could make a guy miss and get to that second level. If you could do that in the backfield as a quarterback, and instead of taking a 5-yard sack, now you get a 5-yard gain and you have a first down, that just sets up drives. It gets first downs, and eventually you get points on the board like we saw basically the entire game last night. And the reason why I'm really picking Patrick Mahomes as the better quarterback, he won the game, number one. But number two, he's going up against the best defense in the NFL. The number one scoring defense, the number one passing defense. We saw the Bills going into this game, who beat the Chiefs earlier in the regular season. A lot of people, you two included, picked the Bills to beat them again. It's very difficult to beat a team twice. Patrick Mahomes, let you guys know, he's still the best quarterback in the NFL. Bills, I don't know what else you guys have to do. You had the number one defense. You still weren't able to stop him. He had 13 seconds. He went right down the field in 2 plays. There's zero room for error. He makes 2, even though it was off coverage, 2 perfect throws, executed perfectly. That's why they've been to the Super Bowl. That's why they're Super Bowl champions, and that's why they're going to go back to the Super Bowl this year.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that this happened the way that it did, because we were 13 seconds away from being on the right side of history, my friend.
Mahomes had the better game in your opinion.
Yep.
Okay.
Mahomes did have the better game. In terms of who had bigger plays, Josh Allen had more bigger plays. That being said, when Mahomes' number was called, he still stepped up to the plate.
Yeah.
It was 26-21, and Josh Allen had to really start driving on this Chiefs defense, because I wouldn't say the whole game, because clearly the Bills were able to still move the ball, but it got to a point where it got a little stagnant in that fourth quarter. Then we started to see the madness of points start to flood in, where in the last 2 minutes, 25 points were scored. And ultimately, it just came down to who had the ball last. 13 seconds Mahomes had to go down the field and put his team in field goal position to go into overtime. 3 timeouts. Let's not forget the 3 timeouts. 3 timeouts is huge.
That's also on the coaching staff for saving those timeouts.
I'm with you, man. Listen,
the Cowboys didn't have any.
I'm with
13
you.
seconds, though.
But that's insane.
No, it is.
That's insane. So 2 plays, 13 seconds to one. What bogs my mind about those 2 plays specifically is you're giving up so much space. You said it on Twitter. You're playing prevent. Prevent prevents winning, and that's the truth. Because you're giving up so much space, especially when they don't need a touchdown. They need to be in field goal range, and you're giving them yards and yards of space to make something happen.
And before that, if you just squib kick it and you don't kick it into the end zone, that's taking 3, 4, 5 seconds off the clock. Now you have 8 seconds. You don't have time for 2 plays.
That's a fact.
If they would have squib kicked it, they probably wouldn't have a chance to get 2 plays off.
So I say Mahomes had the better game because both of these guys had 10 out of 10 performances. And again, like I said, Josh Allen on 4th down multiple times, making it happen with his legs. That 2-point conversion, making it happen. He looked like Patrick Mahomes. Do you remember his rookie year against the Niners where Mahomes is running around, fakes it, comes back the other way, and throws that touchdown in the corner of the end zone? Josh Allen basically did that on the other side of the field, and that throw to Stephon Diggs, I'm giving a lot of credit to Stephon Diggs there. The fact that he was able to contort his body backwards and still make that play and get his feet in bounds was amazing. But Josh Allen was unbelievable when his number was called and when he needed to be the best player on the field for his team. But Mahomes matched him. And then in overtime, he didn't even give Josh a chance to step on the field. Because Mahomes knew if he comes back on this field, the game's over. We're not going to get a chance, because right now, both defenses are not playing good football. But Mahomes took advantage of that. And as much as it pains me, as much as I don't want to see him in the AFC Championship again for the 3rd, 4th straight year, you got to give credit where credit is due.
You posed the question, what else do the Bills have to do to get over the hump? They just needed the ball last. That's all they needed. They just needed the coin toss to go their way. There isn't anything stopping the Bills from making the Super Bowl outside of having the last possession. They are just as good as the Chiefs. They just happen to lose the game. And we'll talk about the NFL overtime rules a bit later on the show, the very next segment on the show. Just because Patrick Mahomes won doesn't mean he had the better game. And he didn't have the better game. Just from what I saw with my eyes, when Josh Allen and Mahomes were out there, I was like, man, Mahomes, the degree of difficulty on the throws that he's making, that he's asked to make, I thought that he had the far better game. You look at that touchdown bomb to Gabe Davis. Mahomes didn't have a throw like that all night.
No.
You talk about the 4th and 13 run, I think it was.
It's something stupid.
That Josh Allen, nobody open and still managing to get a first down off of that. I mean, come on. It's just surreal what he had to do. No, it wasn't a touchdown. It was just a first down.
Okay.
Even though you say the Bills, they have the number 1 pass defense, this was their schedule this season. Name me the teams on this schedule that have a great passing offense. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Miami Dolphins, the Washington Football Team, the Houston Texans, the Chiefs, which they threw for 272 yards on them that game, the Tennessee Titans, the Miami Dolphins, the Jaguars, the Jets, the Colts, the Saints, the Patriots, the Bucks, the Panthers, the Patriots, the Falcons, the Jets. The 2 teams that are great passing offenses on this schedule were the Chiefs and the Bucks. The Chiefs had 272 passing yards and the Bucks had 351. And then in the playoffs, they faced a great passing offense again in the Chiefs and gave up 370. So even though they're ranked as a number 1 pass defense, that is a little bit skewed and it's a bit flawed. Outside, Trey White was out. Like outside of Trey White, you can't name a corner that could start on
They have 2 great
so
safeties.
Okay, but your corners are the ones guarding the receivers.
Okay, so do you think that's what they need? Because you said all they need is the ball last, but now you're saying their corners aren't good. They don't really have a great passing defense.
We're not talking about what the Bills need to get over the hump. We're talking about how the Mahomes threw on the best pass defense in football, how that's flawed logic. Because, ranking-wise, that's what they are. But when you watch them against great passing offenses, which they only faced 2 great passing offenses all season, they weren't very good.
Okay, I mean, that doesn't do much for me. Even if you want to call them an average passing defense, he still had more yards, same amount of total touchdowns, higher completion percentage, more first downs.
I get it. I get all that. You look at the numbers, Josh Allen, you're right. They had very similar games.
They did.
Mahomes had more yards because he got the ball in overtime last. That's what it really was. Had Josh Allen got the ball in overtime, we're talking about Allen having more yards than Mahomes on the game. Mahomes had more attempts than Josh Allen. That's why he had more yards. He had about 12 more attempts than Josh Allen. I just look at what Josh Allen had to do in that game, the difficulty of throws he had to make, the runs he had to make. I mean, calling his own number on 3rd and 5 and just getting the first down.
For sure.
Mahomes also led his team in rushing.
I felt like
Mahomes did his thing
he
too.
did. But most of that was the 40-yard rush that he had early in the game.
Yeah, but he had a lot of key runs too to keep drives alive.
But that touchdown late in the game in the 4th quarter with under 2 minutes left to Tyreek Hill, that was a 10-yard pass that Tyreek Hill did most of the work on.
But that was also a dot. Like he literally.
I mean, of course, it's a dot.
He hit him off his break perfectly in stride.
Yeah, it's a dot. Yeah, it's a dot.
His first touchdown was nuts too.
Yeah, I'm not saying Mahomes didn't play great. He had a great game, but there was nobody on the Bills making plays like the guys on the Chiefs.
Gabriel Davis didn't.
Gabe Davis had 200 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Well, of course, but that's because they were doubling Stephon Diggs. They were giving Gabe Davis those one-on-one matchups. He was winning. Granted,
the auxiliary pieces for the Chiefs did their thing. McKinnon looked good. Clyde had his best game of the year. Pringle had a touchdown. Hardman had a touchdown. It wasn't like it's just Tyreek and Kelsey. Everyone played well.
Wait. So you're just you're just proving my point more. I felt like the Chiefs playmakers did a better job than the Bills playmakers. Josh Allen.
Gabe Davis had the best game in postseason history.
Bro, he had 204
touchdowns. That's Madden.
I know. Gabe Davis had an amazing game. I've been high on him for a very long time. We're just talking about the numbers, right? But from what you saw, who had the better game, Tyreek Hill or Gabe Davis?
Gabe Davis.
Gabe Davis.
You think so?
Yes.
Bro, he had 204
Tyreek
touchdowns.
Hill was game changing.
Gabe Davis was.
He had 200
without
yards
Gabe
and
Davis,
4
this game isn't
touchdowns.
close.
It's not.
Gabe Davis played a phenomenal game. I'm not telling he didn't. But you're telling me one guy on the Bills, one playmaker on the Bills had a phenomenal game. Granted, he had a great game.
And it wasn't Stephon Diggs, which is what's surprising about it.
No, it's not surprising because they were bracketing Stephon Diggs and they were doubling him.
But you're saying that they don't have these role players, but...
No, I never said they don't have the role players, but Gabe Davis is the only player on the Bills who played great. The only receiver. They were bracketing Stephon Diggs. They basically took him out the game. They were doubling him.
Cole Beasley had some good grabs.
He did.
That's why
Beasley had a
that's
couple
why
really
Gabe
nice
Davis
grabs.
went off because he had these one-on-one matchups. He played great. There's no doubt about it. But there was a reason why he got these looks. It's because the attention was paid to Stephon Diggs. Yards-wise, you won't see Stephon had that great of an impact, but the defensive attention was on Stephon Diggs. I'm just saying I think the Chiefs playmakers made more plays for Mahomes. The touchdown dot to Gabe Davis, I mean, like a 50-yard air yard pass. Yeah, he gets by the defense. I mean, Josh Allen makes a generational throw. He just zips it. Point. I just feel like Mahomes didn't make those type of plays. That's why I think Josh Allen played better. But that being said, both of them had phenomenal games. It was A+. It was like Josh Allen, to me, had a perfect game. Mahomes had a perfect game. So you're basically talking about who had the more perfect game. To me, I just think Josh Allen did.
But why not take the guy who you're saying both had perfect games, but one came out with the W? Again, this is what. And also, you're saying he didn't have generational throws.
Quarterback stats. Here it comes.
The fact that
I never said he didn't have generational throws. I said I think Allen made more big time throws than Mahomes.
So again, 13 seconds. The throw to Hill was easy. That play on the line to Travis Kelce to identify that the defense is playing outside, to tell Kelce on the fly, who already they had been in conversation, I'm going to the open space, him to tell him in that moment to do it and to execute it as clean and efficiently as they did.
Like it was nothing, like it was practice.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
And but then that touchdown to Kelce, you're overlooking too, because that ball was perfect.
Yeah,
I know that Mahomes made great throws. I've already said that both of them had perfect games.
He walked off.
I just thought Josh Allen made the more difficult throws. Let me just ask you. Okay,
let me hear what difficult throws.
Let me just ask you. Had the Bills won, who would have the better game in your opinion?
The guy who won. They both had perfect games.
So you think the only reason why Mahomes had the better game is because he won?
We both said they played
13,
perfect.
And also in 13
seconds.
But
the 13 seconds.
The 13 seconds is what makes it like this is why Mahomes had the better game.
Insanity.
He had 13 seconds to get down in field goal.
Okay, but had Josh Allen had the ball in overtime and won the game, you would have picked the guy who won.
Does Josh Allen have that 13-second drive too?
He could have. Why couldn't Josh Allen have it?
Maybe he could have. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. Well, it didn't happen though. Like you're bringing up a hypothetical that didn't happen.
No, I'm not bringing up a hypothetical. It's just what you said is that ultimately Mahomes had the better game because he won.
Because he's the reason they won.
And the 13-second drive and the overtime drive was flawless.
That's why I'm asking you. Because to me, I don't judge quarterbacks based on if they won the game.
I agree.
Or not.
No,
so you think Jimmy G had a better game than Aaron Rodgers because he won?
We already said they both played perfectly. So you are splitting hairs at this point, and the hairs go to Patrick Mahomes' side because he won and he led a 13-second drive to set up a field goal to take you into overtime. That's the smallest thing that splits the hairs.
I came away saying the same thing I've been saying for the past couple of weeks. Between Josh Allen and Mahomes, when we talk about who's the best quarterback in the NFL, it's either or.
It's 1A, 1B. I 100% agree.
It's either or. I came away with that same opinion. I didn't come away saying, wow, no, Mahomes is the clear-cut best. I didn't come away with that. And you let's talk about Josh Allen. For one, I just want to give some respect to Mahomes for a bit. The Chiefs' offensive line allowed pressure on 40% of pass play, so he was dealing with a lot of pressure. I'm not trying to discredit Mahomes in any way. Josh Allen had 10 designed runs in this game, the most of his career, and generated 5.6 expected points on those runs. Like, he was phenomenal running the ball, and we look at just PFF. You know, PFF is one of the more reputable football sources. He had a 95.8 PFF grade, the highest by any offensive player ever in these playoffs. 771 total yards, 77% completion percentage, 9 touchdowns to 12 incompletions. He has the highest passer rating for this run in postseason history at 149. The other two behind him are Joe Montana and Bart Starr. They both won Super Bowls when they did it. Gabriel Davis, the guy you talked about, had the great game. Yeah, he did have a great.
You say it like he didn't have like this all world.
I just said he had a great game.
You say am I the only one?
No, I'm just emphasizing.
Okay, I'm just saying, bro. 204 touchdowns.
What did he say after the game? He said he's the best quarterback in the NFL, and I stand by that.
What is he going to say? Gabe Davis?
Yeah, what's he going to say? Oh, yeah, Mahomes is the better quarterback? Josh is this guy.
I would expect him to be honest. I think he was pretty honest here. Josh Allen has a 14-1 touchdown ratio in the playoffs. That's the best by a quarterback ever. The person behind him, number 2, is Mahomes. Guess what it is? 5 touchdowns to 1. Josh Allen.
Wait, what is this? 14-1-5? Is that this year?
No, in this playoffs in general.
Oh.
Josh Allen's touchdown to interception ratio is 14-1. Mahomes is 5-1, and Mahomes is second. That's how much in the lead Josh Allen is. And
Mahomes only had 1 touchdown against Pittsburgh?
No, he had 3.
No, it's not that. It means like for every 5 touchdowns he throws an interception. That's what it means.
Got you.
But Josh Allen, I don't think he's thrown an interception in the playoffs. I think he's really been flawless.
No,
he hasn't thrown one.
They're 1A and 1B.
14. His ratio is 14-0. Like he's number 1 in that category. To me, Josh Allen had the better game. I don't care that the Chiefs and Mahomes won. There has to be something done about these overtime rules. I think Josh Allen is flat out phenomenal. I don't care about the accolades when we're measuring who's better than who. And those always come up because when you talk about Josh Allen and Mahomes, this is the thing that always happens. Oh, but Mahomes is an MVP. He has a Super Bowl. He's been to the conference championship 4 times. Yeah, that's great. Mahomes has had a great team. Mahomes has been great himself. But measuring quarterbacks by their accolades, and especially something that's driven by wins, I just don't think measures quarterbacks accurately. I just don't.
We had this debate when we talked about Mahomes and Brady. It's not the only thing, but when you're splitting hairs between 2 of the best, when you want to do, Mahomes or Brady or Mahomes and Allen, the 2 best quarterbacks right now are Mahomes and Allen. If you want to split hairs, I have no problem going to the accolades, your playoff success. Have you won a Super Bowl? Have you been to Super Bowls? Because let's not pretend like the Bills haven't had great rosters these last 2 years with great coaching staffs.
They've had great rosters, haven't been better than the Chiefs.
They've had
the Chiefs had a better roster.
I agree with that statement wholeheartedly. Devin Singletary, who I thought was going to be big time in this game, they basically eliminated him as
he looked good in his touches.
He did, but even still, he averaged less than 3 yards a carry. Their secondary without Trey White hurt them for sure. But
he's
even
out for
still,
dumb long.
I agree with this. I understand what you're saying. That being said, what he said is not a falsehood by any means. The 2 good pass offenses that they played, they let up yards, and ultimately, and this team. This roster is amazing. Yes, I think it is amazing. But you still put it up against the Chiefs, who, one, did not have Tyrann Mathieu, who was out for the game, early. In fact,
that played a big role.
I still look at the Chiefs and say the Bills don't have that number 2 option that is really as reliable as Travis Kelce.
Of course not.
No, like that's glaringly obvious.
Well, no one has number 2 like Kelce.
They don't have the speed in their 3 or 4 option like a McCole Hardman. The fact that you have Mahomes in there allows people like Jerick McKinnon to have any type of success in the pass game. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who has been relatively silent this whole year, when you needed him most, he looked very solid. I think he had 7 rushes for almost 68 yards, something along those lines. The Bills are going to be a great team for a long time.
For sure.
I just think they need to tweak what they have on defense in terms of you need another elite corner because they don't have the speed to keep up with the Chiefs. The reason why the Chiefs are this all-world offense is not just because they have the names, but because they have speed. They kill you with speed, and no team outside of the Buccaneers, given a stimulus package without both their left and right tackle, were able to stop them.
But we also talk about how the Chiefs should always look for another weapon. We talk about how Hardman and Pringle and these guys are just guys and they're not that good.
I don't think so. I've been consistent with this. I say you have Kelce, you have Hill. You don't need another option.
We've talked. You just mentioned how the Chiefs are a better team than the Bills, this and that. I actually don't really agree with that. I think this season it is close. Their rosters are very similar, and he put them in position to win with 13 seconds left. You can't do anything other than rely on your number 1 ranked defense to get a stop for 13 seconds. That's it. Josh Allen did what he was supposed to do. He had a perfect game. But when we talk about the last couple of seasons, the Chiefs have had the better roster. And Josh Allen, last year was the first year of him emerging.
Yeah.
This year was the year that now he's like, to everybody's opened their eyes and said, okay, he's really that good.
For sure.
Because coming into the season, not that I had any doubts, but I know people had doubts on Josh Allen. I don't know if that was you or not.
I definitely wasn't as high as I am on him now.
I had doubts just because
I know people thought that way too. And now this season he's proved himself, but that's the same thing we talked about with Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson.
But didn't you say not too long ago that
that was 2 years ago?
David
bro.
Bakhtiari has a better chance. I'm just saying, not everyone was high on Josh Allen.
David has a better chance of
winning MVP than
that was
Josh
2
Allen.
years ago.
That's so.
I'm just saying. Listen, but it took time for Josh Allen to become who he is. 100%. What you're saying is facts. Josh Allen has asserted himself as an elite, number 2 best quarterback in the league.
This is what I wanted to say. When we talk about what the Bills need to do, they're already a Super Bowl team. Mm-hmm. They just need luck, a little bit of luck to be on their side. That's it. And when talking about that, it's the coin toss. Josh Allen was 9-0 on coin tosses this year, 0-2 versus the Chiefs. I mean, sometimes luck just isn't on your side. He picked tails. Tails never fails. It didn't look like it failed for him.
Shook, bro. It's gonna be
I know, man. What we playing on the PlayStation? Shout out Randy. What is his stat in Are
you trying to down me?
Yeah, sure. I'll take that. What's his stat in coin tosses? Didn't you say he's like 9-0 before?
Yeah, he's 9-0.
Sorry, bro.
Exactly. So I think the Bills are right there, but this is the first season that Josh Allen has proved to everybody that he's actually this good. But what I was gonna say is that when we had the Lamar Jackson versus Joe Burrow debate a couple weeks back, I told you Joe Burrow is better. And you guys told me you had to see it in the playoffs. I didn't have to see Joe Burrow win 2 playoff games and make the AFC Championship to put Joe Burrow over Lamar. I already thought he was better than Lamar. But because you like to overemphasize winning, you needed to see that. And now Joe Burrow's in the AFC Championship. And
it beat 2 average teams.
And I think now we can. Lamar lost as a favorite, 14-2 in his first playoff. So Joe Burrow already has more playoff wins than Lamar Jackson.
The Titans weren't average when they beat the Ravens, though. They weren't average.
That's when they were.
They were legit, and they had a solid O line.
Yeah.
Okay.
And don't forget, the Bills might be out 2 coordinators. Their OC and their DC both getting a lot of looks for head coaching jobs, so they could both be gone going into next season.
Before we move on to our next topic, I just want to say this. Despite me saying that I think Josh Allen and Mahomes are neck and neck, it's 1A or 1B kind of thing, I feel like people think I'm discrediting Mahomes. They think I don't own a Patrick Mahomes t-shirt. I own a Mahomes t-shirt. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. 2 years ago, I literally tweeted, "This is the best quarterback I've ever seen. I don't care about the accolades. He's the best I've ever seen." It's just that's how good Josh Allen has been. It's not a disservice to Mahomes. It's a credit to Josh Allen. Mahomes in his first 4 years as a full-time starter has made the AFC Championship. All 4 years. He already has won an MVP, arguably had the best statistical season for a quarterback in NFL history, is a Super Bowl champion, and after he signed that mega deal with KC, you had a lot of people saying they were done, but Brett Veach, that front office, has done an amazing job drafting. They drafted 3 offensive linemen in the draft, and Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Lucas Niang last year, who have all been studs. They traded for Orlando Brown, and they've done a great job finding good, talented players with value, like Mike Hughes, who was a former first-round pick from Minnesota, DeAndre Baker, who was cut by the Giants because he was arrested, and then they got him. So they've brought in a lot of talented guys, and despite Mahomes having this mega contract, they're still a team that's going to be able to compete for years to come because the front office has just been so damn great.
No doubt.
So Mahomes, he's doing his part. The front office is doing their part. And in a down year, Mahomes had 37 touchdowns to 13 picks, 4,800 yards.
He's great.
The only reason we're talking about Allen and Mahomes, at least me, being like neck and neck, and I think Mahomes is like maybe a little bit better, but like I said, it's a 1A, 1B situation, is because Mahomes didn't have 45 touchdowns this year. I mean, in his second season in the NFL, he just set a standard that is hard for him to continually do. Like 50 touchdowns in your first year.
And only 2 people in NFL history have done it.
50 touchdowns in your first year as a full-time starter.
We're talking about the greatest ever and a top 3 best quarterback ever.
Once Mahomes did that, he set a standard. And whenever that standard is not met, people think that he's not who he once was. But we're seeing now, we had this topic in the season a lot of times. Are the Chiefs done? Is Mahomes not the guy no more? Oh, is he having a slump? And now we see he's 1 game away from the Super Bowl again.
Never in doubt. Because they were sloppy earlier in the year. They were sloppy for sure.
He was sloppy.
Yeah, 100%.
But that when we had conversations of, is Herbert going to, well, Herbert to a degree in the regular season outplayed Mahomes. But it's a longevity thing. Yeah. The Chiefs realized we play for Super Bowls. We don't play for the regular season, which It's true, and it's unfortunate because I'm in hell. I'm going to be in hell for the next 50.
Fortunate for you because the Broncos then would have a chance in the regular season.
Listen, when we get Rodgers, it's a wrap.
You better pray.
When we get Rodgers,
stays, bro.
God, I'd be so mad. Need him gone. I need him gone. Ultimately, Mahomes is the dude. And he will be the guy for years to come until there's a team that comes and says, we're simply just better than you. And as of right now, I don't see it happening, at least in the AFC. I think the Bills are close. I think they're a few pieces away. We saw it this past Sunday night that they can at least compete with Kansas City. But ultimately, if this guy gets the ball last, it's going to be scary hours.
Hell, bro.
The Chiefs, terrible. The Chiefs and Bills had a controversial ending because the Chiefs won the coin toss. They elected to receive. They scored a touchdown, and the Bills didn't get another shot at the field. The same type of controversy arose back in 2019 when the Patriots beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship because the Chiefs didn't get the ball last. And in that game, Mahomes in the second half was absolutely phenomenal. He was lights out. Do you think the NFL should change its overtime rules?
So I'll go first because me and Joel actually were having this conversation before the show, and I had this idea that I'm sure a bunch of people have as well. I think for the playoffs, you play this overtime quarter, and that's it. You play the entirety of the overtime. Now, the year that my Broncos lost to the Ravens in overtime, that game actually went to a double OT. So it shows that, one, it can happen that the whole overtime can run out and they don't score, and they could resolve that in the second overtime. Now, for me, how I would have it is you let them duke it out in this one last quarter. I understand that it's a dogfight, and it would be putting a lot of players in more harm if they do end up going with this alternative. However, I think this would be the most fair alternative. You let both teams play out the quarter, and if one offense who gets the ball first ends up holding it the entire 10 or 15 minutes, however long they want to decide to make the overtime, because I believe right now it's 10 minutes, correct? Yes. If one offense holds the ball the entire overtime period, that's credit to the offense and shame on the defense. If you can't get the ball in that amount of time, you deserve to lose. So in my opinion, I think you should play out the entire overtime, see what happens. We see how much scoring can happen in a short amount of time. In 2 minutes, we saw 25 points. Imagine if we saw an entire overtime of these two offenses. I think that would be the best idea. It would be the most entertaining idea and fair. I think you give them an entire quarter, both teams will have time to possess the football and make something happen.
But what's the difference if you said if they hold the ball for 10 minutes and kick a field goal, you deserve to lose? What's the difference between that and driving down the field in 7 plays and having 1 third down? Why don't you deserve to lose that time?
Because then at least you're giving the offense a chance to rebuttal that. Let's say they go down the field in 7 plays like you mentioned and they score. We saw it on Sunday night. The Bills were able to just go tit for tat with the Chiefs. It's more than possible that the Bills would have been able to score a touchdown in that time period. I think that you let them play out this overtime. If there's a tie score in this overtime, you go into the second OT, and then you go back to regular rules. Whoever kicks a field goal first wins the game, because then you're really putting these players in harm's way. I feel like it's fair. I think it's entertaining. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw the stat, but in the regular season, it's damn near 50-50. Whoever wins the coin toss wins the game. It's like 52 to 48%. In the playoffs, though, it drastically changes, and the team who wins the coin toss usually wins the game like 80-90%, something crazy. But in the playoffs, that's when you're seeing the best offenses, the best quarterbacks, the best coaches that are going to scheme up plays, so it doesn't really shock me. I find a hard time believing anything is going to change with this rule. Do I think it should change? I kind of like how it is. I know that is a bit of a coin flip, but this is how you've played the game, the entire game, right? You've played 4 quarters. You know what they're doing. This is the second time you're playing them, especially if you're in the playoffs playing a great team. It's a good chance you play them that year, the year before. You're seeing them. They're in your conference. So I don't hate it. You have the chance to stop them, and if you do stop them first, now you just need a field goal. So I know the team who gets the ball first has the advantage because they could score a touchdown and end it. But if you manage to get a stop, now all you need is a field goal. If the first team who gets it gets a field goal, that does nothing. Now the team just needs the opposing offense just needs to go down and at least match or go ahead and score a touchdown. So while the offense does get an advantage at first, the defense also has an advantage in the defensive team as a whole, because now if you get the ball back, you make one stop or stop them for a field goal. Now you just need 3 points.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I was laughing because I noticed you stopped staring at me because
yours was
laugh. Yeah. He stopped staring at me. He started only looking at you because he knew I was about to laugh. So, okay. I want the overtime rules to be changed. I feel like each team should be guaranteed an offensive possession. For example, let's just look at the Chiefs and Bills game. If the Chiefs score that touchdown, okay, they scored. Now the Bills get an offensive possession. And if the Bills don't convert on a fourth down or they don't get a touchdown, they lose the game. I don't think they should play an entire quarter because it could be tied after that. Then what happens? You play again, you know what I'm saying? So I just think each team should be guaranteed an offensive possession because people made the argument defense is a part of football. Get a stop. It's part of football. Okay, I understand that argument, but at the same time, only one team has to play defense. Only one team has the opportunity to play defense. The other one can't. I don't think it's fair. I don't understand how the rules are, okay, you kick a field goal, it's not sudden death. But you score a touchdown, that's sudden death. Why not just make it so they can score a touchdown, but the other offense still has a possession? I think that's a much better idea.
Would you like to see that just in the postseason or across the board, regular season too?
I would like to see it across the board. I think that's how the rule would have to work. And you mentioned the numbers. Yeah, you're right. But this is just crazy. Teams have a 90% win rate in the playoffs in overtime if they win the coin toss. And 70% of those wins come from the opening drive. This is an 11-game sample size, so granted, it's not a huge sample size, but that's a huge disparity. Yeah, that basically means you're guaranteed a win if you win the coin toss in overtime in the playoffs. But in the regular season, you're right. It's a much bigger sample size. It's like 150-plus games, and it's a 52% disparity. So in the regular season, it's much more even. But let's be honest. We as football fans, even though the regular season is important, we care about the playoffs. And in the playoffs, when the two best teams in the NFL play, we want to see each team have a crack at it in overtime. We want them to have an offensive possession. And that's what I want. That's what I want to see happen.
I feel like the Chiefs deserve to win it, though. Like, they went on that 13-second drive that we just really never see before, kicked the game-tying field goal to go into overtime. Like, I feel like you make those spectacular.
That game, man.
They both did, but the Chiefs just had that one extra drive to go 13 seconds down the field.
Listen, I'm not taking anything away from that play or those plays.
All you're telling me is that the reason the Chiefs won is because they had the ball last.
But that's how football works sometimes. If you have the ball last, I think you predicted this is going to come down to who has the ball last.
It is a 50-50 game.
No, you're right. It comes down to who has the ball last most of the time. But it went to overtime. So the Chiefs played catch up with the Bills, and they went into overtime. So in overtime, I think both teams should get an offensive possession. I don't think it's fair that, just because you win the coin toss, you automatically, as the numbers show, guaranteed a win. Because we all knew, when we watched the game, we all knew. Once the Chiefs received the ball, we all knew.
This game.
It's over. They're going to win the game.
For the postseason, I wouldn't hate it. I don't think it should happen for the regular season. I don't think
Why not, though?
I don't think guys should be playing. You just played 60 minutes of football. I don't need you to go out and play another 10 or 15 minutes and play 5 quarters. Like, I don't need that.
I think football players that are on the team would much rather play that extra 10,
Especially
15 minutes.
Time, man.
Extra 10, 15 minutes if it means them getting a better chance to win the game.
In regular season, I'm very consistent. I mean, you look at it in hockey. They have different overtime rules in hockey than they do
They also have the shootout.
Playoffs. But that's what I'm saying. In the regular season, they have the shootout. In postseason, it's straight up, you go until someone scores, which is cool.
Yeah.
Now, you bring it for football now. I think we should keep overtime rules how they are in the regular season as they are. But I wholeheartedly think that come playoff time, you need to go until there's an actual true winner when the clock strikes 0.
They could have been playing all night. Like, the way these offenses were going, bro, they could have played 3 quarters, 3 more quarters,
I think after each team has one offensive possession, it should be sudden death.
But then that's
not a bad idea.
At that point, then the team who scored first, now they have the advantage because they won the coin toss. They scored first. Now it's sudden death for them. And if it's sudden death, you need a field goal. You need a touchdown.
You're right, but at least they got the chance, though. That's what I'm saying.
I know, but then you still need to stop them again. And it's the same debate we're having now.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a team, I'd rather you give me the opportunity to stop somebody twice than once.
I guess, but I mean, they had the Chiefs scored their last 4 possessions.
You're right, and it looked like they were gonna torch up that defense, but they were moving the ball on KC too.
Of course,
so you both were doing their thing.
Yeah,
we saw one
struggled. Bills not struggled, but Bills had a harder time moving the ball in Kansas City.
Yeah, and I think the reason for that is because I just think the play design for Kansas City was much more, I guess, an easier game plan. It was running back screens, short passes. It was.
Well, it's because every defense is taking, not letting you beat them deep with Tyreek Hill and.
No, yeah, that's for
guys,
sure. That's for sure. I agree with you.
In their scoring drives, 13 plays was a field goal for Kansas City. Then it was 5 plays, 61 yards. Then they had a really good punt return from Tyreek, so it was 4 plays, 6 yards, field goal. Then 5 plays, 75 yards. 3 plays, 44 yards, getting to field goal range. And then overtime, it was 8 plays, 75 yards.
Yeah,
they very efficient.
They had much more quicker drives, that's for sure.
They had 1 third down in that overtime possession, I believe.
This past weekend, we saw a bunch of great quarterback play, and those teams have no doubt that those guys, Josh Allen, Mahomes, and even Joe Burrow, guys like that, Matthew Stafford, I'd say too.
Thanks, bro.
They're the franchise quarterback of their teams. But one team that lost might not have that same reassurance with theirs. The Tennessee Titans, first seed in the NFL, had a bye week, faced the Bengals, who were underdogs. They lost the game. Ryan Tannehill threw 3 picks. And do you think that he is the problem for the Tennessee Titans? Either one of you can go first.
I can go first.
Okay, go ahead.
Tannehill played like trash this weekend and is 100% the reason that they lost. The defense was spectacular. Holding one of the best offenses in the league to 19 points is something that deserves credit in and of itself. To get 9 sacks on the quarterback, Joe Burrow, and come out with the loss, tied for the most sacks in playoff history, is sad. And if I'm the defense, I am very, very disappointed that my quarterback could not overcome himself. It seemed as if he got too flustered in the moment. There were a lot of plays where we've seen Tannehill throughout the season, throughout his career right now in Tennessee, him make big-time throws. A.J. Brown had a great game for his standards. Julio Jones had probably his best game this season. At least when it mattered most, you could at least count on Julio this past weekend. Derrick Henry had some moments where he looked like Derrick Henry, but it looked like he had a tough time reading the holes a little bit. There were some plays one specifically where he's cutting to the right, then realizes that he has a hole to his left, completely cuts, breaks out to the left. He had some impressive runs. That one touchdown that he had where they were running the Wildcat was impressive. But ultimately, I look at Tannehill, and I look at the turnovers that he had. The one to end the game was crazy. I remember you and I were going back and we had a little bit of a dialogue between it. Like, there's how many seconds left. They're trying to put themselves in field goal range. There's 3 bodies, Bengal bodies, in the vicinity of that ball. Why are you trying to force it in that situation? At that point, play for overtime. I can understand you trying to put your team in a position to score, but why force something, especially when you understand you haven't had the best game? For me personally, I look at it like this. If Tannehill has 2 interceptions, I think they win this game. They got to Joe Burrow 9 times, and the offense was unable to capitalize. I think that they, like you had mentioned a little bit before, when we were talking before, that they needed to give Donta Foreman the ball a little bit more. He clearly had the hot hand going into the game, and we saw when he got the ball in this game, he looked explosive. He had probably the biggest play of the game for the Titans on that one breakaway run that I think was almost, 50 yards, something like that. I think that Tannehill cleans up this game. They win this without a doubt. And there was a point in the game where momentum was completely on the Titans' side. And then 2 turnovers later, the Bengals are right in it. I think Tannehill was the main reason why they lost. However, do I think they need to move off of him? Personally, no. I think that where we saw Joe Burrow get pressured a bunch in this game, I think Tannehill was not the same pressure, but he was definitely feeling the pressure. Tennessee's pass blocking is not good by any means. It hasn't been good all year, but Tannehill has been able to manage it. The defense and him have been able to cohesively work together to win games. Unfortunately, when you're playing a team as hot as the Bengals right now, that's not going to be the case.
Joel, I know that you're going to say Tannehill's the problem. So before you go, let me just go because I don't think he was the problem.
This weekend?
No, he was
Wow,
not.
I'm shocked.
I don't.
I'm shocked.
I don't.
We watched the same film. How could you think that?
Because we watched the same film. I just don't know if you saw it the same way I saw it. But we'll talk about it. I don't think Ryan Tannehill was a problem for the Titans. And I think this happens way too much in football, that because a team loses and a player plays bad, oh, look at him. He's the problem. It's his fault. Look at the interceptions. Yeah. 3 interceptions. That's alarming. It sounds an alarm. If you just look at the box score, you say, yeah, he played an awful game. You mentioned it. He was pressured damn near the whole game, kind of like Burrow.
No doubt.
The right side of Tennessee's offensive line with Nate Davis and Quessenberry, I mean, that is just a flat-out embarrassment.
Not good.
DJ Reader was having his way with Nate Davis all day long. Then you look at the left side. Taylor Lewan is supposed to be a Pro Bowl left tackle. Trey Hendrickson absolutely dominated that matchup. I mean, it wasn't even close. He straight up dominated. I thought the problem was that Titans were 1 for 8 on third down. They weren't very good on third down. And let's just take a look at the 3 interceptions that Tannehill threw. The first one is the one that I give him the most blame for. But even that wasn't a bad read. While I was watching the All-22, that's actually the only game I watched the All-22 one. I didn't get a chance because I didn't have time to watch the other ones. Was you had A.J. Brown wide open on a curl.
Yep.
I mean, he was wide open on a curl. Tannehill let it rip. And Jesse Bates just broke on the ball.
It was a great play.
He just broke on the ball in a way that, I mean, it was just a fantastic play from him.
Because I'm sorry, bro, but if I'm the Bengals and Derrick Henry's coming back, first game back, I'm thinking they're going to run the ball. So I thought it was great play design by Tennessee to run play action. But like you mentioned, the break that Jesse had on that ball was brilliant.
I think 99% of quarterbacks attempt that throw. It wasn't a bad read, in my opinion.
I agree.
Jesse Bates just made a hell of a play. We look at the second interception. I mean, Mike Hilton swatting the ball down and tipping it up and then intercepting it. I mean, that's just something. It was just a great play by Hilton. It wasn't a bad read by Tannehill. We always try to nitpick these things like, oh, he could have pump faked, then threw it. But come on, let's be realistic. Usually that doesn't happen. Then we look at the third interception. I don't think Westbrook-Akina was covered. I mean, I don't think Westbrook-Akina was smothered to the point that you talked about where there were 3 guys around him. It was man-to-man coverage.
It was a tight window for no reason.
For sure. It was a tight window. But as a quarterback, you can't predict that you're going to throw the ball into a tight window. I mean, he threw it on target to where Akina, if he was a better receiver, makes that play.
But was it a necessary throw?
At that point, you're trying to win the game. I thought it was worth the risk. And to me, it wasn't risky because it wasn't like he was double covered. It was a tight window, that's for sure. But he put the ball on target. If Westbrook-Akina was a better receiver, he makes that catch.
That defender was right there with him.
He was to his side.
He was on his body.
You're right.
He was on his side, but the ball was here. Westbrook-Akina went like this, and then Eli Apple, who made that play, that was an excellent play. He batted it up. It was a great pass deflection. Usually in those plays, the ball goes down. But in this one, it went up, and then it gave Logan Wilson a chance to intercept the ball. To me, the first interception, Jesse Bates, great play. If you want to blame Tannehill for that, okay, whatever. That's a 50-50 one for me. The next 2 are tipped up balls, just bad luck. How many times do we see that happen and quarterbacks don't get intercepted? It was just bad luck, and yeah, it cost them the game because then the Bengals had great field position. Just for 1 play away, we saw Joe Burrow hit Jamar Chase, and they were already in field goal position, and they won the game. So, yeah, I understand. It did cost them the game. But do I look at that and I say, okay, bless you? Do I look at that and I say, wow, Tannehill, awful. He was like Jimmy G out there. I don't. I think Ryan Tannehill, he's a solid quarterback, and people still have this perception of Tannehill that he is who he was in Miami. He's not. Tannehill is a good quarterback in the NFL.
Agreed.
Is he a great one? No. Is he at his best top 15, meaning like 11th to 15th best quarterback? Yes, absolutely. I'd put him around the middle in the league. He is to Tennessee what Alex Smith was to Kansas City. Tennessee won't win big, won't win a Super Bowl until they find a true superstar quarterback, especially playing in the AFC. You just need one. The AFC is so stacked with quarterbacks. When you look at Tannehill's numbers, 76 touchdowns to 27 picks, 67% completion percentage, 102 passer rating when he's playing for the Titans. And I'm not a big fan of win-loss record, but you look at the win-loss record, he's 30-13. And all year long, with all their injuries, he kept them afloat.
No doubt.
He didn't cost them games. Maybe some, but he really didn't cost them games. Tannehill was a solid option. If I'm Tennessee, this is what they have to do. Tannehill is good where he's at. I'm not looking to replace Tannehill unless I can find a superstar quarterback, which with their cap situation is going to be really hard to do. I'm upgrading that offensive line, the right side specifically. I'm getting a tight end option because they don't have a good tight end. And I'm drafting a quarterback who I think has a high ceiling, in my opinion, Malik Willis, and he's sitting under Tannehill for 2 to 3 seasons, and when he's ready, now I move off from Tannehill. But at this point, no, Tannehill is fine where he's at.
I think you could also throw a wide receiver in there because who knows what happens with Julio. And, throughout the season, he's been injured and just really hasn't looked like himself.
No doubt.
We said last week, right? We talked about Jalen Hurts. We don't overreact to one game, right? I feel the same way about this for Tannehill. We know what Tannehill is. He's a good and could have great moment quarterback. It seems like it's been a while, especially in the playoffs, that like we saw him kind of implode like this. I know you're saying he had the 3 interceptions. They weren't all his fault. But when you're into the playoffs in these high leverage situations, you have to be a little bit better on each throw because you're going up against a pretty good team in the Bengals who have been hot, one of the hotter teams in the NFL coming in, 4 or 5 wins in a row. So, while maybe they weren't all his fault, you also have to up your game in the playoffs because you're playing better competition. The offensive line didn't play great. They allowed 9 pressures. He got sacked 1 time. They didn't play terrible to the point where I think Tannehill should have thrown 3 interceptions. That first one, you're right. Jesse Bates did make a great break on the ball, but Jesse Bates is a great player. So, what are you going to do at that point?
This year,
but he's been
overall,
playing excellent football.
He has been,
second half
and in
of the
years
season.
past, he's been really good.
I would just say for the past 2 games.
No, he's been playing good since like week 11, week 12.
He wasn't good versus San Fran.
I guess, but that's pretty fair.
He's been up and down this year, but there's no doubt that in the playoffs, he's been what he was last year.
And I was going to say, he said years past, we know Jesse Bates could have, elite safety play when he's really on his game.
Definitely.
So when I look, I'm like, what can the Titans possibly have done here, right? I mean, Derrick Henry's back. He had 20 carries for 60 yards. He didn't look like his old self. Deontay Foreman, in his limited touches, looked really good. I tweeted around the 3rd quarter that I thought he should get more burn because he looked like the guy who had more juice, more explosiveness, in that game, and then work in Derrick Henry where you see fit. Like I said, the offensive line was okay. It wasn't great. A.J. Brown had a great game. He had 142 yards, breaking the Titans record, so he's not a problem. You have an elite weapon, but you do need another one outside. I tweeted, I think it was on Saturday, I was looking at the playoff teams. A lot of them have multiple elite options, and I was kind of counting Derrick Henry in that tier of you have A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry, right? You have 2 elite options on offense, but when Derrick Henry isn't playing to the caliber we're expecting him to, and now your number 2 is Julio Jones, who he's had his moments here and there, but overall this season's been disappointing. He's probably more as a wide receiver 3 at this point in his career. When you look at guys who have, like a T. Higgins as your wide receiver 2 or an Odell, his resurgence in LA, I don't think Julio Jones really stacks up with those guys at this point. You can't blame the defense either. We'll just get that out of the way. They had 9 sacks. Can't blame the defense. But when I look forward for the Titans, I agree. You can't move off Ryan Tannehill. He's been too good over these last few seasons, and he's good enough in the perfect situation to be able to take you to a Super Bowl. But when you look at the rest of this AFC, you mentioned it, you're going to have to go through Burrow every year, Herbert, 2 quarterbacks we just saw, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. And then you got the young guys, like we think Zach has a really high ceiling. Trevor Lawrence, we all believe, has a really high ceiling. So when you're looking at Ryan Tannehill and you're stacking him up against all of these quarterbacks in the AFC, especially if you take potential into it as well, you're looking at him as like, what's he, maybe the 7th quarterback you take in the AFC right now? So you really need to have a great team around him. And we've seen in years past the Titans have great teams. But when your quarterback is, when his potential and his upside is capped, so is the rest of their team. That's why they haven't been able to get to the Super Bowl. They haven't been able to get to the hump. What's even worse is his cap hit goes from $11 million this year to nearly $40 million in 2022 and $36 million in 2023. You could possibly get out of his contract if he does play bad next year with about $18 million in dead cap. That's not the end of the world in today's NFL. but you might be able to get lucky one of these years and you beat a Mahomes or a Josh Allen. You're able to get to that Super Bowl. But I do like your idea. Possibly get a high upside quarterback like a Malik Willis, someone, who has the ability to turn into a superstar level quarterback, because we know what Tannehill is. He's really good, but I just don't think he's going to be good enough to bring you to the promised land.
I mean, I agree with you. I don't think Tannehill's good enough quarterback to get you over the top. I just don't think he is the biggest need for the Tennessee Titans right now.
No doubt.
He's not.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you there.
So
they need to
some other
adjust the
things,
line
for sure.
without a doubt.
So next up, we're going to have Mike Sands. He's from All Bengals from Sports Illustrated. Join the show.
Let's
To
go.
talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. Right now, John is working on it. John, it's Rodecaster Pro, the mic that you use. Has he joined? Okay. It said it's waiting on us.
Somebody said that
We can answer questions while this is going on.
Yeah.
Tannehill and Dak are on the same tier.
Oh. I mean, Tannehill's had some really good years, especially the last 2 years.
On Dak's level,
I think Dak is better.
He's
I do think
clean.
Dak's better. That's
That's easy.
But when Tannehill's at the top of his game, I think he could just be just as good.
Someone said Tannehill is Matt Ryan.
How do you feel about that, Joel?
No.
No way.
No way.
No way. Not Matt Ryan. Not a top 5 quarterback in the league.
Serge said Dak is like 10 to 12 and Ryan Tannehill's like top 15 to 19.
Who said that, Serge?
Sergio.
Serge,
15.
Serge, where's Wentz on that list, bro? Yo, he kills me, bro. He went. I know you saw you giving him some shit about having the picture be Aaron Rodgers now instead of
Oh
Wentz.
my God. Like, he can't be serious with that.
You can't be a Wentz truther. Tell me he could be an MVP and then be like, nah, I'm going to give up Aaron,
Forget about
Aaron
the truther.
Rodgers.
Bro's Twitter name is Carson11 Wentz 2. And you want to move off of him? Like, bro, where's your loyalty?
He doesn't have it, bro.
Someone
I don't
said
know.
Ryan T is Tua.
I would be happy. You should be thrilled.
Me?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Mike? Can you hear us right now? Yo, John, do you have the mic set to Rodecaster on the Zoom?
Someone said, is Joel buying that Stafford jersey back?
I actually sold it to Drew. Hey, what's up, Mike? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to before.
Hey,
Okay,
what's
yeah,
going
you
on,
can hear
dude?
us
Nice
now.
to meet you.
What's up?
Good to meet you guys too.
Yes, sir, man. It's a pleasure to have you on. Right now, we just have John fixing the video real quick, but we're about to get started. We're live right now on YouTube, by the way. We have like 120 people watching, just to let you know.
Cool. Make sure I don't mess anything up.
Nah, man, you should be
Good.
fine. How you doing today, bro?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great, man.
Good.
I cannot complain whatsoever.
Great weekend of football. We got a great weekend coming up
For
of
real,
football.
man.
It doesn't get better.
Yes, sir. So, okay, I think he has everything fixed right now. So, first off, man, it's super nice to meet you. I found you on Twitter. I love the Bengals this year, and I've been following you, and you do amazing breakdowns. What do you think about this season so far? Were you expecting for the Bengals to make it this far? That's the first question.
Oh, no. I was thinking this would be one of those fun, like, now that there's 17 games, you can't say fun 8-8 year. So 9-8, 8-9 type year where you're like, okay, next year, this team's going to be great. They just need an offensive line, and well, they still need that, but it seems like everybody's ahead of schedule. Jamar Chase is where you think he would be in year 2. Joe Burrow's where you think he would be maybe next year, after this year was kind of recovery from the ACL. It's just everything kind of sped up, and now here they are in the AFC Championship, and no, never saw this coming from this year.
Yeah.
Man. So you write for All Bengals on Sports Illustrated, if that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's awesome. First off, that's how I actually found you. This is what I have to say about the Bengals. I feel like there's just something special about this team, specifically because of Joe Burrow's revival. How long have you been a Bengals fan?
Oh, I mean, I'm 25, so about 25 years.
So you've been
Nice.
through the Carson Palmer and Andy Dalton era.
Yeah.
What's so different about this era that you guys are heading towards with Joe Burrow?
I mean, the first thing I think of is just when Andy Dalton was quarterback and he reared back to let one deep downfield, you kind of went, oh no. Now, when Joe Burrow's doing that, you're like, oh yeah, he's got somebody open. Carson Palmer, you kind of felt that too, but it was on and off with, he had injuries once in a while and his play was up and down. So
Definitely.
that was a little bit more middling of he's rearing back. And sometimes you're like, oh, Ocho must be open. And then sometimes you're like, oh no, what's he doing?
When it comes to Joe Burrow and letting those balls go deep, take a moment to let that one sit. I apologize. That being said, when it comes to Joe Burrow and his confidence in throwing the football and the fans' confidence in Joe Burrow letting the ball go down deep, I really want to talk about the confidence, not just Joe Burrow's confidence, but the Bengals' confidence as a whole. Can you give me some kind of inside scoop of like how it is in that locker room, how the Bengals are feeling their morale right now? Do they feel like they could beat any team in the league right now, including the Chiefs?
Absolutely, especially because they beat the Chiefs earlier this season.
For sure.
Whether you want to say that's, well, it was a regular season game, whatever, they still have the confidence about it. I think the main story you can think about the confidence is the kicker, Evan McPherson. Before he walks on, he takes a warm-up kick and he goes, looks like we're going to the AFC Championship.
That's great.
That's one of the coolest things ever said by a player.
Probably the coolest thing a kicker's ever done.
And that is
Adam Vinatieri's up there, but yo, you might be right.
It's not always been that way. So, Mike, me and Joel right here. My name's Joel. His name is Joe. It's spelled the same way but pronounced differently. We're Jets fans, so we remember in 2009 when Shane Graham missed a bunch of chip shot field goals in the wild card round that cost the Bengals pretty much the game, even though Darrell locked up Chad. But Shane Graham, he was a pretty reliable kicker, and he was missing chip shot field goals in that entire game.
Wasn't just Shane Graham for that era either. If I remember that game, Carson Palmer, I think, threw a couple interceptions. Ocho gets locked down, and the offense just completely sputters. And it felt like that for every Marvin Lewis playoff appearance. It was, well, everybody's just going to play worse than they normally play because that's what happens. But then with Joe Burrow, and give some credit to Zach Taylor, he's the head coach. They come out and they're playing some of their best ball, especially on defense. That's a pretty good unit, but they've been rock solid this postseason.
And that's something that's interesting to me because walking into the season, having lost Mackenzie Alexander, William Jackson, and replacing them with Mike Hilton, Awuzie, and Eli Apple, nobody thought the secondary wouldn't drop off. At least I didn't think so at all. Who do you think has been the most surprising player in the secondary unit?
Ooh, surprising would probably be Eli Apple, right? Because he's been kind of bad everywhere, but he comes to Cincinnati and he breaks up the pass to get the game-winning interception. He's been honestly pretty good. That's been the most surprising thing. But I will say Awuzie, not this past week, he got kind of cooked by A.J. Brown, but he did a good job the entire season. One of the better corners, and he's only like $7 million a year, so the market wasn't treating him like, you just look at the other corner that they paid, Trey Waynes. They give him $15 million, and Awuzie is playing up to that contract. So that's nice to have. That's a surprise. But Eli Apple, definitely the biggest surprise because I thought that would be a huge liability.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I watched the All-22 yesterday of the Titans and Bengals game, and a couple things stood out to me. One, DJ Reader, as you pointed out on your Twitter thread, he's been foddered amazing. You guys got him last year. He's been solid since then. But Jesse Bates has really stepped up his play in the playoffs. The interception he had on Tannehill, we just had a segment talking about Tannehill. I was like, I don't even know if that's on Tannehill because that's basically open. Jesse Bates just broke on the ball in a fantastic way. For somebody that's had such an up and down season, what's been the difference for his elite play in the playoffs so far versus the Raiders and now the Tennessee Titans?
You mentioned the pick. It's catching that interception. You think of earlier this season against the 49ers, he gets Garoppolo, he breaks on the ball, and it's a pick six to win the game, and he drops it. And then the 49ers go on to win the game. So now he's making the most of these opportunities. He's doing a good job of not letting anybody get behind him, breaking when making a little gamble when he knows he can, like on that AJ Brown, that was Julio that sat, but like that pick, he breaks on that and he knows he can because there's nobody going deep behind him. So he's doing a better job of picking his spots and then capitalizing on the opportunities.
And was his up and down play this year due to the Bengals asking him to do more than usual because they know he's such a great player?
I think they're a little bit more multiple this year on the back end. Last year, there were a lot of let Jesse Bates play single high, roam sideline to sideline. And this year, they want to try to play a little bit more confusing type things. Like, let's play some 2 high here, 1 high there. You're going to move down. You're going to cover this guy. You're going to play deep half, deep middle third. And when you have all those different responsibilities, where he's at his best is still where, like, he got his interception playing post safety, middle field. And that's where he still has best. But the staff, rightfully, probably wants to play a little bit of everything. And yeah, when you do all that, and he's a little bit worse at some of that. So that's a little bit of the reason. I think some of it was contract talk and, you get in your own head about things like that and just confidence. And now he's got the confidence. He's playing well. And I mean, they'll need him against Kansas City.
Sure. Yeah, and if we could just go back to Joe Burrow for a second, I mean, coming out of the draft from LSU, everyone thought he'd be really good, right? He had that historic season there, the best college football season we've ever seen for a quarterback. His first year, he had some, really good moments, tears his ACL. Coming into year 2, everyone expected him to play well, right? But I don't think anyone expected him to play to this level where we're having those talks of, is he in that tier with those Herberts and those Mahomes guys? Is that something you saw this year, his ability to level up, going from a good to great quarterback, now putting himself in that elite competition?
I think I thought that, like, maybe, but it wouldn't have happened the same exact way. A little bit. So slow start is what I always thought. He's going to have a little bit of slow start. He's coming off the ACL injury. You want him by, like, I don't know, halfway through the year, that he's no longer scared to step into throws and put his plant leg, the one that he tore his ACL and everything on, wasn't just his ACL, to step into things when the bullets are flying around him. There's guys falling down around his legs. By like week 3 or 4, he was good with that. So from there, he was getting better and just getting more confident even. And just, yeah, he's so aggressive despite he doesn't have the Herbert, Mahomes, Allen arm to be late and throw a ball 60 yards, but he's so aggressive to put it, maybe he's 10 yards less, so 50 yards, and he'll still take the same shot. So I think that's cool to see. He's got the mindset of those type of guys, and I mean, he's playing up to it right now.
Yeah, and I believe he had the most 20-plus yard plays in the NFL this season, at least in the regular season. And when you look at the weapons they have with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, it's funny. You don't really think of like a Bengals as a team that other teams will copy, but I definitely think they're going to be one of the teams when these new GMs come in, or even current GMs. We talk a lot about the Jets here. You need to surround your quarterback with weapons. We already have Elijah Moore and Corey Davis, but we're talking about getting a Calvin Ridley, going and drafting a Treylon Burks or Jamison Williams, at the 10th pick. So I do think it's interesting too that, we're seeing the Bengals as one of those first teams that we're just going to go and get our guy some weapons, because there was big debate in this past offseason. Were you a Sewell guy or were you a Chase guy?
When I watched him, I was actually a Sewell guy just because I thought he was like a rare body to be 350 pounds and moving so fluid and also explosive. And I thought Jamar Chase would be awesome. I had the same tier in my mind. I didn't think Jamar Chase would be this good, where it's like, I thought he was the best wide receiver in the class. I thought he was awesome, but I didn't think he would come into the league and break the Bengals record for most receiving yards. And maybe not seem like at first glance, but that's a pretty storied group. You've got Chad Johnson, you've got Chris Collinsworth, Isaac Curtis, all these dudes, AJ Green,
no doubt,
can't forget him. So you got all these dudes, and he just put up the best season out of any of them have ever done in his rookie year. So I didn't see that coming, and I'll take egg on my face about it. But I mean, it's an awesome ride for me.
I feel like when we talk about the Bengals' weapons, we talk about Jamar Chase, because obviously what he's doing is so historic. You have to give him his respect. You have to give him his props. We talk about T. Higgins and how great of a number 2 option he is, whether he at one point was taking that mantle of that number 1 receiver, but you watch the games, you understand they're doubling Chase. Higgins is not a type of receiver you can leave on an island by himself. I feel like the guy that gets left out, for me at least, is Joe Mixon. I feel as if these last few weeks, we've seen Mixon take a step back in the offense, where he's not as efficient as he had been early in the season in the run game, where it's been difficult for him to break over 60 yards these last few games, but we've seen him accept that role in the passing game, where he really makes plays happen through the passing game. Do you feel as if, I guess my question is, at what point in the season did you feel the Bengals realized that their main attack should be to pass the ball down the field? I feel as if early in the season it was very let's give the ball to Joe Mixon, let's make things happen. At one point in the season, Joe Mixon statistically was top 3 in almost every single category. At what point in the season did it come to the Bengals' mind as if, all right, we need to be a pass first dominant offense?
it felt like that second Ravens game where Joe Burrow throws for over 500 yards.
Yep, no doubt.
It felt that was the game that felt like, oh, okay, now maybe that's just the Ravens, but then the next week they played the Chiefs and he throws for 400 plus yards and it's another great game, a win against a tough opponent. So that's where I got the thought process of, okay, this is no longer a team that's going to lean on Mixon. This is going to be a spread and let Joe Burrow do what he wants.
And even though you were a Sewell guy, I mean, for one, nobody could have predicted this type of season Jamar Chase is having. Anybody that predicted it, you could have won a lot of money if you bet on it. But Sewell is an all-pro caliber left tackle or tackle. He's had a phenomenal rookie season for the Detroit Lions, and I made a video back on it during draft season that the Bengals are really in a win-win situation in the draft. You either draft Sewell or you draft Chase, or maybe the Falcons don't draft Kyle Pitts, and now you get to have Pitts. So it was a really win-win situation. But looking at the Bengals offensive line, I just feel like that right side just needs a complete makeover. I mean, Hakeem Adeniji, I think that's his name. The way he performed versus the Titans was just embarrassing. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons, granted, he's a great player, was having his way. Do you think that now going to this weekend versus KC, they got Chris Jones, how is he going to fare when he's lined up to their side?
Oh man, it's gonna be tough. I don't think Adeniji's, if they can get him one-on-one with Adeniji, I don't think Adeniji wins very many of those reps. So you got to give him help from Hopkins or Prince or whoever. The right side would probably look a tiny bit better if Riley Reif didn't go on IR. Mm-hmm. That's a solid level player. He's not anybody that you're going to be game planning around, but he's a guy that comes in and he'll do his job. Now you have Isaiah Prince in there who actually played pretty well against the Titans, but he was not as well against the Raiders, and you're probably going to get up and down stuff from a young guy like that. So yeah, I think the right side needs overhauled. I think Hakeem Adeniji is probably not going to be the starting right guard next year.
So we know that you're a Bengals writer, but who do you got winning this game? Bias aside.
Oh man. It's tough. The Bengals won. I think they can win. If I'm going to pick, I go with the home team. I think the Chiefs, their experience, I don't know. I think it'll be close. I think they cover. I think it's going to be a tight game. It'll be fun. But I do think that the Chiefs, they've got the experience. They've got the coach. They've got everything that the Bengals want to be like next year. This could be the Chiefs team that lost to the Patriots on their way to the Super Bowl. And then next year is the season that they go and they try to take their first Super Bowl.
Yeah, the one thing that the Bengals at least have got going to them, we're going to get into it later in the show, but the Chiefs are on this just emotional high, right? Coming off this overtime win where you come back, hit a field goal with 13 seconds to drive down the field in the overtime. So at least the Bengals got that going for them, where maybe they're the more level-headed team. But I wanted to piggyback off your question when you talk about the offensive line. We talk a lot about teams with rookie quarterbacks on rookie deals, right? So Joe Burrow doesn't have to get paid for a few years. Same with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So when you look at this offseason, do you think the Bengals will get aggressive with their picks, right? They've shown we could go to an AFC Championship game. Do you expect them to get aggressive with some of these draft picks, possibly trade them and go get a playmaker on defense, or even maybe use the trade market to upgrade the offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, if it's me, I'm calling a few guys. I'm calling Houston, see if Laramie Tunsil's available. Call no all doubt. These guys that are rebuilding, and they've got a guy maybe like 2 years left on his deal, and just try to put all your chips on the table. But I don't know if the Bengals do that. I just think they're a little bit conservative when it comes to this stuff. They like to build through the draft. They've changed a little bit over the past couple of years. You think of all the free agents they've brought in. Yeah. So maybe you do finally get one of these trades, or maybe they do pay up and go get a Brandon Scherr for a Teron Armstead. So maybe they finally do push for it, because I mean, in my lifetime, they've never been in this spot where they made an AFC championship game. Mm-hmm. So that could also change things. Like before, you're making the wild card round a whole bunch and losing. And, it's hard to put all your chips on the table and mortgage your future when you haven't even won a playoff game. Yeah. Now that you've made the AFC championship game, I think there's definitely a possibility they do it. If I was betting, I'd probably bet they'd probably just sign some, not the best, but maybe a next level guy, and then they draft another one for the offensive line and try to play it that way.
And not
But
to be
I could see it.
Not to be disrespectful to Andy Dalton, but Joe Burrow is just a different type of cool,
no
a different
doubt,
type
no
of
doubt.
swag that, you know, players see and they're like, I want to go play with him. And you look at the division too, the Steelers are going to be without Ben now. The Browns are in shambles. And the Ravens, while they still have Lamar, their defense was terrible this year. So you look at the team, who do you want to play for in the AFC North? It's probably the Bengals for the first time in a long time.
Oh yeah, I think probably Chad was the last guy to try to bring guys in. He had the swagger to really bring some guys into the town. But yeah, I mean, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, all these guys, you want to go play for them. I mean, that I would.
Yeah, for
They're
sure.
a cool
I would love
team.
to.
No
They're
doubt.
ascending. You get to protect one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Probably makes you look a little bit better than you might be because he moves in the pocket really well rather than going and playing for, I don't know, Sam Darnold. That's safe with you guys being Jets fans.
Man.
Now that he's gone.
Man, the last time I felt your excitement as a fan was in 2010. That's how long it's been
It's
for
been
the
too
Jets.
long, man.
2016 for me. It's not that long.
Since we are Jets fans, and I know that you're a very smart football mind, what are your thoughts on Zach Wilson?
Oh, I haven't really watched. I feel like he got hurt, right? And I didn't watch a single game because in the Bengals game, congratulations on beating one of the four finalists.
That was the worst day of my life.
That was the Mike White game.
That was the Mike White. That was the
Mike
day the
White.
narrative started. Oh my gosh, that was the worst day of my life.
That was something.
Yeah.
That was funny. That was
It
funny.
was amazing. The Bengals win that game, and maybe they beat the Bears and they win the 1 seed. Instead, they drop both those games and beat the Chiefs. So
Yeah,
it
for
all makes
real.
sense.
Same
I don't
thing.
know why this just came into my head, but I have an honest to God question for you. Auden Tate, what is your opinion on him, Mike? Auden
We
Tate
have the
seems,
number one Auden Tate
he
fan
seems
here.
to be a fan favorite by my friend, my co-host Joel. And before the season started, he believed that Auden Tate really should have a huge role in this offense. Do you feel like Auden Tate's being left out at all? Do you feel like it's justified where he is in the offense? Do you think that he could leave the Bengals and be successful elsewhere? I just want to gauge where you're at with Auden Tate right now.
I think he's better than the Bengals role that they've given him. He's not even playing now. I think they put him. I think he might be on IR, but yeah. I mean, it's not like he was getting very many snaps before that. Makes some circus catches. The only thing with him is that he's a little bit slow. Not even just a little bit. I think he runs like a 4.7, 4.8 type 40.
Move to tight end.
Yeah.
Over
They like to
Uzama
keep-
right now, who's been doing his absolute thing for
Uzama's
the Bengals
good.
right now. He
Yeah,
is really
so-
good.
I think good. I think if a team's got some speedsters to already threaten downfield, he'd be a great number 3 guy to just security blanket, kind of like a tight end, but you know, he's huge. He makes circus catches, great hands, good blocker. I mean, it kind of sounds like he should be a tight end.
I mean, stop disrespecting Auden Tate. I know you guys want to disrespect
Hey,
Auden
man.
Tate right now.
Only
like
reason,
Auden Tate.
only reason why I disrespect Auden Tate by any means
the
is
Jamar-
because the Jamar
Yeah, the
Chase.
Jamar Chase thing was ludicrous.
That's really all. It comes
All I
down
said
to.
was that if Jamar Chase keeps dropping balls at the rate he did
Come on
in the
now.
preseason games,
Come on now.
Auden Tate, I don't know. Maybe he could do something, you know? Put him out
300
there.
yards?
I don't want to quote him.
So thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it. You can plug yourself in right now, man. Just do anything you want that just so people can find you.
Yeah, on Twitter, that's the main thing. I'll probably promote just about everything on there. Bengals_Sands. Just find me on there and you'll find my writing and whatever else I'm doing.
Yeah, if you're into any sort of, you like to watch all 22, you want to
doubt.
learn more about football schemes, this is the guy.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on, man. We appreciate it, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Take care, man.
Thank
Have
you.
a great night.
You too.
So now, we talked about Cincinnati and their magical run. Mike was an excellent guest.
He was awesome.
Aaron Rodgers, the Packers lost. Is he leaving Green Bay? This was a very disappointing loss. Aaron Rodgers, to his credit, gave like a 16-minute presser and was talking about it. And he's already said he doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. The Packers have guys to sign, mainly Devontae Adams. Their cap situation is a little bit murky. It's muddy. Is Aaron Rodgers leaving Green Bay? You want him on the Broncos. I know you're
Like
gonna
any
say.
normal Bronco
I know
fan.
you're gonna say he's leaving for sure. But I want to get it from you first, Joe,
Sure.
because you might have a different answer.
Yeah, so first let's just talk about this loss, right? Because it seems like year after year now, Green Bay has been in position So, they've had 1 seed, they've had home field advantage, they've been the favorites in a ton of these playoff games, and every year they end up disappointing us. Green Bay was my pick for the Super Bowl. I thought this was their year. They had a top 5 defense. Devontae Adams was as good as we've ever seen him. They had 2 really good running backs, A.J. Dillon in year 2, Aaron Jones just getting an extension. And while it wasn't his best offensive line in his career, it was more than good enough to be able to, lead a top offense and have an MVP type season like Aaron Rodgers did. But when you look specifically just at this game, and then we'll get into what happens with Aaron Rodgers in the future, it looked like Green Bay at first was going to run away with it, right? Their first drive, they went down the field 6-7 plays. It looked like Green Bay in the regular season. They went down with ease, having big plays to Devontae Adams. He was the only skill position player outside the running back to have more than 2 touches. So we talked about for years now, I mean, just on the show, it seems like every week, but years, they need another weapon outside of Devontae Adams. But after that 70-yard drive where they ended up scoring a touchdown, they went fumble, punt, 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 end of half, punt, field goal, blocked, punt, punt. That's just not a way to succeed. There's no way you could have all of these punts. You have a field goal blocked, you have the blocked punt. Like, you have all of these things that could possibly go wrong for you. And Aaron Rodgers masks a lot of these things, but kind of similar how we talked about Tannehill, you have to up your game in the playoffs. And one area where it looked like we all overlooked the Packers was special teams. They've been struggling all season in special teams, punting. Mason Crosby's having a really down year as well. Their defense was really solid this year, this game had 4 sacks, 11 pressures. The 49ers were 36% on third down. They didn't even allow a touchdown. They had an interception, limited the run game. Like, there was anything you wanted the defense to do to slow down the 49ers, they were able to do it. And it really just this game, the offense was the issue. Rodgers had less than 200 yards, same yards per completion as Jimmy G, was not taking as many deep shots. So, all over, Aaron Rodgers still had a chance to march down the field at the end of the game, wasn't able to get it done. When we look at what's the future for Aaron Rodgers, Drew thinks he's going to be a future Denver Bronco.
I'm hopeful.
Personally, I think he stays in Green Bay. I think if he looks at his other options, there's not a better situation out there. You want to go to Denver, and you want to go and Dan Quinn's your head coach, and you want to hack it, and you want to go. Well, Dan Quinn's the favorite right now. You want to go. Dan Quinn's your head coach. You have a defensive head coach. That is a significant downgrade from LaFleur to Dan Quinn. If you're Rodgers, you want an offensive guy in there, and then you also have to compete with Patrick Mahomes now every single season. You're not getting the 1 seed. You're not, easily going.
So you want the guy Nathaniel Hackett who he couldn't put together a drive versus the Niners.
To be fair, I don't want to stop you mid-analysis. Do you want to say anything else, or I can go?
Go ahead.
To be fair to the Niners, they did an excellent job of pressuring Aaron Rodgers.
For sure.
I'm not blaming the play call, given the fact that the Niners were able to really just suffocate Rodgers in that pocket.
And I appreciate that, because I know last week you didn't give the Niners any credit.
I didn't. And that's why I have to be here. I have to be honest. I was not expecting the Niners to really suffocate Rodgers the way that they did. They made him feel the pressure. They made him feel the absence of David Bakhtiari, who was a late scratch. That really surprised me personally.
He was expected to play all week.
And
Aaron Rodgers said in his presser he just wasn't feeling good.
Bakhtiari didn't feel good?
His knee wasn't feeling good.
That's unfortunate, man. Yeah. But 5 sacks allowed by this Packers offensive line. The offensive line wasn't not okay by any means. It was really, really bad. Rodgers was scrambling for his life, having to make plays with his legs, basically what it seemed all game. And where at first I was watching the game, I'm like, man, and you look at the box score, you think, why isn't Rodgers trusting his guys? Why is he so reliant on Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams? Why is he not trying to get it to Lazard? Get it more to Mercedes Lewis. Get it more to these guys that it's just been a spread the love type offense. Then you watch the film. These guys got no separation from these guys in the secondary. These guys were dropping balls left and right. Mercedes Lewis gets his lone touch of the game and fumbles. And what seems to be the Packers really being dominant. That was their second drive of the game. The first drive, like you mentioned, it was a swimming offense for them. They basically went up and down that field like it was nothing. Second drive, similarly, they're handing the ball off. They're having success on the ground. They throw the little fade to, not fade, a flat, They hit a flat to Mercedes Lewis, and Mercedes Lewis gets the balls and just gets it punched out.
Never saw the ball again.
No, and no one saw the ball. Lazard got the lone other target, lone other catch. But the only time where I really blame Rodgers, third down, you have Devontae Adams double covered. You have Lazard running a seam for the touchdown. I understand trying to play hero ball. It's Devontae Adams. He's the most reliable target in football. Lazard is, or has been at least, reliable for the Packers at the minimum. For the Packers, he has been a reliable number 2, number 3 option for them. He is running down the field by himself. Why not let it fly? Take the chance. Why are we forcing it in double coverage to Davante Adams, especially when you have him over the top? The only explanation could be was that he was being pressured and he just wanted to get the ball out before he was hit. But you're Aaron Rodgers. I needed to see one more big play out of you. Outside of that Aaron Jones throw, it seemed as if these big plays were limited. At most, I saw a big play from the Packers, maybe 3 times, and once in the second half. It really got to the point where it was hard to watch this game in such a defensive battle, and maybe the weather really played more of a factor than what I had been anticipating. But the Packers were, quote-unquote, used to this, loved the cold, loved the fact that they're in Lambeau Field. Rodgers came out earlier and said, it's 2 things. Either you got to come play us, and that's a tough task, or you got to come and play in Lambeau, which is one of the most toughest environments to come play in. You're talking like that, and then you come in and where the elements are supposed to be in your favor, you don't take advantage of it. So it's tough for me. Do I think he comes back? I don't know, man. This last dance post with Davante Adams allows me to only believe that they really wanted to go out with a championship, go out on top. This was going to be their last year regardless, and it's just unfortunate that things had turned out the way they did for the Packers. I don't think he returns to the Packers. I would love for him to be a Denver Bronco, no doubt. I would give my 3 first-round picks for him. 4 and Judy, if you're going to tag Davante Adams and give him to me. I would do it. I would do it because I know we have a roster to compete for a championship. I really would.
What?
Yeah.
That's fair for the Broncos that they give you 3 first-round picks, Judy, and they get Davante and Aaron?
4 first-round picks. I'm pretty sure we would give seconds also.
Yeah, I think you can only trade 2 years worth of.
So
man, y'all not getting Davante. Stop being greedy.
I saw.
You're getting Aaron.
I saw a report.
Maybe
so where do you
if
think,
that.
Because I listed the teams.
But
Denver,
that's what I was gonna say.
I don't think you compete with Mahomes. Plus, it's going to be cold again.
This is what I was going to say also.
Okay, go
ahead. You
ahead.
have Rodgers, who understands that people are right now tarnishing his legacy. He can't get it done in the playoffs. This notorious choke artist. I was immediate after saying Peyton Manning's greater than Aaron Rodgers. It's not a question now. We can't even talk about it, and I still feel that way. I'll feel that way till I'm in the grave. That being said,
Aaron's better than Payton.
No way.
He's a better quarterback.
No way. Anyways, all right. He's a better quarterback. Yeah, come on now. That being said, he is playing with a chip on his shoulder next season if he were to return.
But bro,
what better way
year after year this chip?
What better way to do it than in a division with the supposed best quarterback in the NFL in Patrick Mahomes, one of the top 5, top 6 quarterbacks in the league in Justin Herbert, and another great quarterback in Derek Carr. You come into the toughest division in the NFL, arguably. I would say the NFC West probably is the toughest division, given the fact that 2 of them are now in the NFC Championship. But in the AFC, this is probably the toughest division that there is. Why not come to this division with a team that is built right now to compete for a championship, a team that is a quarterback, an Aaron Rodgers type player away. Aaron Rodgers type player, you understand what I mean? An elite level quarterback from being a true Super Bowl contender. I don't see it as that much of a I'm not going to overlook something like that, especially with a guy like Aaron Rodgers and someone as competitive as him.
I don't know. I don't see Rodgers wanting to go there and saying first of all, I'd
rather go to Indy.
I've had to win the NFC
but
North.
Their pass blocking is not that good either. Our line's at least decent and serviceable.
I know, but I'm just saying
they don't have the weapons that we do. Why would you do that?
If I'm Aaron, I'd rather
it's an easy
go to
division.
the Colts.
You just got the Titans, who we've seen are not that great. They're a good regular
but we
season
see what
team.
an easy division does for him in the NFC. What does that really do for him?
But if he's thinking, I've had an easy division basically my whole career outside of a few seasons here and there from Minnesota. Why would he want to go and be like, now I have to deal with Patrick Mahomes? I have to pray I somehow win 13 games every season just to win my division. If I don't, I have to be a wild card team, and now I have to go on the road for 3 straight weeks.
See, but
I'm in Denver. It's going to be freezing.
I'd rather go to Cleveland.
To say that we wouldn't be a number 1 seed, again, they don't have the weapons.
You two would be right, but you and the Chiefs are neck and neck.
I understand that. My point being is the Chiefs weren't even the 1 seed this season.
In general, if you look over the next 3 seasons, who's going to be the favorite to be the number 1 seed? It's going to be the Chiefs.
It's weird.
The favorites, yes, but again, you bring Aaron Rodgers to the Broncos with that defense that was top 5 in total points given up, total yards given up.
Fangio, who's not there.
Which is fine for me because we still have the personnel. Pat Surtain was the league leader in QBR, the lowest QBR for rookie cornerbacks.
To maximize that personnel, you need somebody who can
And you guys want
Have
Dan Quinn.
a great
He's the
scheme.
favorite.
Again, I don't mind the Dan. I wouldn't say because I would like an offensive-minded head coach. I wouldn't mind the Dan Quinn signing because he has a history of bringing in a good group around him. Where in
Shanahan.
exactly. So I wouldn't mind that sense where you bring in a solid offensive mind to work with whatever quarterback that we bring in. I'm confident in that. Dan Quinn's going to do his job with the defense. We saw him have a revitalization to his career in Dallas.
Somewhat.
To a degree, I agree. But that being said, the person
head coaching looks.
Because of the turnovers and stuff, but they let up a lot of
But their
yards.
personnel,
No, I agree. I don't think-
isn't amazing. Like
I think Dan
it's
Quinn's
good.
fine, but I just don't see how. Like I tweet, like how do you look at the playoffs this week and be like, yeah, I want Dan Quinn to be my head coach. He's gonna be the guy to really take this team over the hump. No, it's gonna be Aaron
And what
Rodgers.
pisses
I
me off
stopped
ultimately
you.
is that we had a great defensive
probably
minded
the
head coach.
best.
Why are we going to get another one?
My point, 100%.
That's my big question.
I stopped you midway when you were talking. Is there a point that you wanted to make?
About Dan Quinn.
No, about
No,
the
before
Broncos
that.
and
No! I was just thinking about the other teams that he could possibly go to. When I look at the Broncos, I don't think he wants to compete with Mahomes. When I look at the Steelers, a battle line. Their defense is good, but it's not elite. They have some good outside weapons, but nothing up to Tay. The Giants are a mess. The Saints are done now because of Sean Payton. I think he either stays, he retires, or we just get like a surprise team like Tennessee somehow makes a push and goes after him. But other than that, I think he stays or retires.
I don't think he's retiring. He's actually already said that he's not retiring, like 100% not retiring,
So he stays.
which is cool. My gut feeling is telling me that he's going to be a Green Bay Packer next year. And you mentioned the Last Dance post. I feel like where he is now with Green Bay is way different than where he was with Green Bay.
That's pretty fair.
I think he was still getting over the Jordan Love pick at that time. Now he's probably built a better relationship with Jordan Love and isn't too mad about it because maybe, they like each other and they're cool now. And, he's like, okay, maybe this guy's not as bad of a dude. I'll give him a chance. So maybe that's coming into play a little bit. I do think the Packers just offer the best situation.
Yeah.
If the NFC North isn't a hard division at all, and the Packers are like one or a couple pieces away from really competing, first, they have to bring back their guys for sure. Elgton Jenkins is coming back next year, who got hurt this year. David Bakhtiari is going to be fully healthy. They just need what we've been saying they needed for the past couple of seasons. They need another receiver in this draft. There are some receivers who could slip that are really good receivers who would be great options. For example, maybe a Chris Olave slips into the 20s. He'd be an excellent option for
Jameson Williams
Aaron
off an
Rodgers.
ACL maybe.
So I think they're a couple pieces away, but they need to work out a way with the cap. And I think Green Bay will sign their main guys back. I think they will by restructuring some contracts and pushing some money to the back end. For one, before I get on to the analysis of the game, I just have a gripe with why we overrate the Broncos' weapons so much like they've proven anything.
Because they haven't had a quarterback. Can you stop talking recklessly like that, bro?
It's just ridiculous to me because that's such a gigantic big excuse. We saw
Cortland Sutton with no one had over 1,000.
We've seen wide receivers and we've seen wide receiver groups have great seasons without having a great quarterback. What happened? Just as recent memory, what happened with our team in 2015? Is Fitzpatrick a great quarterback? No. Did he have
a great season?
He had a great season because he had the weapons to have a great season.
He's better than every quarterback we've had since Peyton Manning's been gone.
Him and Teddy are really the same, bro. They're the same tier.
Fitz has a higher ceiling with a lower floor.
I agree.
Fitz is just more of a gunslinger. Yeah. That's what it is.
But that's going to give you more numbers.
Exactly.
And more interceptions as well.
100. That's why higher ceiling, lower floor.
Okay, I just think he's more of a gunslinger. Whatever. We have a different way of viewing the terminology. I just feel like, what have your receivers proved? At this point, I think you actually want to throw in Jerry Jeudy in this trade because you probably lost all faith he can be a number one in this league.
We would be getting Devontae Adams in that fake scenario that I threw out there.
Nuts.
I'd be lit.
That would be nuts. I heavily doubt Devontae goes.
People
there.
don't want that because I would never shut up. I would never shut up.
I know.
I'd be so through the roof.
But it's Jeudy, okay, and it's Tim Patrick who's good. But, he's okay.
I'm waiting for the Cortland Sutton. Because
it's Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton is very good.
Javonte Williams, I haven't heard him. Alberto, who you and I are both high on. Noah Fant.
Okay, Alberto.
Our offensive line's actually solid.
I'm more higher than in Madden than I am in real life. He has
he's just fast as
he has an 89 speed in Madden. He's ridiculous.
In real life, he's actually
good.
in real life, I think he's actually better than Noah Fant. Noah
I don't
Fant.
think so.
Noah Fant is not that good of a tight end. He's okay. He's
Again,
serviceable.
above average.
Get him
above
a
average.
real slinger.
But we were expecting
at
Noah Fant to be
quarterback.
what T.J.
break out.
Hawkinson became. T.J. Hawkinson.
Nah, I think Hawk. We all thought. I mean, he was what
Noah
the 9th
Fant-
overall pick.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Noah Fant was in the first round.
He was picked 23, something like that.
Yeah, but he was.
Hawk was definitely
the
high regard coming out.
the reason why Fant didn't go as high is because people are wary on drafting tight ends high. Teams at least.
Well, Hawk and Pitts.
I mean,
both
yeah,
went top 10.
Hawkinson.
I mean, Pitts is different, but
yeah, because he can line up as wide receiver, he
Yeah.
can do everything. But Noah Fant, to be honest, to me, he's just a serviceable guy. You know, he's not a game changer. He's not a Kelsey. He's not a Pitts. He's not a Mark Andrews. He's not that level of a player. Cortland Sutton is a very good receiver. He's not a top 20 receiver. He's not a true number one
I
receiver
don't think
in
he's
the
number
NFL.
one either.
He's
I
not a
think
true
Judy.
number
I think
one.
Judy could
Jerry
be.
Judy.
He needs to stay healthy.
I mean, you're
for
hoping.
sure.
Judy is the one that you're okay.
I mean,
we
rookie
hope
season, he
can
had
be it.
over 800 yards with Drew Lock.
I mean,
Give him an elite
Okay,
talent.
Jalen Waddle had 1,000 with Tua.
Okay, you're disrespecting Tua for what reason?
I'm just
yeah,
saying
I mean,
you
but
can have
Tua,
a
Waddle
receiver.
also saw 1,000 targets. He had
receiver-
You gave
115
Tua
catches.
our offensive line and Jerry Judy,
A
Cortland
receiver
Sutton,
can have
Fant.
an average quarterback and still put up numbers.
I mean, I saw T. Higgins play pretty well with Kyle. Kyle Allen's their backup last
Kyle
year,
Allen,
right?
yeah. They also had like a couple guys rotating.
Brandon
Yeah.
Allen.
Brandon Allen. I was
Brandon
going to say,
Allen,
because
yeah.
T. Higgins, I mean, he did his thing too, even with some lackluster
And Ryan
quarterback
Finley.
play.
Ryan Finley won them a game last year versus Steelers.
Definitely had some good
So I'm
games
saying
for him.
like just
T. Higgins fell off once Joe Burrow left. Fell off.
I'll look it up.
that's because T Higgins is a jump ball receiver.
That's rude.
I'm not saying
That is
like
kinda
that's the
rude.
only thing he is, but the reason why he was so great with Burrow is because Burrow's gonna take those chances and let him make plays. Those other quarterbacks are gonna be fearful of that. That's why. But
Okay.
I-
what does
th-
that have to
what
do
I'm-
with anything?
I'm
though?
saying that I just feel like you overrate how Aaron Rodgers may view Denver. I don't think
Aaron Rodgers makes these guys so much better.
I don't think Aaron Rodgers views Denver in a way of, oh my God, look
I
at the
agree, bro.
allure of. I don't think Aaron Rodgers looks at Denver as like, oh my God, look at the allure of weapons. If I just go here, it's a guaranteed championship. You think
You
that?
didn't even mention KJ Hamler either.
Who? What? Come on.
KJ Hamler, who's
Dude,
an
he's
explosive type player.
yes, he's good, but
He's super fast. I have him
KJ
in
Hamler's
Madden,
not
too.
the reason Rodgers
Enough
like,
of this having
he's
in
the
Madden.
guy.
I want you to talk about him in real life.
KJ Hamler's fast as
He
hell.
has a 96 speed in Madden. He's
I know, he's
insanely
fast, yeah.
Yeah, but in real life, he's good. But come on,
Again,
bro.
we're evaluating these guys without a true quarterback. Can we please?
Dude, I don't have to watch a receiver with a quarterback to think that he's good or not good.
So you don't think Jerry Judy's good?
I think Jerry Jeudy is good, but he's not what you think he is, which is an elite number one receiver.
He can be.
You think
Okay.
he could be like a top 8 receiver in the league?
He could be top 8's tough. It's a very talented
I
wide
know.
receiver league.
Top 12.
He can be one day with the right quarterback. Yeah,
Could he be better than Terry McLaurin?
it's a good comp.
Because McLaurin's probably in that like 12 to 15 range.
Yeah. McLaurin's tough because he's actually one of those guys that has had spotty quarterback play, but would just
been great.
force feeding the ball. Jerry Jeudy does not get force fed.
He also gets hurt.
That was a freak injury.
Did he get hurt his rookie year?
No,
He played 16?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I thought he got banged up. But yeah, I mean, this year
And that
was a little
first
bit
game,
different.
he came out the gate.
He looked great.
Oh my
he looked
God, he
phenomenal
looked
for sure. And
fantastic.
yeah, coming back from an ankle injury is really
Again,
hard to do.
get your licks in now. Next season's different.
Okay,
you
Braxton
get Rodgers,
Berrios looked
though,
great
bro.
for us.
And I think I'm in on Braxton though.
That's more just.
I understand what you're saying.
I will literally
He has
hand it.
Zach Wilson.
I will-
So you're disrespecting Zach Wilson?
Listen,
Are you gonna disrespect Zach Wilson?
I think you're on me with this. If Braxton Berrios is my third best receiver walking into the Jets next season, I will literally hand in my Zach Wilson jersey and never
Yeah, he's not gonna
represent
be.
Jets gear ever again.
He's not going to be our third receiver, bar an injury.
I mean, you guys have money. I'm sure you guys are gonna go spend it.
Yeah. Or
No,
trade
even
for
that,
one.
but he's just, come on, man.
Braxton Berrios is a nice
oh my
depth
gosh.
piece, but he's not.
He is a nice depth piece.
I don't think he's like your starting 3 receiver in the
No,
NFL
I
with
think
all the
he's
weapons
the
that are
asset.
out
Still,
there.
he was your most exciting player these last few weeks outside of Zach Wilson. Of
Yeah,
course.
well,
All
Corey
pro
Davis
kick
was
returner,
out,
yeah,
Elijah
sure,
Moore
for
was
sure.
out, Jameson Williams,
Yeah,
Jameson
all
Crowder
pro
was
kick
out.
returner.
Yeah,
No,
no,
he's a great kick returner.
Yeah, but
and
Devin
punt
Hester was the
returner.
best. He wasn't a good receiver.
Mm-hmm.
you
True,
know?
true. But he's actually shown you things on the
Yeah, no, for
offensive
sure.
side of the
No,
ball.
Braxton Berrios could ball, definitely, but I just don't know he could do it consistently
He's
over a
shown
16, 17
us
game
stuff
season.
when Mike LaFleur has designed these
Yes,
little
for sure.
gadgety plays.
He had some
for
good
him.
games because of the scheme too.
Yeah, Mike LaFleur, I'm very excited about. But let's talk about Green Bay.
Yeah, we haven't had a single offensive mind in Denver, not a single good one.
Well, that's why Dan Quinn is ludicrous to me.
I know, I agree.
Let's talk about the Packers for a second. Actually, let me give my input. The 49ers won 13-10. I thought this was going to be a very close game. The comments came back and kind of laughing at you, Drew, for saying it was going to be a smoke show. But I thought it was going to come down to the last possession. I think that Aaron Rodgers is getting a lot of unfair criticism for how this game went down. He didn't have a touchdown in this game, but I feel like we have to stop looking at the quarterback position so much when a team doesn't win. Like, oh my gosh. I understand the memes were very hilarious about Aaron Rodgers, but for people to think that he played this abysmal game is just so ridiculous to me. He had an okay game. He didn't make any ground-breaking plays because, for the most part, there wasn't any of those plays to really be made outside of maybe one or two plays that he had.
Agreed.
So there was no big-time plays he could make. But ultimately, you get measured by what the end result is. And the fact of the matter is that on the first drive, they got it going, they scored, and on their final 9 drives, they only scored 3 points, and they went 6 possessions in a row without a point. Aaron Rodgers' career, to this point, has been a bunch of what-ifs and excuses. Outside of his lone Super Bowl championship in 2010, that's what it's been. It's always been something else. The defense isn't good enough. The special teams, in this case versus the 49ers, they sold the game. But when the Niners scored on that punt return touchdown, the score was 10-10. Aaron Rodgers just had to get a field goal. He didn't have to get a touchdown. He just had to get maybe 4 first downs. Wasn't able to get any of those things. And that's why I think when we talk about Aaron Rodgers, there's a laundry list of stuff that we say before we look at him. And I think the football community has kind of, in a sense, grown tired of it. The same way that people praise Brady unanimously all the time when things go right, even though in the comeback versus the Rams, so many things had to happen for Brady to get cracks at it. It wasn't this mystical Brady had everything to do with it comeback. No, it was just a lot of dumb, boneheaded mistakes by the Rams. Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady are yin and yang. Tom Brady gets ultimate praise for all of the winning he does, despite having a great supporting cast. And sometimes it's not always him that does it. He can play average. The Patriots would still win. The Bucs would still win versus the Saints in the playoffs. He didn't have his best game. The Bucs still won. And Aaron Rodgers is the one that, okay, he doesn't have these groundbreaking games, but nobody blames him for them. It's everything else around him. So for Brady, it's everything that's working for him, even though he gets the credit. For Aaron Rodgers, it's nothing working around him. And for the most part, people are giving him the blame.
This year, he had an all-world defense.
Yeah.
So
who?
The Packers.
No, they didn't have an all-world defense.
They had a great defense.
They were like top 5 scoring defense.
Scoring defense to me is a very flawed stat. Because
every stat to you seems flawed when it's not your narrative.
Like, bro?
Honest to God.
It's because football is such a complicated game.
It is, but isn't the most important thing points?
Bro, football is such a complicated game that the basic stats don't measure what's actually going on the football field.
If I let up 17 points per game, what's complicated about that?
Well, who did you face that you let up those 17 points?
We played 17 games.
I just mentioned you.
I let up 6 points. My defense let up 6 points against the Niners.
The Bills were the first best team against the pass this year, but I don't think they were the best team against the pass. I think there were other teams better against the pass than the Bills.
Did the Packers not show you multiple times throughout the season that they have an elite defense?
I think they have a great defense, but they played a great game. What didn't they do?
Yeah, they played great.
My number one concern with the Packers, I mean, they had the 18th ranked defense against the run, 31st in yards per attempt, and against the run, they were pretty good. They were great against the 49ers outside of that Debo third down conversion where Jair just missed the tackle because Jair missed the tackle because his shoulder Still recovering. I think he made kind of a financial decision on that. But the defense played great. The defense played great. But I'm not saying that just
there
because
was a game where you told me that the Packers defense held their opposing team to 6 points
and you lose
at Lambeau Field. Come on.
But then you don't mention the special teams. All year long, the Packers have had an abysmal special teams unit.
Terrible.
It's just always something.
There was a year
with Rodgers, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Always something.
There was a year with Phillip Rivers and the Chargers that they had the first-ranked offense and first-ranked defense and didn't make the playoffs because they had the 32nd ranked special teams unit. So the special teams does play a large part. I'm not saying
it doesn't play a large part because I agree with what you're saying. However, you're telling me Aaron Rodgers can't score more than how many points did they give up? 10. Was it 10? They scored 10 points. They needed more than 13.
That's what I'm saying right now. That's what I was going with.
Come on.
He needed a field goal on that last drive that he got the possession, and he didn't get it.
No.
And those are the moments that separate Rodgers from those other quarterbacks. Brady has 14 game-winning drives in the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers has 2. But you look at Aaron Rodgers' history. 2014, lost the NFC Championship to Seattle, 22-28. And Seattle won the overtime toss, and they won the game. 2015, lost to Arizona, 26-20. Arizona won in OT. 2016, lost in the NFC Championship to Atlanta. That was a smoke show. Atlanta beat them 44-21. 2019, they lost 20-37 against San Fran in the NFC Championship. Just last year, they lost to the Bucs 26-31 in the NFC Championship. These are just the moments that Aaron Rodgers hasn't gotten over the hump. And I think that's the main critique on him. But to blame everything on him is I don't think it's justified. I don't think it's fair.
I'm not blaming everything on him. I'm giving him some blame. You're the supposed best quarterback in the NFL. Yeah. I need you to put up points. I'm sorry. With all due respect, I need to see it.
I don't love the whole Brady to Rodgers comparison because Brady made guys like Edelman and Wes Welker who were nothing. They were late-round picks, guys who got cut in the past. He had issues with Belichick, with McDaniels, with Jimmy, the whole Jimmy G situation. It's not like it was a layup for Brady in New Orleans.
We say that, but just because Edelman was a late-round guy doesn't mean he wasn't a good player.
No, I agree.
But we're not going to give him. We're not going to give Brady got cut by Miami. Great.
I'm going to give Brady credit.
Chris Hogan, great.
Yeah, Chris Hogan wasn't
Chris
great.
Hogan had a great year.
Exactly. He was serviceable.
No, he had one great year.
Danny Amendola.
Danny Amendola was good with the Rams before that.
He was good, but did he elevated his play once
he didn't make him great though. But
in the Super Bowl, he had an amazing game against the Seahawks.
Okay, you can have an amazing game. Gabriel Davis just had an amazing game.
But all right, but you just spoke to me how you're so high on Gabriel Davis.
I like Gabe Davis. After this game, just because he had a great game in the playoffs, are you elevating him as a top 15 receiver in the league?
Am I saying that
he just had the most touchdowns in playoff history? So what? Just because
Gabriel Davis had an all-time great playoff performance.
Okay, so
Edelman should be a Hall of Famer due to his playoff performance.
Just because Amendola had a great game doesn't mean that I think he's an overall great receiver.
He had a solid career.
Yeah,
he was a very good player.
But he was. When you needed him the most in the Super Bowl, he was able.
And what happened in 2019? Did Brady elevate those guys, or did they lose to the Titans in the wild card?
His last year there, that team was not that good. The offense was bad. The
offense
was terrible. He had no weapons.
And you're asking a 38-year-old Brady with zero weapons to get them.
And that was that was literally the 1 year he didn't get anything done.
Yeah.
I mean,
look at the last 15 years before.
I'm not asking him to do anything. I'm just saying that let's just not attribute everything.
I know, but it would be different.
And I disagree with that sentiment because I don't know how many times I've heard early on in Brady's career that he needs to thank Adam Vinatieri. He needs to thank his defense for getting him what he has.
Belichick.
It was only until after that Super Bowl against the Seahawks where people started to say, truly acknowledge Brady and everything that he did.
Gets the benefit of the doubt too, because he's been to Super Bowls. He's won an NFC championship. Rodgers hasn't.
You're arguing.
He has one Super Bowl appearance.
You're arguing something that is not even a point that I'm bringing up. You're
saying Brady gets all the praise. He doesn't.
Yes, he does.
I just told you he gives people would say that the defense is the reason why Tom Brady
won. Hold debate between Belichick and Brady.
Hold up. Listen. First of all, I started this by saying Aaron and Brady are the yin and yang. Aaron Rodgers, there's always an excuse with him. He didn't get it done because of this. With Brady, I mentioned all of the critiques that go his way, having these top defenses, having one of the best coaches. We all know that Brady gets critique, But after the career that he's had,
That's not how you started it.
yes, I did. I literally you can replay back the footage. Maybe you heard it
That's
wrong.
exactly why I'm telling you why I said what I said. It seemed as if you're saying that Brady only gets praise when his team wins, similar to how when LeBron wins, he gets all the credit. When he loses, it's on his team.
Let me ask you something. If the Buccaneers pull out that win versus the Rams on Sunday, what's the narrative?
Brady's the GOAT.
Undisputed. Oh my gosh, came back from 28-3 and now 27-3. He is out of this world, despite the center freaking throwing it 20 yards over Stafford's head, despite Cam Akers fumbling and giving the Bucs perfect field position. But the narrative would have been Brady, right? We're going to have this constant disagreement. I don't think football is all on one guy. Yes, the football position gets the most, it is in charge of most of the game and has a big responsibility. They have the ball in their hands the most. But for me, I think it's an all-around effort. And the same way that Brady gets praised when he wins, I don't think it's fair that Rodgers gets criticized when he loses, because I don't think he had a bad game.
But Rodgers had this all-time season MVP year, just like he has year in and year out. And then in the playoffs, his game tends to go down.
And what
if you look at his
happened-
stats,
and what happened-
his stats are better in the regular season than in the postseason.
That's almost every single quarterback.
Not the great ones.
Tom Brady's numbers in the playoffs go down than
But-
his versus the ones in the regular season.
Rodgers' stats goes down and he loses.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying right there. Just because he loses, I am not pointing the finger at him more.
Because Rodgers is also the only consistent piece there for 10 seasons. The defense changed, the line changed, the coaches changed, the receivers changed, but Rodgers is the consistent.
The difference is that, for one, you act like not having consistency is a good thing. The inconsistent
saying
parts
that.
around Rodgers is actually a bad thing, versus Brady being in a consistent system with Belichick, with McDaniels for
If
years
it
on
works,
end.
it should be. It worked for them for 10
so
years.
it's
Man,
great.
he went over a decade without a championship. It wasn't always consistent.
Yeah, but they made it far. They made it there. They lost, but they made it there.
There was consistency early in Brady's career because they had a great defense. Obviously, things work out.
There wasn't that
different
consistent
change.
because there was some on and
They
off
won
signings.
3 championships in 4 years.
When they went to
That's pretty
when they went
consistent.
to the Super Bowl their first year, the next year they missed the playoffs.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't until
And
they
then they
got
went
Rodney
back-to-back.
Harrison. Yeah, okay, but it wasn't always that consistent.
3 championships in 4 years is
Pretty damn
consistent, bro.
consistent.
Come on now.
What I'm saying is
And then
that
again, 10
you
years.
guys don't let me finish. You guys don't let me
I'm
finish.
just saying you're a little bit all over the place.
I'm not all over the place. You guys are just not listening correctly. Just because Rodgers loses, I'm not putting the blame on him more. You mentioned, but Rodgers' stats in the playoffs go down. Look at Drew Brees' numbers in the regular season versus playoffs. Look at Tom Brady's numbers in the regular season versus playoffs. They all go down. The difference is that Tom Brady can have stinker games in the playoffs. The Patriots, for the most part, will find ways to win. Aaron Rodgers, if he has a stinker, and even the game on Sunday wasn't a stinker. It was an okay game.
It was bad for Rodgers. That's a bad game for Aaron Rodgers.
It was like, for example, the question I always ask myself when I watch quarterbacks play, when I watch the film, what was he supposed to do there? The 49ers are just great. It's just whenever
I don't like that though.
whenever
You're
things
supposed to be
happen,
great. Make something happen.
whenever things happen in sports and there's a loser, we tend to, especially when it's a figure as big as Rodgers and he's as disliked as Rodgers, we all point the finger and say, oh my gosh, he's the reason why. Instead of just saying, I mean, the 49ers really were fucking great against them. Aaron Rodgers can't have stinkers. If he has stinkers, he loses. Even when he has great games, he loses. So that's how it happens with Aaron Rodgers. So I don't put all the blame on Rodgers just for losing this
But
game.
none of us put all the blame on him. But he's a reason why they lost.
And you mentioned
I
to
don't
me
think
all
he's
the games
a reason why they lost.
All the games that he had gone out on, they were giving up a lot of points in those games. And I'm with you, right? I'm with you. Rodgers put his team in great scenarios offensively to be at least in the game. The defense couldn't hold up. Only difference is this season, defense actually did their job. And they needed him to do his, and he couldn't do it against the Niners defense, which credit to them 100%. Like you said, they played a great job. They had a great game plan against the Green Bay Packers offense, and that's credit to them. But you're Aaron Rodgers. You're in Lambeau Field. You need to make something happen. Is that so wrong of me to ask of him?
You had drive after drive. You had all the opportunity at halftime, going back to the sideline, talking to the
it's
floor.
Aaron Rodgers.
What's
You,
happening?
before the season, had Aaron Rodgers as your number one quarterback.
I think he's still there to me.
And okay, and I'm not going to totally disagree with that sentiment by any means.
It's really
but
between a three-man race.
Is it too much for me to ask Aaron Rodgers to score more than 10 points? When his defense holds them, even special teams, there was a total of 13 points in the game.
It really depends because in that game, when it started to snow, I mean, for one, it was a blizzard. When it started to snow, for one, the Packers couldn't run the ball the entire game. They really struggled, especially in the second half.
Well, in the first half, they did a great job of running the football, but you're right. Then they clamped it.
That's when the snow really picked up.
When the snow picked up in the second half,
Agreed.
I remember a lot of plays where receivers were slipping. Randall Cobb slipped on a route that he would have been open.
This is where the Packers are supposed to thrive in. This is why they play in Lambeau. This is why they have the best home field advantage.
It doesn't matter, bro. If the field is slippery, a guy's freaking human. Just because he's used to the cold weather doesn't mean he's not going to slip. Like, come on. Like, what are we talking about here? It was started to snow. The field starts to get slippery.
The 49ers made more plays. They made it happen because they just ended up winning.
They went through the exact same things.
You're right. The 49ers made more plays. And this is the thing. The 49ers won in spite of having Jimmy G at quarterback.
Yeah.
To me, the Packers lost because of just embarrassing plays. Like the special teams won both times, getting your field goal kick blocked, and then the punt return, the punt block that was returned for a touchdown. This is one of the worst units in the entire NFL. The Packers were only in the game because of Aaron, because he didn't make mistakes.
They were in the game because of the defense,
the
bro.
The defense is legitimately the only reason the game was close.
They gave up 6 points.
If you swap a quarterback on that Packers team and he's the one making those plays, he's making a stupid decision to get something going, getting intercepted, and the 49ers would have capitalized on it.
The defense was playing so good. Take your shots downfield. Go and do the one-on-one jump balls to whoever it is. If it's Lazard, it's probably not going to be Tay. MVS was a huge inactive because he was the reason why they didn't have a deep threat.
So you're telling me take a shot to Alan Lazard? That's what you're telling me?
He was wide open. What do you mean? And
you can't get anything going. What's the worst that happens?
You're telling me about one play, but I'm talking about
in general. What's the worst that happens? You take a deep shot, you get intercepted, and they get the ball at the 30 or 40. Your defense left 6 points all game. What's going to happen? They'll probably end up punting, just like they did all game. They had 6 points.
So you're telling me you'd rather have Rodgers throw an interception?
Get the offense going. They scored 10 points, bro. Whatever they were doing was not working. You could go through all 2021.
It wasn't.
It was not working. So try something.
So just because that wasn't working, I'm going to go 4 verticals. That's
Burrow
the
threw the
solution.
most interceptions in the league. He's in the AFC chip.
Who, Burrow?
Yeah.
Well,
Stafford was up there too. He's in the NFC chip.
Well, why? Because they have they have better rosters around them.
Taking shots downfield, throwing interceptions, not the end of the world.
Y'all both chose the Packers as your Super Bowl to at least make the Super Bowl. What are we saying that they have better rosters?
They have a better roster than the Rams, bro. Is that not a fact?
I believe that, yes, but you guys said that they're going to the Super Bowl, so I don't understand how this roster wasn't great.
Because Aaron Rodgers is the elite of the elite, and
I trust Aaron Rodgers. I don't trust the Packers team more than the Rams.
I mean, having a top 5 defense definitely played into it too.
I don't trust them more than the Rams. I mean, I don't trust the Rams have a better roster, but just because they have a better roster doesn't mean that I'm going to choose the Rams over the Packers to make it to the Super Bowl.
Do they have a better overall roster?
Yes, their offensive line is better. Their receivers are better. Their secondary is probably around the same level, but with Jair out for most of the year.
Eric Stokes has played great this season.
Eric Stokes has been
they both have
down.
great rosters. But the deciding factor
the
for
defensive
both
line
of us
for the Rams is better. Like, what
the
are we talking
deciding
about
factor
here?
for both of us was Green Bay has Rodgers and they have Stafford.
Yeah, it's the
that was the
quarterback.
deciding factor.
But it's either or though. Just because I think the Packers would have made it doesn't mean I think they have
just
the
gets
better
conservative
roster.
at times. He hates throwing
20/20,
interceptions. It's every year he's always towards the bottom in interceptions, which is great. But when your offense isn't going, take shots down the field, make something happen.
You mentioned that Burrow thing, but since like week 14, Burrow hasn't thrown an interception outside of like last week where he threw one against Tennessee this past Saturday. But
Burrow still went 13 weeks and we're still in position to go into the playoffs.
But Burrow towards the end of the season was near perfect, bro.
Yeah, he played great for
sure. He was near perfect, so he wasn't doing that.
Even still, bro, Stafford was up there in interceptions as well.
And the Bengals' offense has been kind of money these past 2 weeks. If they play how they played versus the Titans and Raiders against the Chiefs, it's not going to be a close game.
They'd get killed.
Yeah, because they haven't been playing that great of football. I just disagree with this whole narrative. Oh, just because nothing was working for Aaron in the Packers offense, just fucking throw it up there.
Dude, bro,
like,
do
come
something.
on, bro. What the fuck?
Do
like,
something.
Come on.
Bro, you scored 10
serious?
points. You scored 10 points.
So if
you want them to continue doing the same thing that they've been doing and failing?
Punt,
Bro,
block,
they
field
were
goal,
calling
punt,
plays.
punt.
Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
I mean,
that's what they were doing.
Football is a game of chess. If you call a play and the defense calls a play to counteract that, it's just not going to
The
work.
worst thing
So
that
why not
happens,
change it up
you
and
throw
do
a
something
deep
else?
pass.
Well, you can change it up, and then the
intercept
defense calls a play that matches what
Worst
you're
thing,
doing.
you throw an interception. The 49ers have their ball on the side of the field. They scored 6 offensive points the entire game. I am not that worried.
So by your logic, you're telling me if Steph Curry misses 8 straight threes, he should just take a half-court shot because nothing's working anyway.
That makes no sense.
Can you stop using dumb analogies?
That's what you're telling me.
That
Just
was-
because the shallows aren't working,
football.
just
It's
throw it
football.
four verticals.
That's completely
Just
different.
throw it up to
It's
Alan
football.
Yeah,
Lazard.
it's different, and you know
He
it's
was
different.
wide open, Lazard. So you keep saying Lazard.
He was wide open on one play, bro.
That could have changed the entire
that's a terrible
game.
analogy, bro.
That analogy was ass.
It was
It
bad.
wasn't. It's just
Dude, it was
It was
terrible.
basically what you're telling me.
You're
but in
saying
a
Steph
better
Curry
term.
should shoot a
It's
half-court
football.
shot.
It's
Steph
completely
Curry.
different.
You're
You drunk?
You're telling me because a play's not working, I'm just gonna
Nothing
throw it
was
up.
working.
I'm just gonna
Nothing
because of
was
that, I'm
working.
just gonna throw it up.
You're making it seem like you just 4 verts every play, but no, they were extremely conservative. They were not throwing the ball down the field at all.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Because Rodgers hates throwing picks.
No, because the 49ers do a great job of limiting big time plays, and nothing was open down the field. That's why it was. Like, we act like football
Aaron
is.
Jones didn't have he didn't
70-yard catch. It was broke. It was more broken miscommunication than anything, but still.
It was a zone coverage. He just ran right by the
I mean, the
corner and
49ers
safety.
run zone all the time. That's why they don't allow big plays. Their scheme is one of the best in the NFL, and they are so disciplined in their scheme.
The Packers showed the ability to have a big play on this defense, is what I'm saying. You're telling me that they couldn't happen again? Not one other time in this game? Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams.
There wasn't room for it. If it, like, this the thing, though. Like, I feel like just because they had one big-time play. You don't think that after that big-time play, the 49ers said, man, we messed up here. We have to do a better job doing this, so we're going to scheme this right here. And they adjusted. And then that's why they didn't let any more, it's not a coincidence that after the first drive, the Packers stalled on offense. This is the same 49ers defense that held the first scoring offense in the NFL in the Cowboys to 17 points. And it was much worse than it looked because Jimmy G almost let him back into the game.
But the Cowboys' offense was bad down the stretch. We've talked about this. They had a great game against the Eagles against their backups.
I never said the offensive. I never said that for one. Maybe you said it.
Didn't you not just say
No.
the number one Cowboys offense?
No, I said the Cowboys, over the past month, their schedule hasn't been difficult. They faced teams that haven't been that great. I've never said the Cowboys offense wasn't good. They're a great elite offense. And in back-to-back weeks, the 49ers have basically shut down 2 of the top elite offenses in the NFL. At some point, are we just gonna say the 49ers have a great freaking defense? Like, why is it just Aaron Rodgers just throw it up, do something? Maybe it's the 49ers are just so good and disciplined in their scheme that there wasn't room for it. It just wasn't.
The 49ers allowed the 13th most 20-plus yard passes and the 10th most 40-plus yard passes. They're not elite against big plays.
That's very early in the season. They changed up their scheme. From weeks 1 to 12, they ran man-to-man cover 1 about 27% of the time. From week 12 to now, they're running cover 1 less. So they're running less man. They're only running man 12% of the time. They're running zone like 70% of the time now. And that's what's really changed up their defense. The fact that they're running zone so much. That's why I just don't feel like we got to blame Rodgers for this. Rodgers had...
Again, I didn't say that this is all on Rodgers. But you're telling me you're not asking him to step up a little bit more? That's irrational of me.
If the special teams doesn't get totally annihilated and the 49ers don't score that touchdown, the Packers win this game.
I'm not trying to talk about hypotheticals, though.
The Packers win this game, and Rodgers wins the game, and nobody's talking about this.
We're going to say that he won playing a mediocre game.
But we're still going to be saying he won, and now he's going to the NFC Championship.
I guess again, we're talking about hypotheticals. What
It's not a hypothetical. It's just that for some reason, sports fans love doing this so much that it's just winning bias. Just because somebody won, they get, somebody won. Oh, we're going to not even talk about it. Oh, you won. Great. That's good. You're moving on. If you lost, oh my gosh, you get all the freaking blame.
They didn't praise the Niners for being the number 1 seeded Packers.
Nobody's talking about Jimmy G stinkers, bro.
What are you talking about? First thing I saw today is Josh Allen versus Jimmy Garoppolo. Josh Allen basically perfect. Jimmy G 3-3. But what do you say? Like no one's talking about it?
Jimmy G has been awful in the playoffs. He's been awful. He's an average quarterback. Had he lost versus the Packers, the narrative right now is where is he getting traded to? Because he won and he's going to the NFC Championship and now the 49ers have a chance to go to the Super Bowl, the narrative is, the 49ers might have to start Jimmy G next year because he's taken them this far.
I think we just said Jimmy G hasn't been playing well in the playoffs. I don't think anyone's looking at this team and being like, Jimmy G's the guy. He's the reason they're in this spot.
Nobody's saying that, but you don't think this run right now is raising up Jimmy G's value?
Oh, of course it is.
Why?
The value is being raised.
Winning.
The value is being raised, yes, but I don't think anyone internally in the 49ers organization or the NFL is thinking,
they have drafted Trey Lance 3rd overall if they didn't believe that there's an heir apparent underneath Jimmy G.
Bro, early in the season, the 49ers literally came out with a report that said anything outside of a Super Bowl run and we're moving off from Jimmy G. The standard for Jimmy G was get us to the Super Bowl. If not, we're moving off.
Even if he keeps playing like he has been, he's still going to get moved.
If he goes to the Super Bowl, like we've seen Rex Grossman go on a run like this, and I'm not saying
Nick
he's
Foles.
Rex like, dude, it happens. It happens.
And when Nick Foles went on that run, what was the narrative going into the Eagles offseason?
The difference is it was Nick Foles played well. Jimmy G has not. That's the difference.
Okay, but you guys are missing the point.
I understand your point wholeheartedly.
The point is that because the 49ers won, the narrative isn't when are the Niners moving off from Jimmy G.
This isn't my narrative, so I guess that's not why I'm seeing you.
Well, I mean, because, I don't know, bro. I feel like it's pretty mainstream right now, like what's the talk around.
It's like, I'm sure people want to talk about Aaron Rodgers losing to Jimmy Garoppolo, who did not play well. I'm sure that's what they want to talk about.
The narrative right now is Aaron Rodgers is a choker. Is that not the narrative?
It is. It is the narrative.
The same way the narrative with Jimmy G right now is, wow, if he goes on his run, the 49ers might have to stick with him next year.
Unless he dominates against the Rams and plays amazing in the Super Bowl, he's going to get moved still. There's no reason why the 49ers could do the same thing they've been doing this whole postseason row with Trey Lance.
I don't know. I really don't.
Bro, Garoppolo's been so mid.
I know Garoppolo's been mid. I just don't know if Lance is ready for the moment yet. I just don't.
I think next year he'll be ready.
I think Lance is going to develop into a really good, probably great quarterback, especially under Shanahan. But I still think Jimmy G gives them the best chance to win, even though Lance has more potential.
If you want to talk just this season, sure. But even still, like we saw, if you do the bare minimum like Jimmy G's doing, they're still right in position to go to the Super Bowl. I think Trey Lance could do the bare minimum. Maybe he'll make more mistakes because he's a rookie, but we've seen Jimmy G throw interceptions in these last 2 games too.
Yeah, we've seen it, but from Jimmy G, it's more of like, this is the difference. With Trey Lance, and this is what would happen with the 49ers. If the 49ers would start Trey Lance and he loses the game, they're going to question Kyle Shanahan's coaching to a T.
Are you talking this game or like week 3, you're saying? Like, what are you saying?
No, I'm just saying, let's just say Kyle Shanahan, midway through the season, said, we're starting Trey Lance over Jimmy G.
Okay.
Had they not made the playoffs with Trey Lance, had they even made the playoffs and lost in the playoffs with Trey Lance, it would have been, you started him too early. Jimmy G should have been the guy.
I don't know, bro.
Right now, Kyle Shanahan's doing this because Jimmy G hasn't lost a job yet.
I don't think that if they would have started Trey Lance midseason, got to the playoffs, beat the Cowboys, and then lost to the Packers, I don't think anyone's questioning Shanahan because most people also probably believe all of the fans wanted to see Trey Lance. Everyone knows what Jimmy G is. Trey Lance is the exciting, he's the hotness.
You just took what I said and flipped it and said, okay, but if he does win those things,
But you said if he goes to the playoffs.
No, I said if he loses, there's a lot of controversy and backlash that Kyle Shanahan would face because he went with Trey Lance instead of Jimmy Garoppolo.
You think if they went to the playoffs and they lost round 1, people would be questioning Shanahan? I think there's no way. I think if you go to the playoffs with a rookie quarterback,
if Trey Lance has a stinker, yes, absolutely. and they lose the game. Or even if they lose the game.
Well, we have 100 things to unpack here. How does Trey Lance play over the last 10 weeks? How does he
look?
We're
living in a hypothetical scenario with everything you're throwing at us.
No, it's because you guys are failing to meet me where I'm at. The reason why the Niners have stuck with Jimmy G is because as average or bad as he played, he hasn't completely lost the job yet. And
now you can't turn on him. You're in the chip.
Exactly. But despite his numbers, you can't turn on him, even though he's been horrible.
If he had this bad it was really just these last 2 games, but he would have needed to have probably a 3 to 4 game stretch and lost 3 of those games for them to really think, all right, let's move over to Trey Lance.
Why can't you turn on him?
You can't turn on him now. You're in the NFC Championship game.
He did not play like ass in the regular season. He actually was more than serviceable.
So that's what I'm saying, is that he hasn't lost the job yet.
I agree.
And if Kyle Shanahan made a move of starting Trey Lance over Jimmy G,
but when would he have done that?
He wouldn't have.
Can I finish?
But I'm asking, at what point in the season would he have done that?
Let's just say right now, Kyle Shanahan's like, you know what? Jimmy G was about to lose his game versus the Packers, almost lost his game versus the Cowboys. He's not playing well. Lance, you're starting the NFC Championship. And the Niners lose.
Duh.
The backlash is, why'd you start Lance?
Obviously. What's your point there?
My point is that Jimmy G hasn't lost a job. You're the one that wanted Lance to start, bro. I'm saying Lance hasn't earned that starting spot yet because Jimmy G hasn't lost it. You get backlash for the decisions you make that don't turn out correct. Like, yes, Kyle Shanahan could very well start Trey Lance, but if it goes bad, he's going to get more backlash than if he loses with Jimmy G.
I had no problem with them starting Jimmy G to start off the season. I didn't think Jimmy G was going to play this well.
But you're not understanding me.
I'm agreeing with everything you're saying.
Because Jimmy G has made it this far, the backlash of Kyle Shanahan making a move like starting Lance would be far too grand for the organization to handle because Jimmy G hasn't.
About that.
You just mentioned it earlier, bro.
Mentioned what?
You just talked about how Kyle Shanahan wouldn't receive backlash if he started Lance.
No, he wouldn't receive backlash if he made it to the playoffs and lost round 1.
We were talking about if midway through the season he switched to Lance, made the playoffs, and lost. I said he would not receive backlash. If he starts Trey Lance tomorrow, yes, he's going to, especially if you lose, yes, 100%, obviously.
That's what I've been saying, bro.
That's why I said I agree with you.
Yeah, okay, but you've been like changing up your word.
No, bro, because originally you're the one who's
throwing at us, bro.
Originally, you're the one who said if you start Trey Lance in the middle of the season and go to the playoffs, would he receive backlash? I said no. Now you're saying if you start in the NFC Championship game, yes, we're in agreement.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Okay,
so
we're all friends.
Matthew Stafford. Actually, before we go on to our next topic, a quick word from DraftKings. We're on to the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is celebrating with huge odds boosts for new customers. Counting down to Super Bowl 56, new customers can get 56-1 odds on any team. Bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still get in on the action of the divisional round. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Football Contest. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code TBPN, and get 56-1 odds on any NFL team. Bet just $5 and win $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code TBPN for 56-1 odds at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The LA Rams beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this past weekend. Matthew Stafford had a really great game. Now, do you think that Stafford proved himself by winning that game?
Real quick before we get into it, Leftwich looks like he's the leading candidate for the
Jaguars.
job.
That's lit. That's really cool. Good for him. Now, I know that the Rams almost blew this game, and it was pretty devastating to sit through that. As a Rams supporter this year, I do believe in the Rams. I do think that they're going to go to the Super Bowl, ultimately take it home. That being said, sitting through that comeback was hard. It was very difficult.
I hated it.
27-3 to see it go to 27-7. Your heart sinks to your balls. It was horrible. It was really brutal for me. But now in hindsight, as hindsight is so crystal clear 2020, I wouldn't want it any other way. Not any other way. Because you get the ball back, it's 41 seconds, right? But then Matthew Stafford takes the ball and scrambles, pulls it Dak Prescott. I'm freaking out. I don't understand why he's doing this. He almost fumbles the ball. Now it's 30 seconds. No timeout. 2 plays. You have to go down the field in 2 plays now. No timeouts. You got to get on the line. You got to spike. You got to get out of bounds. You got to do something. One throw to Cooper Kupp. Crosser over the middle. Gets out of bounds. Next play. Play of the game. Probably the play of Matthew Stafford's entire career. Pressure in his face. Poetic. Ndamukong Suh is coming up the middle. All in his face. Stafford has the poise to stay in the pocket. Let a strike go 40, 50 yards. On the money. Perfect. Right in the breadbasket to Cooper Kupp, who has been excellent all season. He was excellent this game. He was a 10 out of 10. Both of them were the team MVPs. And Staffy makes the throw of his life and puts the Rams in field goal position and Matt Gay to win the game for the Rams. In hindsight, this is everything I could have wanted, because all season I've had to sit in this chair and wait for a moment like this from Matthew Stafford, because my friend, my dear friend, Joel Moran, at Joel V. Moran on Twitter, constantly would remind me that Stafford has not been this performer in the playoffs. Hasn't had a playoff win. He can't trust Matthew Stafford until he sees him in the big game. I don't trust Matthew Stafford. I can't do it. I've heard that so many times on this show. Oh, my God, it made me sick. Because I know in my heart who Matthew Stafford is. He's shown it to me time and time again in Detroit. But because it was in Detroit, it means less, apparently, even though they're arguably the worst organization in football history. So now he comes in, and with the most pressure he's probably ever felt in his life, he just blew a 27-3 lead. Even though he didn't really blow it, the team did everything they could to let the Buccaneers back in this game.
So now football's a team game. Okay.
I've always made it a team game. I don't know what this guy's talking about. That being said, Cam Akers fumbles the ball. The center shoots it over Matthew Stafford's head. He shoots it back like 15 yards. Buccaneers are able to recover it. Immediately right after, Von Miller swipes the ball from Tom Brady. It was such a roller coaster of emotions for me. But now all the pressure was on Matthew Stafford. You had to have Matthew Stafford pick you guys up when you basically shut him out the entire second half. You said, hey, let's run this clock out. Let's try and just burn as much as we can. Matthew, you did enough for us. You played a great job. You've done a great job for us already. You killed them in the first half. You don't need to do anything else. Now his number's called on again. Almost 28 minutes later, 29 minutes later to come and make a play for them. And when you need him most, he steps up to the plate and hits a home run. I don't want to hear it ever again. I don't want to hear it ever again, because the pressure he must have been feeling, well, maybe it's Matthew Stafford. He probably felt no pressure at all. He knew who he is, very confident in who he is. He knew that he can make a play that exciting, that extravagant in one of the biggest moments of the season. The biggest moment of the season for the Rams, without a doubt. 27-27 after being up 27-3. There's no more pressure that you could be feeling as a quarterback, as a player on the opposing team. Cam Akers understands that they're coming back. Oh, wow. I got to get this first down. I'm feeling all this stress. I'm feeling all this pressure I haven't felt before in my life. And I go and I fumble the football and give the Buccaneers a chance to go tie this game. And they do. Now, Cam Akers must be feeling like garbage. But then he must have remembered, oh, wow, I have a teammate in Matthew Stafford that has been in some pretty high leverage scenarios in his career and knows how to get it done, and showed it this Sunday. It's quiet. There's nothing anyone can say about Matthew Stafford. Job's not done. Job is not done. No way, no how. Because he's going to prove it this upcoming weekend against San Fran, who they've struggled against this season, 0-2. McVay has struggled against Shanahan in his career, hasn't picked up a W. But I find it very hard to believe that a team, a division rival, is going to lose 3 times in a row. We saw it last season with the Buccaneers and the Saints. Saints got their number twice that season. Wasn't even close in the regular season. When it mattered, Tampa Bay came to play. History is going to rewrite itself. We're going to see the Rams coming away with this W against the Niners. And Matthew Stafford's going to go to the Super Bowl, and he's going to show everyone continuously, as he's done all year, that he's that dude. I never doubt him for a second.
I think that when actually experiencing the SoFi Stadium atmosphere, it's going to be a tough game for the 49ers. We'll preview the game later. I thought Matthew Stafford played a damn near perfect game. And versus Arizona, he played pretty much the same way, but it was a lot of gimmies versus Arizona. There was a lot of, I thought the offense worked in his favor much more for him to make these easy plays and for me to question it a little bit more, his playoff performances. But versus the Bucs pretty much shut down the run somewhat, even though they got some pretty good gains throughout the game. But Matthew Stafford, for the most part, was pretty much flawless as a quarterback and making his reads, being gutsy, making big-time throws. My question with Stafford never was if he's a great quarterback. I've always thought Stafford was a great quarterback, and before this season, I said this is the year he shows everybody he's a top 10 quarterback. I had him ranked as a top 10 quarterback before the season started. I put Dak Prescott just outside my top 10. Matthew Stafford was infused in my top 10.
Oh, boy.
My question with Stafford was always in the playoffs, how is he going to perform? And so far, he's been great. He's, right now, the face of it's bad situations, not the quarterback. For the majority of Matthew Stafford's career, it's always been exactly what the game was looking like it was going to end. It was always his teammates making a mistake. It was always his team not being good enough around him. The center snapping the ball way too high. Those are mistakes that happen in Detroit. Running backs fumbling, costing him games. Stafford saw that and was like, this has happened to me before. I've been in this position before. I thought Todd Bowles made an egregious mistake.
I can agree with
by
you there.
calling a zero blitz. I thought that was, for one, Stafford's been one of the best quarterbacks against the blitz. A zero blitz in that position when you have no defensive back that can cover Cooper Kupp was the dumbest play that I've seen. That, I mean,
It was bad.
You
It's
only
like Greg Williams against the Raiders last
it
year.
was such a dumb play. I was really in shock.
They had a
And if-
bigger agenda, though.
and if
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp had been a little bit faster,
God.
he probably scores on that touchdown. For Matt Gay to miss a field goal, 5 yards short, a 40-yard field goal. Things like that just don't happen, not even in scripts of movies. Actually, they do because football movies are very cheesy.
Mhm.
Right now, Matthew Stafford should feel very fortunate that the Rams didn't blow this game. Because the exact argument I
Wow.
was having with you guys last segment about narratives, Matthew Stafford wins, what's the narrative? Can never doubt Stafford again. Stafford proved himself. Had the Rams lost, the narrative is, man, another disappointing season. Man, the Rams traded 2 first-round picks for this guy, even though he had a great game.
I don't know, bro.
That's the winning bias that comes in when we talk about these things.
There were some blasphemous things that happened in that game. I think if they lost, Stafford was not going to be to blame. They would have looked at Cam Akers for fumbling twice, the ridiculous snap that gave the Bucs the ball at the 50-yard line, the missed kick by Matt Gay, who's been 95% on the season. I think the Aaron Rodgers, debate we just had against the Matt Stafford, if he lost the debate, would have been very different because Stafford played out of his mind and Aaron Rodgers did not.
The thing about that is that if Stafford had lost, that if he gets the ball back, because he had the ball back in that final drive, if he doesn't do something on that drive, even though there wasn't much time left, and the Bucs win the toss and they win, everybody's looking back to that moment. So the same way that I'm praising Matthew Stafford when he wins, I would have praised him when he lost. Matthew Stafford had a phenomenal game.
Wow.
Right
Wow.
now, he's proving himself. He's proving that he was always this type of quarterback. This has been a career season for him. He's tied his total touchdowns, completion percentage highest of his career. But like you said, the job's not finished. My doubts on Stafford have diminished greatly. I feel much more confident in Matthew Stafford. But against this 49ers defense that's been very good against the pass, I am not completely sure how he's going to look.
A lot of what he said was basically on hypotheticals.
What was hypothetical about it?
If he didn't get the ball back, if they would have lost, people would be looking at Matthew Stafford like, oh, he can't get it done. If he would have won, then, they would have looked at it like, oh, wow, Matthew Stafford's great under pressure. He can get the job done. if he doesn't score in the last second chance and Buccaneers get the ball and they lose, then Matthew Stafford is looked at completely different. I'm going to talk about what actually happened.
I feel
I'm going
like
to talk about 2 throws.
I feel like you missed the entire point of what I said.
I don't.
If Rodgers threw for 360 and 2 touchdowns, we would have had a very different.
I'm sorry.
It's happened before.
The only thing I wanted to hear come out of your mouth was, "Oh my goodness, Matthew Stafford! What you did was absolutely amazing."
They did not say
When
Matthew
you're back-
Stafford had a perfect game.
That's not what I'm saying. I don't want to hear the hypotheticals, though.
No, I just told you.
I don't want to.
It's not the hypotheticals. It's the narratives that would have been what the narratives would have been had he lost.
Would have been hypotheticals.
Yeah. But I said that's the narrative. I never said that's what I would have
I
said.
understand, but I don't. I would
I
rather.
don't think that would have been the narrative.
I just want to hear praise. If he would have lost after Cam Akers fumbles, the center throws it over his head. What more can Matthew Stafford have done?
I mean, we've seen before quarterbacks get blamed for much less.
And when Brady threw for 505, lost to the Eagles. I did not hear one peep about how Brady lost him the game.
No one's talking about Josh Allen losing that game.
No one.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen's performance though was like near flawless.
And Tom
Stafford
Brady threw for 505.
but even
Super Bowl record.
even then, there are still a lot of people out there that say there's a gap between Mahomes and Allen because Mahomes won.
People are probably dumb.
No, but like I'm saying, that's the narrative though. We're just talking strictly narratives. I'm not talking about what I feel. I'm just saying that the same way we talked about the Aaron Rodgers thing last segment, Matthew Stafford, because he won and because his team didn't completely blow the game there at the end because he had to save them back from the game. Now we view him as a guy who has proven himself in the league, who has proven himself in big time moments. Had he lost, you're waiting an entire year for that to happen again and for you to have complete bragging rights over that moment.
It's like I told you against the Cowboys when he lost that first play, that playoff game against the boys where they picked up the pass interference flag. He should have won that game. And I'm telling you wholeheartedly, they did not lose that game because Matthew Stafford.
I never said they did.
But I'm telling you're saying he didn't. He hasn't shown you in the playoffs. That was your argument beforehand.
I mean, because his record in primetime games is not very good. His stats in primetime games, he turns into a very different quarterback.
But I'm just telling you in the playoffs, that game that I'm talking to you specifically,
yes, but
that I would use
my analysis
to help him.
My analysis was the totality of the big time games that he's been
and in the
placed
biggest
in.
moments of a game. Forget about prime time. In the biggest moments of the game, he's third active in comeback victories.
I mean, he's been put in that position far more times than any other quarterback.
See, but you are again minimizing what he's done.
No,
Okay,
because
here we go. He was put in this position, right? Game-winning drive. Yeah. All right, 27-27. You have 30 seconds. You have to get down the field. 2 throws. Doesn't even blink. So what? There's nothing you could say. Him saying this to me right now, I don't want to hear it.
Joe. Vinny Testaverde has more fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives than Brett Favre and Joe Montana. What does that tell you?
Vinny Testaverde was, yeah, exactly. He's clutch.
That tells me that Vinny Testaverde had more opportunities to come back because his team was behind far more often than
still got to get it done and win.
Come on, man. Why are we not giving the credit for that? Like that's not a stat you should overlook.
I'm just saying because Matthew Stafford is so high in this stat, it doesn't mean that I trust him over other quarterbacks. But
you trust Derek Carr though. So why trust Derek Carr and not Matthew Stafford? That's what's boggling my mind.
I think Derek Carr is a better fourth quarter quarterback.
And that's to bed now.
Stafford's been phenomenal all season in the fourth quarter. We've talked about this at length. I don't
think it's completely to bed. We got to see Derek Carr in a similar Rams situation.
Against the GOAT, he did this. The GOAT's team, because it's a team sport 100%. Against the GOAT's team as they're coming back from a crazy deficit where all the pressure has completely been tossed onto the Rams, Stafford steps up. There's nothing to say.
Yeah.
And this validates everything he's done before also. It has to. We are not on different wavelengths here. We are agreeing.
Okay.
I have already said Matthew Stafford had a damn perfect game. I've already said for me, I've always thought he was a great quarterback. That's for one.
I don't want to hear that. I want to hear, keep going.
I've already said he had a perfect game.
Keep going.
Now, I will say, I still don't fully trust Stafford.
Wow. Oh my God,
that's
bro.
Insane,
what else?
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming.
What else
I
say, bro?
I don't.
He's got to win the damn Super Bowl.
He has to beat the 49ers.
No,
he has to win.
He beat Tom Brady's team as they were coming back 27.
I know,
like it's crazy to me.
the Cardinals.
I'm getting emotional. I'm spinning all over the place.
The Cardinals. I mean, come on, bro. The Cardinals were a mess.
I don't even care about the Cardinals.
Unprepared.
He beat Tampa Bay
the
in
Packers
Tampa
look
Bay.
unprepared.
I can't believe you.
Nah, I just think the Niners were just freaking awesome.
I can't believe you. They did this without Andrew Whitworth also.
No, and their backup
Boom
left tackle
played a great game.
He played phenomenal.
Come
He
on,
did play
bro.
a great game.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, a left tackle who's been with the Rams all season, he did not play for them. One of their leaders
Yeah,
in the
but
locker
and
room
No
did
Boom
not
was
play
just
for them.
as good as if he would have played.
He was
though.
great, no doubt about it.
This game for Stafford, you guys said it was spectacular. But the biggest takeaway that I got from that was this last drive. That's why the Rams went out. They ate all of that dead money from Jared Goff's contract. They traded multiple first-round picks. You had people beginning of the season who didn't really trust Matt Stafford all the way. Is he really a huge upgrade over Jared Goff? But that's why you go out and you trade for Matt Stafford, who is and has proven himself to be a top-level quarterback who can take his team to a championship, to a Super Bowl, if he has the right team around him, which I do believe he's going to do this year. The fact that you have 47 seconds to go with no timeouts and the momentum has just been absolutely stripped from you. You got to remember, this is when Cam Akers fumbles. This Bucks get the ball back. It's 4th and 1. You have a chance. The Rams defense has a chance to stop the Buccaneers. You get the ball back, game over. Instead, they hand it off to Lenny. Not only to get the first down, they go in and get the touchdown. So now it goes from, oh man, we're about to win this game to we're about to lose this game to now, okay, here comes Stafford. We're about to win it again. Beautiful balls to Cooper Kupp, 2 of them, pause. But what really impressed me and what showed me that Sean McVay, this is why it's different, because the first play, he goes and gets sacked. A lot of teams, maybe it's a little bit different because I'm a Jets fan and I don't see playoff football all the time. A lot of other teams would have need the ball there. We know what? We played a terrible second half. We fumbled 3 times. We had our kicker, he missed a kick. And overall, we're just playing really bad football in this second half. There would have been a lot of coaches, a lot of coaching staffs and quarterbacks who said, you know what, man? Let's just knee the ball, get it to overtime, and let's see what happens there. But Sean McVay said, I went out on a limb. I got my guy. So he made up 2 amazing plays, one to Cooper Kupp to get him out on the sideline, and that bomb that Drew said, you put it perfectly in the Brad basket to end up winning the game. You guys hit on all the nails, but what really stood out to me was that last drive, and that's why you go out and you get an elite quarterback, because without that, you're not winning a Super Bowl.
I'll change my vocabulary a bit. Actually, I'll just say this statement. I still don't trust Stafford.
Disgusting.
And you want to know why? Because when it comes to trusting athletes, when it comes to big-time moments, when it comes to big-time players, as fans, we either have it in our hearts to believe this guy is going to do it or he's not going to do it. In my heart of hearts, I can't fully invest in Stafford. But what I tweeted on Twitter is nothing but the truth. Do I trust Stafford? No. Will I ever question Stafford that he can do it? No. I won't question Stafford.
I hate it.
You don't question him, but you don't trust him?
This is the
Yes.
most
How does that make sense,
It's called
bro?
pick
What do you mean?
aside,
No,
man.
no,
How does
it's
that
not.
make sense?
It's
You won't
what do you
question him,
mean?
but you won't trust him?
How
Bro.
can you make the show named Pick a
I
Side?
don't-
Our heart.
I don't get
Bro,
it. I don't get
trusting
it.
comes from the heart. Trusting comes from the heart. I won't question Stafford, but I don't fully trust him. There's always a pick waiting to happen with Stafford. There's always a pick waiting to happen with Stafford.
Bro just read that in the comments section and just reiterated it.
Because I read it. That's a fact.
No,
Is that not a fact?
Man, he played perfect
He threw
against
the-
the
I was saying, he threw the
Buccaneers.
ball
This
40 times,
Buccaneers-
didn't throw an
this-
interception.
This Buccaneers team
He had one
that you
questionable
said
pass.
when
One.
everyone's
The
healthy.
entire game.
Let me
Yeah,
get
like
him. Let me
two.
get him. Let me get him.
Oh, God
Let me
forbid.
get him. Let me get him. Because I don't know how many times this season I heard him say, wait till the Buccaneers secondary gets healthy because we see what they can do when they're all healthy.
They looked
This is
unhealthy. What
This is
can
the
I say?
first time that they all played together since week 1. And what happened?
Got exposed.
They got absolutely lit up, torched.
360.
It was a horrible game. It was a horrible game plan. I'm not. What am I going to say? Like, Todd Bowles called a bad game.
It's always someone to blame. Never taking responsibility.
Bad game, and Bulls got all the credit in the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, I mean, he called a great game there, and his pass rush got home. Pass rush didn't really get home. So what can you really say? I was gonna say something, but I'm forgetting quite what I'm gonna say. So I'm gonna fill in this time with this quote that I read from Michael Rosenberg from Sports Illustrated. He wrote an excellent article on Matthew Stafford and his career, and this quote actually should be the theme of this show because we've debated about it a lot on this show. You don't have to be a great quarterback to be labeled a winner. And you can be a great quarterback and still get called a loser. For the majority of Matthew Stafford's career, that's what he's been labeled, a loser. Despite being a great quarterback, despite having a 74 to 90 to 1 record in Detroit, you place him in his first really great, stable situation outside of those Jim Caldwell years with Detroit. He has a career season. He wins 2 straight playoff games, one against a Cardinals team that we didn't think they were going to play that bad, and one against the Bucs, which that was warranted. The Rams completely dominated the game, and Matthew Stafford had a really great big-time performance. Matthew Stafford is the perfect example of why we can't label quarterbacks just off of winning, just off of a quarterback win stat, and I don't think winning is a quarterback stat. Jimmy Garoppolo is 4-1 in the playoffs right now, and he's only thrown for over 200 yards once. And in that game he threw for over 200 yards, he lost in the Super Bowl. I think Matthew Stafford, for the most entirety of his career, has been miscasted, has been mislabeled. He's always been a great quarterback. Now he's showing me that in the playoffs in prime time, he's proving it to me more. And maybe that trust is going to come with time. I won't question Stafford having a big-time game versus the 49ers. I won't question him having a big-time game if he eventually gets to the Super Bowl. But in my heart of hearts, do I fully trust it yet? I got to see it.
I don't think we were labeling Stafford as a loser in Detroit. We all recognized he was an elite talent who was just being buried in a bad organization.
Bro.
Just like we do with Derek Carr.
Okay, bro. I feel like this is the disconnect we're having right here.
You take my opinion on the quarterback winning stat and you don't put any context behind it.
This is the disconnect we're having. The disconnect we're having is I feel like you saying that Stafford wasn't labeled as a loser in Detroit is wrong. Yes, he was.
Okay, let me rephrase that.
I
didn't label him as a loser.
Not a bad quarterback.
I think
that's what Joel meant to say.
Not a good quarterback because of what? Why did people think Matthew Stafford wasn't
I never thought
this
Stafford
good?
was bad. Never.
I mean, okay. But people didn't think he was this great. Why?
Because they don't watch film.
Why, though? Simplify it. Because they don't win. Because he didn't win. And that happens with a lot of quarterbacks. And Stafford right now is becoming the poster child for people have to stop putting so much emphasis on that win-loss column.
I mean, Marino still gets all his flowers.
Wow,
bro.
we literally had the same exact thought.
Yeah.
Dan Marino
Gets
literally
all his
was
flowers.
a top 100 NFL quarterback. I think he was in that, what did they do, 12 quarterbacks, right? Something like that. He was in that class with Peyton Manning, with Tom Brady, with John Elway, with Roger Staubach, Unitas. He never won a single Super Bowl. Didn't matter. Because when you're great, you're great. You get acknowledged for it. It's that simple. And the fact that he did it with the Detroit Lions, the worst franchise in football, to overlook it is foul and rude.
Dan Marino won in Miami.
He didn't win a Super Bowl.
I know, but like
he went to a Super Bowl his rookie season and never went back.
No, I know, but they had multiple winning seasons with Don Shula. Don Shula was one of the greatest coaches of all time.
No doubt.
He didn't win the big one, but he was a consistent winner. The difference with Stafford is that for half of the time in Detroit just didn't make the playoffs. And that's really what it was. That's why they labeled him that.
Well, it's because, again, he's on Detroit, the worst organization ever that barely knows how to put a team together by any means.
I don't care what other people are saying. Like, if other people are going to call him a loser, then I can't do anything about that. I know that he's a good quarterback. He's just on a bad team.
In the offseason, when the trade happened, it got mixed reactions. There were one side of people saying that he wasn't worth it because of the win-loss record. And there were others saying it was worth it.
I feel like if you have a set of eyes, you could tell that Matt Stafford is a far superior quarterback.
It's pretty
than
simple.
Goff.
Okay, but we're not talking about what you think.
I agree. No,
we're talking about what the story was.
I agree with you, bro. You're 100% right about that. The narrative was wrong. And if you bought into that narrative, you simply, one, did not take the time out to go watch Matthew Stafford when he was in Detroit, or two, Google highlights of Matthew Stafford doing unbelievable things with the worst franchise in football. I can't say it enough times. They're horrible.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers has already said it I think this was last year that Stafford, or earlier this season, that Stafford has been doing what Mahomes has been doing for years.
Exactly. When you
And it's
care
been
about
a
the
thing.
game, you watch the game, you understand how great Matthew Stafford is, which is why I'm so surprised at you who have not been on this ship with me.
I called Matthew Stafford a top 10 quarterback.
See,
for
but
the
I
year.
don't want to hear
I know.
that.
I knew he was gonna
don't
bring
want
that
to
up.
hear
I
it.
know.
Like, again, I could
It
say
just
all
covers his
this.
ass,
I
that's
could say
why.
all this about.
What do you mean?
God.
Hold up. Drew.
It's like this vague. He's a top 10 quarterback. Like, what does that do to me?
It's like a backhanded, like, I said this.
No, it's not.
I tweeted
No,
it
it's
in
not.
2019.
No, it's not,
I
because-
said that the
no, it's
Lions were
not.
going to win the division over the Packers.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
I
bro, like-
believed in Matthew
because
Stafford.
no, it's not. Because okay, you're a big Kyler guy. Kyler, do you trust him in the playoffs?
Yes.
100%. Like you're not.
I
even
trust
thinking about
Kyler Murray.
it. Okay, I think Kyler's a great quarterback. I don't trust him in the playoffs yet.
See,
I
but here you
don't.
go. So, but then you were on us for not trusting Burrow because we needed to see it, right? So screw me, right?
No. I was on you for saying Lamar was better than Burrow. Not. I don't care if you trust Burrow or not. That's what you feel. But I was on you guys for saying Lamar that Burrow wasn't better than Lamar because he didn't win in the playoffs yet. That's what I was on you guys for. I didn't care that you didn't trust Burrow.
It wasn't, for me, it wasn't a playoff thing. It was Burrow's had a nice 4 or 5 game stretch. Let me see a little bit more there.
Well,
And
he's had
played-
a whole season of it. It was just a 4 or 5. It was
I
a whole
know,
season.
but this second half of the season, especially towards the last month of the season, he upped his level to, elite status.
Yeah, but just me from watching Burrow, I've always had that confidence in Burrow. But
He's a stud.
that confidence in Burrow didn't just arise from the NFL. That confidence in Burrow was back in LSU when he was still a projected 3rd, 4th round pick, and I thought he'd be the Heisman Trophy winner. So that trust in Burrow was all the way back in LSU where he won a national championship, and I'm like, this is the man. I don't even question he's the man. So in Cincinnati, now having this great season, elite type season, now we rank him this high. I was never on you guys for not trusting Burrow. I was on you guys because you said Lamar was better, and I disagree with Lamar being better. And I was on you guys because you guys said you needed to see it in the playoffs. You needed to see him win some playoff games. I personally didn't need to see Burrow win playoff games to put him over Lamar.
So then,
I feel the same way about Kyler and Lamar, though. I don't need to see, I know they're good enough to do it. Both of them. I have no doubts about Kyler. As long as, it was a bad match against the Rams. They were beat up. We talked about it last week.
Stafford to me has been a great quarterback. And you go back to my rankings, I don't know if I had him like 7 or 8. I know my top 10, Justin Herbert he made my 10th actually. I forgot, but Stafford was in my top 10. All offseason long, I said he was going to have a top 10 quarterback season. He had a top 5 quarterback season, arguably. But just because he had that, just because I know he's a great quarterback, I just still didn't fully trust him in the playoffs, but I never questioned his ability. The ability was nothing I ever questioned.
So
it was his decision-making because I've seen him throw 4th quarter interceptions. The same thing you talk about when watching film on the Lions. Yeah, there's a lot of games where Stafford also throws picks, kind of like Phillip Rivers late in games, and you're like, oh, why'd you do that? Phillip Rivers was a great quarterback. Did you fully trust him in the playoffs?
that's tough because he gave me a whole career of being in the playoffs and choking.
Yeah.
He also faced, actually, like, it's a statistic that he faced the toughest defenses of any quarterback when he made it to the playoffs. But
Losing to the Jets, though, as good as you guys were, and they were a great team that year.
They were favored.
Shouldn't have lost.
They should have won. Yeah.
yeah,
shouldn't have
you're
lost.
right.
There's a
But
better
Phillip Rivers, it's like, but even then, like that game, the interception that Darrell got, it was like
stupid.
bounced it off
He
Vincent
was lucky.
Jackson's
He
leg.
was lucky.
So, but those I've seen for Phillip Rivers, I never fully trusted him in the playoffs because I've seen boneheaded plays by him. Stafford, despite all the great things about him, he makes boneheaded plays from time to time, and that's in.
I think Stafford's more talented than Rivers, though.
Exactly.
He's more talented than Rivers, I know,
and
but
boneheaded plays in the clutch. Like, are we talking 4th quarter? Are we talking second half?
he's made 4th quarter dumb plays in the clutch.
Not
before.
this season.
Not this season.
I mean, just from the last time that I remember it,
In Detroit.
last-
Detroit's different. You're pressing. You have to be the reason you're winning this game.
Last year versus Arizona, or it was Kyler's rookie year, week 1, when they tied with Detroit. The Detroit Lions were winning by like 2 possessions. It should have been an easy win. Arizona comes back. Stafford has the ball late, almost throws a pick 6, and the Cardinals would have won, but it got dropped. Like, I've seen a lot of plays from Stafford.
Just hasn't happened this year.
Maybe, yeah, but it hasn't happened this year.
Yeah.
But I've seen it years past.
But
like,
you also have to
we've
bring into account you have a whole new coach. You have a new coaching staff, scheme,
I
weapons.
understand
like,
you have the
everything's
coach.
different.
I know. I never said he was going to be Detroit Stafford, but I've seen Matthew Stafford in these late game situations in a 12-year tenure in Detroit make decisions that aren't the smartest ones. Even Sean McVay said in his presser that Matthew Stafford is like sometimes at his worst when he's his most confident because he feels like he can make any throw. And sometimes those throws that he tries to do, those tight window throws that you criticize Tannehill for making, sometimes Matthew Stafford does something like that and it gets picked off. So
then to the other side of it, to play devil's advocate, is I want him to have that confidence, because if he doesn't have that confidence, he doesn't make that 50-yard bomb to Cooper Kupp to basically win them the game.
I mean, he was open though.
But he had pressure in his face.
It was a great throw. He was open, but it was a great throw.
You can't minimize. No, that's minimizing an unbelievable throw and play by him.
That's not minimizing. Nope.
He was open.
It's not minimizing an unbelievable play. What I'm saying is that pressing is okay. This guy, my receiver, is heavily covered, but I'm gonna throw this shit anyway because I have the confidence in my arm to fit it where I want to fit it. With Cooper Kupp, it wasn't that type of play where he was like, okay, I'm just gonna throw this. It wasn't. It was okay. It's zero blitz. I know he can't keep up with Cooper. I'm gonna float it up there. And it was a spectacular play. I never said it wasn't, but it wasn't one of those pressing plays like, okay, like everything is covered. I gotta get something. I'm just gonna throw it here. It wasn't one of those plays.
In terms of like getting locked up, sure, but he's being pressured. He has Ndamukong Suh right in his face. It's very easy for him to just take the sack, go into overtime. He decides not to, stay strong in the pocket, lets it loose.
Okay, but like I said,
I understand what you're saying. It's like the coverage, like fitting in a tight window.
I never said.
But there's different ways of having confidence.
I've seen a whole career of Stafford in Detroit in those moments make decisions because of his overconfidence that he shouldn't have made. Same
whole
thing.
Career where he's the third active leader in comebacks.
Same thing with Phillip Rivers. And based on what your answer, you don't fully trust Rivers, even though for my opinion, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback.
He is a Hall of Fame. I think Matthew Stafford, after this season, once he does win the Super Bowl, it should be a no doubt about it. He should
he be a Hall of Famer even if he doesn't?
I think eventually he'll probably put together the numbers. I think he'll have the resume to get in. Yeah.
So what about Matt Ryan?
I was gonna say it's similar to Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan has MVP though.
Yeah, that's true.
Stafford doesn't.
That's true.
Been to a Super Bowl.
I mean, he has thrown for over 5,000 yards in his career before. He's now accountable for two. Not that really matters in the grand scheme of things, but for the top two wide receivers to have the all-time highest receiving yards any season in Cooper Kupp and Calvin Johnson. He's put together a laundry list of seasons of being consistent over 4,000 yards, over 30 touchdowns. Statistically, he really has been.
He's been great.
I don't think he would have like the Pro Bowls or All Pros to probably get in, but
wins the Super Bowl though.
In terms of talent, though, he should get in though. Yeah. The Rams beat the Bucs. Tom Brady the Bucs were close to a comeback that game, 30-27. I want to ask you though, did you feel like the Rams dominated the Bucs?
In the first half, without a doubt, it was a domination. Second half, how can you say that?
Just made some bad mistakes.
Overall game though, what did you think?
Overall, they just made some terrible mistakes, but outside their mistakes, I mean,
offensively,
they were playing out of their minds.
Offensively, outside of the fumbles, because who could have saw Cam Akers fumbling twice? He's usually very careful with the ball. Fumbled twice. Cooper Kupp, another one.
He didn't have a single fumble in 200-plus carries last year.
And the center making just a boneheaded mistake. It happens, but you hate for it to happen in one of the biggest games of the year. I would say that it was a domination on the offensive side of the ball. They were clicking when Matthew Stafford was
I thought the defense dominated, though.
I mean, until the late in the game.
Outside the mistakes, bro, because if they don't make those stupid mistakes, fumbling 3 times in the center and everything, like, we're looking at this game, they probably win like 35-10. You know, we're going into this 49ers game saying, geez, is this even going to be close? You know, but they made those mistakes, which kept the Bucs
I'm just saying that because despite the final score, I thought the Rams dominated the Bucs same way I thought the Niners dominated the Cowboys. I thought this was a similar story.
I wouldn't say it was domination.
I don't see the same story there.
I do. That's why I asked you.
Me
personally, I wouldn't say dominated.
Tom Brady's 44. He turns 45 August 3rd. There's been a lot of chatter about him retiring. He just put an Instagram post today. He posted it and said that, you know, he's going to take time to think about it. That's the summary of the post. And all love to everybody, all the supporters. But he's going to take time to think about it. But if you were to guess, what do you think he's going to do? Is he going to retire?
Personally, I think he does wrap it up. I think this season, being first in yards, first in touchdowns, given all the injuries that they had to overcome throughout the end of their season, Godwin going out, Levante David out of the lineup, but did come back this weekend. Seems to be a little bit hobbled. You have the unfortunate events that has happened with Antonio Brown. You have Leonard Fournette go out. You have Tristan Wirfs go out. A lot for him to overcome. And a lot has to go right for you to compete for a championship. I feel as if he retires, there's no one that's going to look at Brady's time in Tampa Bay and see it as a failure. He won a championship. He was the best quarterback statistically this season. There's nothing for him to prove in Tampa Bay. Forget about as a quarterback. That's obvious. People already claim him as the greatest football player of all time. Arguably one of the greatest sports players of all time. There's nothing for him to prove. If he goes out this season, if he retires and doesn't lace him up again, how do you remember Tom Brady? You remember him as, at 44 years old, a league leader in yards, a league leader in touchdowns, and was a part of a 27-3 comeback where he just didn't have another chance to put them up top. There's no bad image of Brady. Nothing. Throughout his entire career, you can go back through all of it. I think the only bad thing you could really look at, depending on which side you lay on which side you reside on, is that he had a "Make America Great" hat in his locker. That's the only blemish, in my opinion, that you could look at Tom Brady and say.
And some people will say that's a plus.
Exactly. Some way how you shape it. I'm not a political guy. I'm not going to get into that, but I'm just going in the grand scheme of things. If you want to really fault him, and I guess a deflated football, but to me, I think that was BS personally. Spygate's not him. That's Bill Belichick. So regardless,
it is him too, though.
How so? Can you explain to me?
He got suspended for it.
Spygate?
Mm-hmm.
No, he got suspended for Deflategate.
Oh, Deflategate. Oh, I thought it's kind of the same thing, though. It's still a controversy.
I agree, but I felt personally that Deflategate was garbage.
Yeah, I thought it was garbage too.
Me personally, but regardless of that, again, there's gonna be those guys that really hate Brady that are out to get him. They're gonna pinpoint these things. Fair, hey, fair. As a Jets fan, I hate him too. That being said, there's no real bad. I know this guy's something else.
I love Brady, bro. What can I say?
I respect. Listen,
I respect the hell out of him.
Have you watched the Man in the Arena documentary?
The what?
The Man in the Arena.
I haven't.
I'm a Peyton Manning diehard fan. This is my favorite football player forever. I'll never love someone the way I love Peyton Manning, and I still have to respect and appreciate what Tom Brady has done for our game.
Well, yeah, because he beat Peyton so much.
But in the AFC Championship game, who has the better record? Peyton Manning 3-1. But that's okay.
Don't let him forget that.
Do not let him forget it. Because I know who got Brady more. Who got Brady more when it mattered?
1-3 in the Super Bowl.
Peyton Manning.
1-3 in the Super Bowl.
Who?
Payne.
He's 2-2. Come on, man. Don't hit me with that. Anyways, I just think that there's nothing for him to prove. There's really nothing else, and that's obvious. He's the greatest ever, and that's how. And there's no way you could leave this season thinking that Brady didn't leave at his top.
It's hard to really say which way this is going to go because, in 2014 he said, I'll retire when I suck. And it's obvious he doesn't suck. He had an MVP type season, #1 in a bunch of different stats. It really is going to come down to where is he at mentally and where is he at with his family, because that's where he said it's going to decide. It's going to be, Giselle and my kids. I need to be there as a father. And I'm sure you guys saw this on either Bleacher Report or something on his podcast. He was talking about potentially retiring and the impact it has on his family. And he said it pains her being Giselle, to see me out there getting hit. She deserves what she needs from me as a husband. My kids deserve what they need me as a dad. Tom Brady's been doing this longer since we've been alive, it seems like. He's been the elite quarterback for my entire life. He's beaten my Jets every single year outside of the 2 years he hasn't been in New England. Even still, we're getting our ass kicked by Josh Allen now, which is great. So it comes down to, where does Brady think mentally where he can be, and can he compete for a championship? Because he already has all the accolades. He has all the stats. All he cares about now is winning championships. And when I look at this Bucs team, it's going to be hard for them to really assemble a championship roster with the amount of cap space they have, which is about $21 million, and they have some huge free agents. I mean, Chris Godwin, JPP, Ryan Jensen, Sue, Gronk, Leonard Fournette, O.J. Howard, Ronald Jones, McClendon, Alex Cappa. They have all of these huge free agents with not a ton of cap room, and Brady's not going to be interested in drafting a whole bunch of rookies to fill those spots. So, and Bruce Arians came out and said too, he said, I don't think we're going to be able to do the same thing we did last year by retaining all of these guys. Plus, Leftwich seems like to be the leading candidate for the Jacksonville Jaguars job. And Todd Bowles has been getting interviews too to be a head coach. You might be losing your top 2 coordinators. I trust Arians to be able to fill those positions, but it's just another change he's going to have to deal with going into next season. So it's really hard for me to sit here and say which way he goes. Right now, I'm leaning towards he comes back because he was just so dominant this year. He was, right there to win another potential to go on to the NFC Championship game, potentially represent the NFC for a second year in a row. Even winning the Super Bowl last year where almost everyone counted him out. Everyone thought they'd be good, but no one was expecting him to go and win the Super Bowl his first year. I think if you kind of swap these years, right, think last year, if he would have lost in round 2, we would have like, wow, this is amazing. And this year he goes out, wins the Super Bowl, then I could kind of see him taking it like, all right, I went to my second spot. I proved everyone it's not Belichick. But since it's the other way around, he won his Super Bowl. Now he's coming back down to earth a little bit. It's going to be hard for the Bucs to really assemble a team here. But if it's anyone, everyone still wants to play with Brady. They know they're in a terrible division. The Saints are a mess now. The Panthers are a mess. And the Falcons, they're still rebuilding with Matt Ryan there. So it's going to be hard to build a championship-level team, but I don't think Brady's going to go out like this, just barely losing to the Rams. I think he comes back for at least one more year.
I think Brady's retiring. I think in his post and what he said, it very much leans retirement. It very much says to me that I've played football my entire career, and now I have to give time to my family. That's what it sounds like Brady's doing right now. He talked about his wife not liking him still getting hit, which we know football is a very vicious sport. There's nothing left for Brady to prove anymore. He holds damn near every single passing record, every single win-loss record in the playoffs. He has the most playoff wins, and the number's not very close at all. He has the most championships of any quarterback in history. There's nothing for him to prove anymore. I think he calls it quits. And frankly, he's even said as well that he doesn't want a farewell tour. The thing that Big Ben got shaking all the Steelers fans' hands in Heinz Field, Brady doesn't want something like that. And because of Brady's want for playing the game not for recognition, but for competing at the highest of high levels, he's a competitor, and that's all he cares about. I think right now, like you said, the Buccaneers are in a tough position. I think the coaching staff this year proved that they're an undisciplined bunch. And the Buccaneers, despite being very talented, are an undisciplined team. Bruce Arians is kind of, the shade is coming out on him. Like, mate, this guy is kind of a reckless coach.
Loose cannon, yeah.
Because of all those things, I don't think Brady comes back. I think he retires. He calls it quits. He said he wanted to play until 45. He's 44. I think this is just enough. This is a number right here. Nobody's ever done what he's done outside of kickers that play this long. And I think we saw Tom Brady's last game versus the Rams. And his last game was something to remember him by. Almost came back so close. This feels textbook. This feels like the final episode to The Man in the Arena, which I'm currently watching, which I love.
What's it on?
It's ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
I always get you with that.
And I think this is it for Tom Brady. Sean Payton is somebody that did retire. Today he retired. He told the Saints, and he held a press conference, a very touching press conference that basically credited the Saints for being a great organization, the people in it, the players that helped them become a great coach, and etc. Gail Benson, before he retired, said, who knows? We'll find out soon enough. I guess. I don't think any of us know, but he'll let us know soon enough. And that was very soon. He said he talked to Drew Brees on the phone last night about it. And Sean Payton is out. So I guess the question is, what's next for the Saints? Sean Payton, excellent head coach. You can't take anything away from what he's accomplished. Super Bowl champion after the Saints went through Katrina, 152-89 record, 9-8 playoff record, has had 4 or 5 12-win seasons. He's been a coach of the year. This guy is as good as it gets when we talk about head coaches, resumes, NFL, top guys. Where do the Saints go from here?
The Saints are in a really tough spot. Sean Payton retiring is almost like you screw up a Madden rebuild and you just quit the franchise and delete it, right? Because this team is an absolute mess right now. They have a good defense, right? It's It's respectable. It's top 10-ish. I don't think they're elite, and it's hard to be in this NFL to have your quarterbacks be Trevor Siemian, Taysom Hill, and Jameis Winston. I don't blame Sean Payton for being, you know what? I'm 58 years old. I gave my all to this team and to this city. I'm going to call it quits. So he's had a Hall of Fame career. I do think he's going to be back coaching. I think he takes a year off, maybe goes into broadcasting for a year, be a great broadcaster. And I think two spots that really stand out to me is Dallas and Miami. I think those would be two really good places for him. I believe he's coached in Dallas before. I want to say Miami too, but I'm not sure. But what's next for the Saints? It's time to blow everything up. They have a bunch of veterans that I'm sure they would like to get off their hands. Michael Thomas they could be trading. It wouldn't surprise me if Alvin Kamara goes. Marcus Williams is a free agent. Tyron Armstead's a free agent. So they're in a position right now, while they don't have any cap, they can make moves and just say, you know what, let's blow it all up, because they're clearly not talented enough to compete with the top teams in the NFC. Although the NFC is the weaker conference of the two, the Bucs are far ahead of him. If Brady does leave, that division becomes the worst division in the NFL. But when you look at this team, the offense is just absolutely decimated. Sean Payton is an offensive guy, and I'm not sure if he has the final say or if it's Mickey Loomis or whoever. I'm sure they collaboratively, work on these things. But you look at the receivers over the last few years, they've drafted 3 total wide receivers since 2015. That's 7 draft classes worth. And wide receiver is the deepest, it seems like, almost every year. You have a bunch of receivers. 2016, MT in round 2, a home run. But then 2018, you draft Traquan Smith in round 3, who's a nice player, but he's nothing special.
Showed promise, but you're
2021, right. Kaywan Baker, round 7. He had more tackles and receptions this year. I don't think we're going to be counting on him
he's a
anytime
7th
soon.
round pick, though. Come on.
I know, but regardless, you love to talk about how Joe Douglas doesn't hit on his late round picks.
Oh. He's had 2 drafts.
Okay.
What was his late round pick in 2020?
Bryce Hall, round 5.
7th round. We're talking about 7th round. You mentioned me a 7th round receiver.
I'm just saying he has.
No, but you have in the past said that
7th round versus 5th round is different, though.
I'm just not much. I'm sure if you look.
What do you mean?
I'm not.
It's like 60 players.
Bro, if you look at the hit rate between 5th round picks and 7th round picks, I bet you it's not that different. It might be like 3 percentage points.
We're talking about a 60 pick difference.
We're talking about guys going 180 versus 230.
All right, we don't need a huge debate on this one. Come on, can we agree? We don't need it.
But the Saints have failed to put resources into the wide receiver position, which is why they're in the position they are now. They're negative $71 million in cap. They'll make it work like they did last year, but they're in a rough situation. If you're a Saints fan, you've had a hell of a run these last 10, 15 years. Drew Brees came in, and he had a couple good years in San Diego, but when he came to the Saints, Sean Payton really elevated him. He's a phenomenal offensive coach, but it's time for the Saints to blow everything up, trade your veteran guys, get some draft picks, and start from scratch.
They're in cap hell still. And I think Sean Payton understands that the Saints are not trending in the direction that I'm sure that he wants to at this point in his career. It would take a lot for them to overcome the situation that they're in right now. Their championship window has closed, and it's going to be closed for a while. And their strongest chance to go to the Super Bowl and potentially win the Super Bowl was the year that they got screwed against the Rams, where it should have been pass interference, and it was an obvious missed call. And I feel like that was their best team overall and the best chance for them to win the Super Bowl. Because that Patriots team, as great as that defense was, it was beatable. It was possible. It's 9-3 Super Bowl game. And the Saints and the Rams both were solid teams, but I think the Saints were overall a better team than the Rams at the time. I think that the Rams were just fortunate in that situation. And unfortunately, things didn't turn their way, and now they've been in a huge drought ever since. I think Sean Payton probably, as you mentioned, probably will return in football at some time. I just think that he needed to get out of New Orleans. And New Orleans is headed towards a rebuild that is going to take a few years. We saw back in the day when Archie Manning was the quarterback that they were a poverty franchise. Sean Payton came in, Drew Brees came in, and they completely changed the culture. As you mentioned, what they meant to the city of New Orleans when Katrina hit, they were everything. They're probably the best fan base that there is. There is no worse place to play than in New Orleans. There's no one that wants to go into New Orleans and play the Saints because that environment is just different. Those fans are different. They love the Saints. But it was time for Sean Payton to go. And I think that once he comes back, he'll join a team that puts him in a better situation to win because at this point in his life, he needs a championship. He wants another championship, and I think he acknowledges the fact that the Saints are not going to be in that position anytime soon.
He left $45 million on the table by leaving the Saints. I'm not sure if the Saints will pay him or not. Probably will. They're a very respectable franchise that kind of do right
quick,
by the guys.
They own his rights. So if he does want to come back, I believe a team would have to trade for him.
Well, that would help out the Saints a lot. Dennis Allen might be the coach. They're talking about Aaron Glenn. Dennis
Trading
Allen.
for coaches is so funny, man.
Dennis Allen or Aaron Glenn. I'd probably prefer Aaron Glenn, but either or. The Saints are going to be really bad for a couple of seasons. It's more than the quarterback position. Even a great quarterback wouldn't succeed in this situation given the playmakers they have on the outside. Michael Thomas is their best one, and he's such a question mark that he might not even be on the team next season. The other receivers didn't step up in the way we thought they'd step up, specifically talking about Marquez Callaway. They need to invest in that position. This team still has a great defense. They still have a pretty good offensive line. If they can get a stable quarterback, maybe they can stay afloat, but that's the hardest position to find in the NFL. Jameis Winston, maybe he comes back, maybe he doesn't. Taysom Hill is not a good quarterback. He's average at best. I'd say below average. Trevor Siemian is bad. The Saints are going to be bad for a while, but this run that they've enjoyed with Sean Payton as coach has been phenomenal. Sean Payton ranks first in points and yards at 27.6 points per game and 391.2 yards per game among all team coach combos that have been with the team for 5 or more seasons. He has 4 11-win seasons. He's with Bill Belichick, Don Shula, and Tom Landry when speaking about wins. And I just think Sean Payton just had enough. He started 4 quarterbacks in 2021. Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, Simeon, and Ian Book. The Saints don't have any cap space. They have no playmakers on offense. And yeah, every year we see the Saints do something magical with their cap. But we're at a point now where it's going to come back to haunt them. And even though they just break even towards the end, they can't sign anybody of notice that's going to drastically help this team. When you look at the last couple of years for Sean Payton, it's just been too much for any guy to handle. You lose to the Vikings on a Minnesota Miracle play. You lose to the Rams on a pass interference call that should have been called. Because of that call, you essentially lose the game. Then the very next year, Kirk Cousins, of all quarterbacks, eliminates you from the playoffs. And yes, he's a good quarterback, but he has a track record of not performing in those moments. And then this year, the turmoil they've had to go through. They didn't even play in New Orleans for the entirety of the season. They had to play some games in Jacksonville or in Florida.
I'm sorry, can you say Kirk Cousins? You're talking about this year or the Minneapolis Miracle?
No, he lost to Kirk Cousins.
No, wait. This year you're saying? Or
no, last year.
Okay.
Or no, 2019.
I'm sorry, because the Minneapolis Miracle was Case Keenum. That's what I thought.
That was 2017.
Yep, I apologize, Ken. Go ahead.
And this past year, what he had to go through with all the COVID stuff, New Orleans not even having a practice facility because they had to be on the move all the time.
Yeah. Sean
Payton is old. He just got tired of it. And the Saints right now aren't heading in a very good direction. Like you mentioned, this is a rebuild. This is, for years on end, the Saints restructured contracts and put money on the back end to give Drew Brees and Sean Payton a bigger window to win games and to win a championship. And that all right now is coming back to haunt them. And I don't think Mickey Loomis this time around is going to pull off some wizardry to where they can get a standout player. It's going to have to happen through the draft.
Yeah. Agreed.
And this draft, there isn't a quarterback I think that Sean Payton has probably looked at and said, this guy can just save us outright. I don't think he sees that. And that's why I thought this was a great decision by Sean Payton. He's done enough for the game. He's done enough for the league. He's one of the greatest offensive minds to ever coach in NFL history. He revolutionized the NFL in terms of his passing schemes. And I think it's just due. I think this was a great time for him to retire, be with his family. Maybe he comes back to football. Maybe he doesn't. We'll see what happens later on down the line.
Legend.
So the Bears hired Ryan Poles as their new general manager. He served as the Chiefs' assistant director of player personnel. He spent 13 seasons with the Chiefs. He rose up the ranks for his work in the college scouting department. And this is a guy who was a finalist for 4 GM jobs. The ones that are in the media, the names are the Vikings and the Giants. He was a finalist for those 2 jobs. So the Chicago Bears got a guy that essentially every team that was in the market for a GM wanted. They had Jim Caldwell in the building today. They're going to have Dan Quinn tomorrow for a second interview. We'll see who the Bears end up with.
Please, God.
But Ryan Poles is somebody who is well regarded around the NFL. He's viewed as a very smart, bright, young guy. What do you think this does for the Bears moving forward, getting a GM like this?
I think you have to be excited if you're a Bears fan. I mean, after the whole Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy experience, it's going to be – it can't get much worse than that, right? It's funny. Poles was actually –
twice. Give him a little credit.
Sure. Poles was actually an undrafted free agent who was signed by the Bears, so he's got some history there.
Cool.
And I also think he was the front runner for the Vikings job, so they kind of stole their divisional their divisional rival there, got their GM over him. But yeah, I think you have to be excited if you're a Bears fan. I mean, you have a potential franchise quarterback in Justin Fields. You just traded up future draft picks to go and get him, I believe, at 10 overall in this previous draft. His biggest, his number one job right now is to find a head coach. You mentioned Jim Caldwell is one of the finalists, Dan Quinn, as well as Packers DC Matt Eberflus. That's how you pronounce it. One name I will want to look out for is Eric Bieniemy. Coming from the Chiefs side, I wonder if he's going to get some love too. But it's interesting that they're interviewing a couple of defensive coordinators because he is a younger guy. I expect him to go the offensive route here, especially if you have a young quarterback and you have a ton of work to do with this team. The offensive line let up 58 sacks, which is the most in the NFL. Allen Robinson went from one of the best receivers in the league to one of the worst receivers. You do have a nice piece there with Darnell Mooney and David Montgomery, so you have a couple things to build on. But this team just needs to be overhauled overall on the offense. And on the defense, you're getting a little bit older there. Khalil Mack is approaching 30 as well. So if you're Bears fans, you should be excited. But there's a lot of work to do, a lot of work to go. But getting a young, someone who's 36 who understands where the NFL is going, and you have a guy. I know some Bears fans are split, and just overall, the people in general are split on Justin Fields. I still have faith in him. I think he was put in a really bad situation. So I'm excited to see where he takes his team. His first step to really see how he kicks it off is going to be head coach. Because if he does go with a Dan Quinn, I don't know if I love that. I want someone at offensive mind who could help build up Justin Fields' confidence and turn him into a franchise quarterback.
I think it's a great move. Kansas City has a history of bringing in great talent, and now you bring in a mind who has taken a team, or that team has been a part of 4 straight AFC championships, going to what could be their how many Super Bowl now? Their third Super Bowl, in that amount of time. So now you bring in a guy who has that championship experience into an organization that desperately needs some type of revitalization, and it's perfect. You bring in a young guy, a guy who you can really have be in your franchise for a plethora of years if he's the right guy for you. And as you guys mentioned, that this guy was really regarded. The different teams wanted him to be a part of what they wanted to build, and the Bears were lucky enough to snatch him up. I think that the Bears have their ways to go still. I still think it's going to take a few years, but as long as you have Fields on this rookie contract, you're in a good situation. You don't have to worry about this year's draft because the Giants have your picks, so you're really focusing for these next few years to come. You want to hit in these late round picks, no doubt about it, but his job really starts, I believe, I guess you could say in this offseason, like Joel said, you want to bring in the coach, you want to have a solid draft, but I think that we'll really start to see him next year. That's when I'll start to at least evaluate him. Show me what you can do in the first round, really bring in a guy that could be a huge difference maker for them, because I didn't love the Justin Fields trade for me personally, at least at the time. You trade up, you trade your next year's pick for them. I get it, you needed a quarterback really badly, but you had just gotten Andy Dalton at that point, and then you made it a statement early in the season that Andy Dalton was your quarterback. There was just a whole big mess going on there. I felt as if you needed to do one or the other. Either you bring in because was Dalton even reliable this season by any means? Not necessarily. There were still games where Nick Foles had to step in. So I think that this guy has to address a couple things. I think they need to figure out Allen Robinson's contract situation. I don't believe he will be on the team next season, but he is a good part of this offense, or at least a part of this offense that if I'm the general manager, I want him to be a part of, especially with Fields being young. I want to surround my young quarterback with as much talent as possible. I think where the O-line definitely took a great stride this season. I think it was in part due to Justin Fields' ability to scramble outside the pocket. Me and you have had this conversation a few times where O-lines get ranked a little bit higher because their quarterbacks are able to scramble and evade pressure. Now, I still think they need to address some of the O-line needs. David Montgomery's a great back. I think they just need to figure out the coaching situation. They need to get a play caller that really can maximize Fields' abilities, and I think they'll be in a good spot. Defensively, they're not a horrible team. They drafted a great corner in Johnson, I believe his name is. I'm blanking really hard on his first name. Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson, thank you very much. That was a great pick by them. He has shown great strides in his game throughout the entire season. Eddie Jackson is a great safety for them, too. He's getting older, though. I don't know if they decide to bring him back. Maybe he decides to move on or they trade him to a contender team just to get him that championship ride. But for me, it's around surrounding Justin Fields with as much possible to be successful. You traded this capital already. Poole understands that. I had a guy in Patrick Mahomes just come into a situation where the weapons were already surrounding him, a plethora of weapons around him. I think it's about, like you said, getting a coach that really understands Fields' game, understands the modern football and where it's headed, and really working with Fields to elevate his game.
I thought this was an A-plus hire. It's not that I'm so well-versed in terms of GMs, but if across the league it's a consensus that this guy is very smart and he's an up-and-coming star, that's what he's been labeled as, I think this was an A-plus hire. I'm not mad at Dan Quinn getting looks or Matt Eberflus. It was actually reported that Ryan Poles had talked to Jim Caldwell, Dan Quinn, and Matt Eberflus to potentially team up with him in Chicago. So I think it's between those three candidates, whether who's going to get the job or not. I feel like offense right now, that's the way the league is trending. But Dan Quinn, you even mentioned it before. It was either you or Drew. As long as you assemble a good staff around a quarterback they can develop. Dan Quinn went to Atlanta with Kyle Shanahan. I mean, if
hit a home run.
I mean, that was a home run, but Dan Quinn, if he can get an OC who is a great OC, and he can get a quarterbacks coach that is a great developing quarterbacks, we look at it right now. Pep Hamilton with Davis Mills. There's a chance he's not back in Houston. Right now, it's looking like he will be back in Houston, but that's a guy that won't be a head coach, will most likely still will be an OC or a quarterbacks coach. So they can find offensive guys, and the Bears historically have been a defensive-oriented franchise. And when you look at the personnel on the roster, it's much more suited for a defensive-minded coach. But with that being said, I think they should go Jim Caldwell. Jim Caldwell, we know he's a great offensive mind. He in Indy in his first year had a great record with Peyton Manning. Very next year,
no doubt,
didn't have a quarterback. He got fired because of that. So did Bill Polian. Bill Polian, who's been leading the search on a GM, has ties with Jim Caldwell. So I think there's a connection right there. And he was in the building today when Ryan Poles was there. Part of me tells me the fact that that he left the building without being the coach maybe tells me he's not going to be it. But something tells me that they just want to give other candidates a shot and give them another interview. Ryan Poles ultimately took this job because he believes they already have a quarterback in place. For somebody who is an up-and-coming GM, who was a finalist for many jobs, at least if I'm a GM, if I take one job over the other, it's because I think this roster is much more well-constructed to have success, and they have their quarterback. The two teams he turned down, basically, the Giants don't have a quarterback. They're kind of a mess. The Vikings,
don't like that.
Kirk Cousins, he's a really good quarterback, but his contract's coming up. It's going to be some muddy waters there. There's not much cap space. With the Bears, you talked about trading a first-round pick. As long as Justin Fields is a star quarterback, it really does not matter.
That's fair.
If he's a franchise quarterback, it doesn't matter.
That's fair.
This guy, Ryan Poles, had a major part in scouting Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs. The Chiefs have hit on so many picks, whether it be early round or late round. Just this season, Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith. I mean, those guys are all freaking starters.
No doubt.
And Trey Smith was a late round guy. I think Ryan Poles was a home run hire. I think he's going to do a good job in Chicago. And depending on how Aaron Rodgers' situation goes, the Bears could be a playoff team next season.
I have an interesting report on Aaron Rodgers, Drew. Please don't scream.
No way.
Jordan Schultz is reporting that Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams would love to team up for the Broncos. That would be...
I told you.
He's not a reliable enough reporter for me to be like, that's a fact.
Because there was a Denver Post beat reporter.
No disrespect.
There was a Denver Post beat reporter who came out and brought up the idea of trading Jerry Jeudy for Devontae Adams and everything like that. But that still seems
I don't
more
think
like
so. I
a
just think it's
hypothetical.
not going to happen.
It's an interesting report.
Oh my God.
It would be nuts.
I would cry.
It'd be crazy.
I would cry.
It won't happen.
I would be here. Why don't we want it's? What's wrong with you? I've never rooted against the Jets a day in my life.
I'd be rooting for them.
I would die. I would be
ruined.
so happy. Oh my God. We're out to Denver immediately. First game, I'm there. 12 jersey. I'll wear the half 12, half 17. Somehow I'll make it happen. Oh my God. I'll cry.
That'd be electric.
I'll really cry.
That'd be electric.
Oh my God.
You guys
Don't
have
scream.
40.
How could you say
You guys
that to
have
me?
41 million in cap space, so it's possible. You'd have to make a couple things work, probably. But
Oh my
Aaron's
God.
getting 41 mil.
is he a free? Is he a
He's
free?
not a
agent?
free
Void?
agent.
He'd have to be traded.
Nah, he has
He
to be traded.
could restructure his contract though.
Yeah, and you guys can make restructure
Oh my
contracts.
God,
and
without a
cut
doubt,
guys and
without a
stuff.
doubt.
And yeah, and Tate. I mean, Tate's gonna get a huge bag.
Oh
but
my God. Oh, need.
that'd be super tough.
I've been manifesting 12 in a Broncos uniform. We need it to happen, man. We need it.
My gut feeling is that the head coach will be Jim Caldwell for the Bears. That's my gut feeling. I think it's going to get
Jim
announced in the
Caldwell?
next. Yeah, and I'm actually pretty good on my picks. I picked Byron Leftwich to be the Jaguars coach. I picked Jim Caldwell to be the Bears coach. I think Brian Flores will get the Giants job.
I think Dable gets it.
I think Dave was going to Miami.
I love
That
that.
would be a really dumb
would love
decision.
it.
though,
I
for
want
him.
him to go to the Giants, so I don't. Have
You
to
better
deal
be
with him.
wrong about him too, bro. You better be wrong about him too.
About who,
'cause
Tua?
Yeah, you better be.
There's nothing really I'm worried about.
Did you see
Really?
that tweet
Have
by
you
that?
looked at the AFC? Have you looked at the AFC quarterbacks?
Yeah.
Even if Tua reaches his ceiling, he's like probably 10th.
I don't know if you saw that tweet,
It's a
but
great class.
there was this Dolphins fan account who like that SpongeBob memes like uppercase, lowercase, like Tua can't keep up with Mahomes, and they showed this pass of Tua throwing into triple coverage, and I was like, what are we looking at here?
I think they also showed the stat lines when they played, and Tua had a pretty bonkers game.
Yeah, they smoked the Dolphins.
They did.
Though. It's
They
like
did.
31-10 or something.
I'll tell you what. He's got to be the guy.
I'm just saying, comparing Tua to Mahomes after
Oh
that
my
night,
God,
I was
yeah,
like,
it's
not
crazy.
the time.
It's
Like let's
crazy.
wait like 3 months when there's no NFL news.
Yeah,
to
no,
be
I'm
had.
with you.
Like,
I'm with you.
Both championship games are happening this week in the AFC and NFC championship. We'll talk about the AFC one first. Bengals versus Chiefs. How do you see this one going down?
For me personally, as much as it pains me to say it, Chiefs are going back to the Super Bowl. I just have to be honest. The Bengals, if Tannehill plays a decent game, win the ball game. Titans would have won this game. However, Bengals showed resiliency. They play really great defense. Joe Burrow made the plays when he needed to. Evan McPherson was absolutely amazing in this game, and they were able to get by. However, they were sacked 9 times. The pressure on Joe Burrow was crazy. I think this time around, where we saw the Chiefs and the Bills game, where the Chiefs D line was able to get a great amount of pressure on Allen throughout the entirety of the game, I think it's going to be a similar situation here. I think the Chiefs' pressure is going to be too much for Burrow to handle, and I don't think that the Chiefs' offense is going to be on any type of level that the Titans were playing on. Chiefs are too good of an offense, one of the best offenses we've ever seen for an extended period of time. I don't see it happening. I would love for the Bengals to beat the Chiefs. The last thing I need is the Chiefs to go back to the Super Bowl. They're just haunting me. This guy, Patrick Mahomes, he kills me year in, year out. This guy is just so unbelievably amazing. And the things that he's able to accomplish on the football field, it is really something to behold. That being said, I just think in the grand scheme of things, the Chiefs are going to be too much to handle. I think early in the season, we saw a great shootout between the two where they basically said, we're going to let Jamar do his thing. We're going to leave him on an island. We're going to see what happens. We're going to live and die by that decision. And they died by it. Chase absolutely killed them. That game was what put him over the top for Jettis' rookie record. He surpassed him that game. He had 3 touchdowns that game also. he was spectacular, but I think the game plan's different now. I think they're going to try and take Jamar by however they can do it. Jamar has been unstoppable.
They slowed down Stephon Diggs, so
I think it's possible. They can take him out. That being said, T. Higgins is not someone that you should lack on. I think this will be a shootout. I think that ultimately, though, the Chiefs are going to come out on top. Their offense has been clicking. Mahomes is as confident as ever. Not that he's ever lacked confidence a day in his football career. I'm just saying, basically coming off a win as great as the Bills, I don't see how he could be feeling less confident or any type of lack of confidence in his team as a whole. And even if his defense lacks up, he's going to be able to step into the plate and do it for them. I think my score prediction is going to be 30-24, Chiefs on top.
Wow.
If Joe Burrow were to lead the Bengals to the Super Bowl, he'd be the third quarterback in NFL history to lead his team to a national championship and a Super Bowl championship. The other two are Joe Montana
Cam Newton
and Joe Namath.
Really?
Oh, yes, I'm talking about like winning it all. Yeah, winning it all.
I'm just like, Cam Newton.
Namath did it, huh?
That's your goat?
Go.
That being said, the Bengals didn't play their best game against Tennessee. I think that the turnover battle won them that game.
Definitely.
Burrow was the third quarterback in NFL history to be sacked 9 times in a playoff game. The second to win, I believe, or he might have been the only one to win. The Bengals' right side is just abysmal. Isaiah Prince played an okay game, but he's up and down. Adenji's horrible. Quentin Spain and Trey Hopkins do a good job at holding up somewhat. And Jonah Williams, he didn't have his best game last week or this past weekend.
I understand what you mean.
I think the Chiefs win this one, and I think they win this one pretty easily.
I think so too, man.
The Bengals struggle against simulated pressure, creepers, and blitzes and stunts. Blitzes is when you rush more than 5 guys. Stunts is when you have a right end come towards the middle of the defensive front while the ball is snapped. Creepers are when linebackers show blitz but drop back into coverage. And simulated pressure is when you just bring extra guys. I believe I said that right. I might have got the simulated pressure wrong, actually. Simulated pressure is when there are 5 or more defenders threatening to rush the passer, but only 3 actually rush. So they drop back a lot of guys into coverage. The Bengals struggle against that. They allow pressure on over 35% of their passing snaps when that happens. But when they just show a standard defensive front, when they just show standard pressure, when the pre-snap pressure is clear, they're at 26%. Steve Spagnuolo is known for confusing teams with his defensive fronts, his different looks on his blitzes, and how he's going to give out pressure. I think the Bengals really struggle in this game offensively. It won't be like the first matchup where it's a shootout and Burrow has the ball last and does something. I think the Bengals will score just enough for this not to be a complete embarrassment, but the Chiefs, their offense, they just torch one of the best defenses in the league.
Oh, they are a good defense.
No, I know. The Bills are.
Oh, I wasn't sure.
Oh, yeah. The Bills are one of the best defenses in the NFL.
Number 1 scoring defense, it's not that important, but they are one of the better defenses.
Yeah, but passing-wise, I don't think they're one of the best.
Word.
Yeah, they're still a good one. They're not bad.
Sure.
But
who's the best secondary out of the teams remaining right now?
Rams. Maybe. It depends.
Because Williams has been playing very well lately.
It's probably the Rams talent-wise.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I would probably lean that way also.
But I mean, it's not a shocker it's not a shock that Patrick Mahomes makes any single defense look bad.
Yeah.
I mean, even though the Bills, I'm not that high on their pass defense, even though they were number 1 ranked, Mahomes has made top defenses like New England in 2019 look like complete shell of themselves. That's just how great of a player he is and the offense is, and that they just have great personnel for it. I think their offense clicks big time in this game. The Bengals are going to have their hands full with Chris Jones, Jaron Reed, Frank Clark, and Melvin Ingram. These past 2 playoff games, the Bengals have really, they haven't played their best football.
I'm with you, bro.
Agreed.
I'm with you.
I don't think they're going to play their best football against the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs win 31-17.
Wow.
I like it.
my exact score prediction too.
Tough.
Bro, look at my notes.
Just the way how you felt last week, not a shot at you, that you thought the Packers and Niners wasn't going to be close. I feel the same way here. This is really the first game of basically the whole playoffs, other than maybe like the Bucks and Eagles game, where I thought like I don't think one team has a chance here. It's not just that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense look so good, but this is the first time I feel like I've seen all of their pieces be able to contribute and come to one of the most impressive wins that I've seen the Chiefs have realistically. I mean, you can make the argument that this is, I don't think it's an argument. I think this is their best win of the season, and they're playing their best football right now. It took them a few weeks, beginning of the season. You know, their defense was terrible. Mahomes was having some mechanical issues. The offense looked broken at times. He refused to really take some check down plays, and we're still looking for the deep pass, although it really wasn't there. Teams have really changed to that cover two that we saw Todd Bowles do in the Super Bowl, and Mahomes had to adjust to that. It took some time. The one area I do worry about them, like I brought up with our guest from the Bengals, Mike, the Chiefs are in a bit of a spot to have a letdown game, right? You're coming off this huge victory against the Bills where you go into overtime. You have all of these emotions running. You're up 2 possessions, and then all of a sudden the Bills come back. You're down with 2 minutes to go, and then you're up, and then you're down with 13 seconds to go, and then you tie, and then you win it. So there's just all these emotions, and the Chiefs are going to have to be able to emotionally get back up to this game against a hungry young Bengals team who they have nothing to lose. Nobody thought they were going to be in this situation. We all thought they were going to be last in the division and what we expected to be a tough AFC North. In reality, the Bengals were the best team this year. So it is a bit dangerous when you have one team who has nothing to lose and the other team who's coming off an emotional game and everyone's expecting them to win. With that being said, I do still think the Chiefs are going to be able to get it done. When you look back at that Week 17 game, while it was close and the Bengals ended up winning, the Chiefs really dominated the first half, and the Bengals were able to adjust in the second half, only let up 3 points. But we talked about it right after the game. The Bengals had 9 plays at the Chiefs' 6, 2, and 1 yard lines, which really allowed them to kill the clock. Mahomes never got a chance to get the ball, because if Mahomes had another chance, there's a decent chance he goes down and at least kicks a field goal, wins the game. I don't want to take anything away from Burrow or the Bengals, because I've picked against them every game so far. Against the Raiders, I had them, and I read the Titans beating them as well.
Shame on
Joe
you.
Burrow, I know. Joe Burrow has been phenomenal. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch, just because he isn't the most talented or gifted, but just his poxy, his poise, the way, those intangible things. Plus, he has really good arm talent and weapons on the outside. I'm interested to see, because I don't think they could win a shootout again against KC. But I also haven't, you brought it up, Mixon hasn't been playing his best football either. So it's going to be hard for them to kind of find that balance between, are we just going to go, shot for shot, and we're going to try to outscore the Chiefs? If the Bills can't do it, it's hard for me to believe the Bengals would do it. So I did have the same score as you, 31-17. I think the Chiefs will be able to handle them.
NFC Championship, 49ers versus the Rams. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo is 9-0 in games where he has 0 touchdown passes.
That's hilarious.
3-0 in the playoffs. 4-1 in the playoffs despite only throwing for only 200 yards once. 2 touchdowns to 5 interceptions in his playoff career. Only quarterback to average fewer than 25 dropbacks a game at 18.7. In PFF history, and all the quarterbacks they've recorded since 2006, he has the lowest. The other ones that joined him are Mark Sanchez, which was at 27.2, and Ryan Tannehill at 25.
So it's a wide margin.
There's a wide margin. Kyle Shanahan does not trust Jimmy G. And although in the regular season he's an average quarterback, he's teetering on average, in the playoffs, he's one of the worst. Yeah. Statistically, he's one of the worst. Now, that doesn't matter, because the Rams and the Niners are 2 totally oppositely built teams. The Rams are a team that Sean McVay saw that needed to upgrade the quarterback position and made a move. They're a great team, and a great quarterback has elevated them a little bit more. The Niners are a great team in spite of Jimmy Garoppolo. It's 2 different ways of constructing a team. You got the Rams, big name, brand, super team-esque. You have the 49ers. We got holes, but our scheme's great. And it just kind of goes to show that there's different ways of building a roster. In the 49ers game-winning drive versus the Packers, Jimmy G completed 1 pass. He didn't have to do much. they relied mostly on the running game. And I think they'll rely mostly on the running game versus the Rams. The 49ers have a high-level defense despite their lack of corners. And their pass defense, to me, is great. Their scheme, they're so disciplined in where they have to be. And most of that is due to DeMeco Ryans just having these guys prepared and well coached. As much as Robert Saleh did a great job with the 49ers, I think DeMeco Ryans is better. He's a better coach, and he's going to get a head coaching opportunity pretty soon. He's that good. The Cowboys and Packers offense both ranked top 6 in estimated points added per play. And 49ers held the Cowboys to negative 0.18 and the Packers to negative 0.13, which is insanely bad for their standards. They really locked up. The 49ers barely play man-to-man defense. They have a cover 1 rate since week 12 at 13.9%. They barely play man-to-man, so they don't trust Mosley and Ambry Thomas and Josh Norman or K'Wan Williams to go and cover guys. No, they're a zone-reliant team. They are a cover 3 scheme. And the guy who makes it all go is Fred Warner, the man in the middle. Okay. His ability to recognize concepts and carry routes, he's essentially guarding 2 players on every single pass play, and he's damn good at it.
It's like the user in Madden.
And
literally.
Dre Greenlaw, who's another fast, twitchy linebacker, does a great job as well. But Fred Warner is as valuable as a cornerback to this scheme because he has such a big responsibility. These corners aren't great man-to-man corners, but in this cover 3 scheme, they don't have to be. And if you look at quarterbacks that they faced that have passed versus this zone, Stafford in week 18 had a 54.8 PFF grade, took 2 sacks. Dak Prescott had a 63.5 grade, 3 sacks taken. And Aaron Rodgers had a 61.3 PFF grade, took 1 sack. So for the past 3 weeks, all these quarterbacks who, we'd all call high-level elite quarterbacks, have gotten pretty much neutralized by this scheme. And I don't think it's going to be any different from Matthew Stafford. The Niners have beat them twice this season. Kyle Shanahan has Sean McVay's number
6
historically. And Matthew Stafford's one of the best quarterbacks against the blitz. Well, the Niners don't have to blitz versus the Rams. They just drop back, and they let their pressure go after it. That guy, Noteboom, is he playing? Is he starting? If he is, it won't really matter. If Whitworth's playing, it won't matter. Because the guy the Niners got is Nick Bosa, who's a defensive player of the year candidate. That's how great he's been. Eric Armstead, one of the better defensive linemen in the NFL. Arden Key, who they got, has been really great. Charles Omenihu, who they got from Houston, has been really great. And they have the 5th highest pass rush win rate while playing zone at 58.5%. That means they get after the quarterback more than you count one play, the next play they're after the quarterback. So the Niners are going to be able to drop back guys in coverage. They don't have to blitz. That's more confusing looks for Stafford. It's going to throw him off a bit. The Niners will come out on top.
Ooh,
I'm surprised. I'm so
shocked.
surprised. Are you actually?
In spite of Jimmy G. Jimmy did, like I said versus Packers.
You're right about that.
He doesn't have to have a great game.
That you were right about that.
And I don't really trust the Rams to stop my guy Debo. I don't trust the Rams to stop my guy Kittle. Oh, they got another guy over there in Ayuk who's pretty damn good too. Oh, and Jawan Jennings, who, man, occasionally he makes a big-time play. The Niners will win. This is going to be a rematch of the 2019 Super Bowl. And, hey, the Rams, I know they're keeping tickets away from the Niners. We'll see if that's a great plan at the end of the day.
Interesting take, my friend. I will say what I agree with first. The pressure that they're going to get on the Rams is going to be what startles me the most. Last time they met up in SoFi Stadium, they had 5 sacks. The way that they've been getting after the quarterback these last couple of games has been amazing. Definitely the best pass rush in the league, statistically at least. But let's not forget Aaron Donald, Von Miller, and Von Miller, who has elevated his play come playoff time. The 2nd highest graded defender in the NFL playoffs right now. Second to Fred Warner, who has been an absolute menace on the field. I can't discredit anything he's done. Against the Packers, he was amazing. Von Miller has shown why you trade for a veteran towards the back end of their career because they still have something left to prove. And Von Miller, who is a first ballot Hall of Famer, is still playing at an elite high level. And Leonard Floyd, to match with that too, is a great pass rusher also. He's been getting after the quarterback great. So you have 3 of the best pass rushers in Aaron Donald, Von Miller, and Leonard Floyd against an O-line who has been pretty great, but Trent Williams is banged up. Is Trent Williams going to suit up? I'm pretty sure he'll probably give it a go, but this isn't the Trent Williams at 100% that the Packers had to face. In terms of getting to the quarterback for sure, I'm definitely concerned. But the pressure we're going to get on Weir, as in Ramley, is going to be too much for him. When they played against the Rams Week 18, Jimmy G, he threw for a lot of yards, but it was shaky. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Got put to the ground 3 times also. So where they definitely put Matthew Stafford to the ground, Rams answered the call right back. Deebo Samuel actually had a passing touchdown in that game. So there's going to be a lot of trickery going on because that's what the Rams do. They're a very unique offense where they're partly to a degree the founders of getting the running back involved, the wide receiver involved in the run game. And we're starting to see it. Robert Woods is definitely a founder also of that. I'm not going to discredit that. But in terms of like in the backfield, you're
talking about the Niners.
The Niners,
okay,
yes.
Yeah.
No, that we're starting to see it more often that Jamar Chase is actually starting to experiment with this a little bit more. And I give credit to my friend Jared 100%. We're going to start to see that a lot more in the NFL because these wide receivers are so talented in open space. Why not give them the ball and let them happen? They're your most explosive players. Let them get the ball. Let them make things happen. On my Rams side of the ball, Matthew Stafford's playing great ball lately. And he understands that the Niners have their number this year. No doubt. Sean McVay understands that that Shanahan has his number all time. 6-0 Shanahan is against McVay. I'm sure McVay is staying up late at night thinking, man, I'm going to get this guy. But when it matters the most, no doubt about it, the Rams win this game. There's no way you could tell me that they're going to lose for the 3rd time in a row to a division rival. I was pretty consistent with it with the Colts and Tennessee. Tennessee was not the team that I was expecting to be in the playoffs. Colts obviously didn't make it, so that's a wash. But this is a whole different ballgame. We're talking about a Rams team who's playing hot ball, who just went toe-to-toe with the Buccaneers, a team that's just coming off a Super Bowl. Tom Brady, greatest quarterback ever. And they dominated for a good portion of that game until they started to get a little bit tense and things started to get out of whack. But then Matthew Stafford leveled them down. And I'm expecting the exact same thing to happen this weekend. Matthew Stafford's going to play amazing ball. I have no doubts about it. Cooper Kupp's going to be a huge factor in this win. And Odell Beckham is going to have a huge part in this win. He was not a factor that much against the Niners Week 18. Only had a total of 18 yards, 2 receptions. I do not expect that to be the same in this game. Odell has been huge for them these last 2 games against the Cardinals, against the Buccaneers. I'm expecting a similar result. Odell is going to let his impact be made in this game. And the run game, it worries me because the Niners have been very, very great against the run. Shaky to start the game against the Packers. So it's possible that the Rams could get it going. But the last time they matched up, Sonny Michel, 21 attempts, less than 50 yards. He was terrible. But now we have Cam Akers. Who knows how he's going mentally? I still think that Cam Akers is a good ball player. I think he's a resilient ball player. He's going to get in there. He's going to be confident in himself. He's going to make plays, whether it's on the ground or catching the ball out of the backfield. I expect the Rams to have a sound game plan and accomplish that this weekend. It's going to be a dogfight. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout. No way. I cannot overlook this Niners team anymore. Niners are a solid team defensively and offensively. Shanahan knows what he's doing with these play calls. Debo's a menace. Kittle's a menace. It's going to be a tough game, no doubt. Elijah Mitchell, he's been playing good ball, but he wasn't amazing against the Packers. They really held that in check. I think the Rams rush defense can keep it in check. I'm predicting the Rams to win 24 to the Niners 17.
I think it'll be 17-14.
I thought you were going to have the same score as me.
What do you have?
I have, well, I'm not going to spoil it. Also, real quick before I go on, I was watching your top 5 cores, and Riv went 1, then 2, then 3, and no one said anything.
Oh, that's a good point.
And you guys let it rock.
What are you talking about?
So when we
you did the top
NBA
5 cores, Riv start at number 1. Said Memphis or whoever it was.
That's a fact. That's true.
And no one said anything.
Yo, low key, I didn't even
Just
peep.
saying we should go 5-1.
Yeah, definitely we should have. Yo, that's
just why,
hilarious.
I don't know what just sparked my memory there, but I was watching that today. I was like, no way he went 1 and no one said anything
Yo,
after I
that's
got
hilarious.
violated
You
for
did
starting
get
at
violated.
1.
You did.
Crazy. Let's get back to football, though. So, Rams vs. 49ers. 49ers won the last 6 games against the Rams. This year, 2-0, with the Matt Stafford era, if you want to call it that. But Shanahan has really had McVay's number, even though McVay started off, I want to say, 5-0 against Shanahan. And these two coaches both told each other, not each other, but they were, I forgot who was talking to who, but it was some report that came out, and they said, we can't surprise each other. We know everything each other's going to run. It's going to be a matter of who could just make that one stop, make that one big play to really change the game. We were talking about it earlier. This Rams versus Bucks game last week could have been a whole lot different if just the weirdest stuff didn't happen to the Rams, right? So they were up huge in the first half. And then coming out of the second half, they went punt, touchdown, Cooper Kupp fumble, punt, center Stafford miscommunication fumble, missed field goal from Matt Gay, who's been spectacular, punt, Akers fumble. So you look at the second half, and anything that could have gone wrong outside of that one touchdown drive went wrong. I mean, Cam Akers fumbled once on over 200 carries last year. Kupp had 0 fumbles going into the season. Matt Gay kicked made 94% of his field goals. So if it wasn't for these kind of strange and unique scenarios, we're looking at that game as the Rams just dominated the defending Super Bowl champs, a team that, definitely better than the Cardinals, because we came after that Cardinals game and said, no, they just weren't ready. This isn't the game that's really going to prove to us that Stafford has the ability to go on and win a Super Bowl. But since those weird scenarios did happen, it did prove to us that Matt Stafford is capable of making those plays happen. So from the Rams side of things, I think Drew really hit it on the head. I think Cooper Kupp's going to be a big part, as well as Odell Beckham. And I think Cam Akers has a bounce-back game. He's going to have 100 yards. He's going to have a touchdown. He's going to get the faith back into the Ramley that he's still the guy there. From the 49ers side of things, I agree with you. They haven't been playing that great of football, which is weird to say because there's not many teams that I can remember going into a championship game saying they're not playing their best football. But I think right now they really haven't played that great football over the last 2 weeks. Against the Packers, they had 212 total yards. They were 4 of 11 on third down. Jimmy G got sacked 4 times. They lost the time possession battle. They didn't score a single offensive possession. Jimmy G completed 11 passes for 130 yards and interception. Without a blocked punt, we're looking at 6 points for them. This game against the Packers, offensively at least, was a disaster. Having 6 points in the divisional round of the playoffs, if you're able to make it this far, it's impressive you're able to come away with that win. They did play a little bit better against Dallas. I know you guys were having a debate who dominated who.
They dominated Dallas.
They dominated, whatever you want to say. Even still, Jimmy G didn't have the best game. Elijah Mitchell didn't have the best game. Debo did play well. I just don't see how the 49ers, after coming off back-to-back, not playing their best football, when I look at the Rams and I see they dominated the Cardinals, smoked them, division rival, and then they really did dominate the Bucks. If it wasn't for those weird things, they dominated the Bucks. I don't really care. Tom Brady did come back, but the Rams allowed that to happen, and I don't see Cam Akers fumbling twice again, Cooper Kupp having his second fumble in 2 weeks, and Matt Gay missing a 48-yard field goal, which for him, it really is a chip shot. I think the Rams do remember their Week 18 meltdown a little bit. I think that's going to be in the back of their head like, yo, we had a chance to kick them out. We had the chance to not have to face these guys, but we're the reasons why we're facing them right now.
And they're going to be the reason that we're out the playoffs.
And they're going to know we got the better quarterback. We got the better overall team. We're going to get the job finished this time. The Rams are going to come out, win 24-21. Ramley, man. Let's do it.
You really think that the Rams are better overall team, or they just have a better quarterback?
I think overall they're a better team.
It's close.
It's
Saying
close
they're a better
for
team is
sure.
kind of rude.
Offensively, who's better offensively? Offensive weapons.
Cooper Kupp and Debo, you gotta take Cooper.
I think
It's
they cancel
closer than you
out.
think,
I think
though.
they
It
cancel
is
out.
close. I cancel out.
Yeah, they're both. I mean, you can make the argument they're number 1 and 2.
Debo, Ayuk, Odell, Kupp, but then Kittle. Kittle is what separates the Niners, in my opinion.
But then they have Jimmy G at quarterback.
Yep.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
It's pretty-
It's
they have
just the
even teams.
quarterback.
Yeah, they
like
have
if
even
they had,
It's just the most important position.
if
on
they
the
had
field.
like a Dak Prescott, who's the better roster? Who's the better team?
Niners have Dak Prescott?
Now, if Niners have
Oh
Dak
my
Prescott.
God, bro. We
Oh, yeah.
looking
I
at
thought,
dynasty.
I thought you were saying the Rams. I was like, that kind
No,
of
I think the Niners are a slightly better overall team. It's just the quarterback.
Come on, King.
Yeah.
You know that's not true in your heart of hearts.
I think
No,
their rosters,
they're a really great team.
rosters are both. They stack up well against each other. I was
Well,
I was just in my mind that
We'll see what happens.
It's all right, bro. We're gonna have you
Chiefs
join the
versus
family.
yo. Don't worry. Next week is gonna be the week,
It
and
is,
next
yeah.
week when the Chiefs make it, I'm picking the Chiefs. Early prediction. Yeah, I'm picking the Chiefs.
I'm shocked, bro. I'm
I'm
glad.
picking the
Thank
Chiefs.
God.
Anything
I'm
until
so
we see.
happy. I'm thrilled. We don't need this guy.
I'm gonna be
We don't need
destroyed
him.
if that's a Super Bowl.
Chiefs Rams. You're gonna root for the Chiefs?
Dude, I don't know.
Come on, bro.
The Chiefs are in my Super Bowl bracket.
Did you have them winning?
I had them losing.
Well,
I
there you
had
go.
them winning in my bracket.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
Does that matter to me?
Need Mahomes be the GOAT.
That's going to do it for episode 149 of the Pick Aside Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram and on TikTok at Pick Aside Podcast, on Twitter at Pick Aside Pod. A very long episode. Thank you guys for
Say the
sticking
least.
with us. We will see you next time.